Good morning, honorable members. We want to take this opportunity and welcome all of you to the proceedings of today. This is our last day with Honorable Minister Mchunu. Good morning, Advocate Arense, SC.
Good morning.
And your team, Advocate Lerato Zikalala and Advocate Maria Mkhwanazi. Good morning, Honorable Minister Senzo Mchunu, the members of Parliament, our support staff led by Dr. Thuli Thwalo. We want to thank you to take this opportunity and thank you so much for the sterling work that you have done, that we are at this point of the proceedings since we started. Your work has not gone unnoticed. We want to thank the members of the media for being with us from the first day, and we believe you will still have the stamina to go forward. Honorable members, yesterday when we, members of Parliament, started with questions, it was the same time yesterday at 11 o'clock. From this table, we have been allocating 1 hour 45 minutes. That was for a full member and an alternate. We took one full member from the ANC, Honorable Ngola, and Honorable Sokanyile from 11 o'clock, from 11:15 yesterday until 1. And then we went ahead and took the MKP from 2 o'clock until 4:45, and came back and took the DA until 5:30. 25 minutes to 5 to 7:20 we took the members of the EFF. And then the last batch was Honorable Mwango and Honorable Vessels. Their apologies have been recorded. They will not be here with us today. The first 1 hour 45 minutes will be allocated to the PA and Action SA. Welcome, Chief Whip. Welcome, Samgon. I see the way you look at me. You wanted to settle on your chair. I'm not calling you. I'm calling the PA and Action SA. Honorable Sols, good morning. Honorable James, good morning. Your time starts now is until 1:45. So you will take us to break. You can start now. Can I check who is starting? Yourself, Honorable James. Or she says Honorable Sols. Thank you very much. Your time starts now.
Honourable Minister, good morning. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Minister, the main witness testified that he is not alleging that your decision to disband is unlawful. He further testified that he does not allege that you are corrupt, but he does express concern about the reason why you want to disband, especially the rush to do so, given your use of the word immediately. He thus alleges that it is his view that your reason for disbandment is to protect drug cartels, or the Big Five, as we've come to know. In my view, looking at the evidence put forward thus far, it does not show beyond reasonable doubt that you are seeking to do so. However, how you responded to questions on your relationship with certain people that are put forward as questionable character was a bit concerning. So I'm going to begin just to get some clarity from you, Minister, with clarity-seeking questions on certain key matters where I saw contradictions. I hope you will clear them up, and we shall go in depth thereafter about your reasoning on disbandment. How would you describe the relationship between Nelson Mandela and Oliver Tambo?
Thank you, Chair. History shows that, one, they had a very lasting, close relationship characterized by trust, mutual trust. But it was not a one-day crafted kind of relationship, nor was it a desktop one. They forged their relationship in the fight against injustice in South Africa, which was the dominating feature of the apartheid system and racism and so on. So in the main, it was trust, it was closeness, it was inner resolve on both of them with a clear purpose in terms of what they were fighting for.
Minister, in his first speech upon his release from prison, February 11, 1990, he called Oliver Tambo comrade to describe that relationship as you so brilliantly articulate. Would you agree that the term comrade used in the ANC context is a formal term?
I didn't hear that.
Would you agree the term comrade as used, as you've just described, in the ANC context or historic context is a formal term?
I don't get your question.
Yeah, Honorable Sols, the last part, even me sitting here, I couldn't hear you. You say the term comrade used in ANC context, that's what?
The minister defined what comrade or what the relationship between former President Nelson Mandela and Oliver Tambo was. And he mentioned it as closeness, a relationship of trust. And that was in the ANC historic context. And the minister testified that similarly, he has a relationship with Brian Mkhwanazi in that context in the party, and then refers to him as comrade, but then says that the term is not a formal one. So now I'm trying to engage on, would the minister agree that in the context that he has just described the term, that it is actually a formal term?
What he's saying is whether you agree that within the context of the party to which you belong, the term comrade can be a formal way of addressing each other.
Yes, it does get used as a formal kind of an address to each other, but depending on the context, but yes.
So it is a formal term. You define your relationship with Mr. Brian Mkhwanazi using that formal term.
As I say, it can be used formally, but also just loosely to refer to someone who is within the ANC, within the party. The contexts differ, but generally that is the context.
Minister, you testified that factually it is me who wrote the letter, close quote. Is this true?
I testified that.
You testified that, open quote, factually it is me who wrote the letter of the 31st December. Is this true?
Yes, the letter of directives.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I wrote that letter.
Then what is the reason for you using language that makes it appear like it's not you who wrote the letter yourself? If you go to EB 40, page 50, when you look at the letter, the last, I think it's the second last paragraph, you say there, further, that a preliminary report in this regard be submitted to the minister by the 20th of January 2025. Why do you speak in a letter that you have written? Why do you speak in the third person as though it's not you having written?
Well, I do sometimes write like that. Generally and personally, I'm not a self-conceited person. I'm not necessarily a person who wants, while writing a letter, you say the letter must be written, the report, preliminary report must be written to me, like that. I just wanted to have that small distance that the letter, the preliminary report must be written to the, I could have said ministry, but said minister and so on. There's no other reason other than just being formal to the minister instead of me, yes.
But the sentence just above that, you use the term my and I.
Yes, I do so.
In your testimony, Minister, what is the reason for withdrawing the statement, open quote, further existence of this team is no longer required, nor is it adding value, any value, to policing in South Africa?
The first part deals with what I've been dealing with in the last 3 days, or it refers to that, no longer required, emanating from right from 2019, when they intended then to replace the National Political Killings Task Team with a structure that was based on the study that had been done. And they sought long-term, they sought sustainability, just to make sure that they continue in a sustainable way to fight what was emerging. But taking it broader than just political killings, there were other crimes that were emerging at that time, and they thought that in order to contain everything, let them create a new structure. So even then, they felt that once that structure gets implemented, a structure like the National Political Killings Task Team, only based in KZN, wouldn't be required. But then there were delays and extensions up to 2024, when they finally submitted to National Commissioner a report that was supposed to be signed and then implemented, and which didn't happen. So no longer required comes from that kind of observation. Now, adding, in the sense that a lot of crimes and a lot of people in the country are complaining about matters, they're complaining about drugs, they're complaining about, and myself, I'm also complaining about that because I've seen, in some instances, people just getting murdered, and to find that in the background there are drugs and related matters, including illegal firearms. And therefore, if you have a structure of 68 people based in KwaZulu-Natal, whereas these crimes are all over, especially in the 4 provinces, you wouldn't feel that you are adding value. If you look at 415 million from 18 to now, of course, you'd say they were doing well and so on in the tasks that they were facing, but no longer equally so because of the changes that have taken place.
But when you were asked about the wording used, you then agreed that they do add value. You are withdrawing the fact that you said that they do not add any value.
No, I'm talking about as time went on, particularly after 2023.
I fully understand it, Mr. But I'm trying to get to understand, even after that explanation, why then did you accept that perhaps you should have phrased it differently? Why did you accept that in testimony?
Why didn't I accept?
When the question was posed to you, why did you use the words that they did not add any value? And then you said, no, they did add value. So maybe you should have used other words. So I'm trying to understand, why did the minister withdraw?
Well, that you are putting a weight to those words. And you recall when I spoke to the evidence leader, I did say to the evidence leader, when he said, was it not possible to use any other term or other terms, I said, yes, for the same purpose, I could have used softer words and so on. So similarly to the question that you are now posing, construction of a sentence can always take different forms, but those are the words that I used at that time. So, and you will realize that when the CFO...
Sorry, Minister, with respect. So for today, as per your testimony the last time, do you stand by how you phrased it on the 31st, or are you saying that you're pulling that back like you said the last time and you could have used different words? Or are you maintaining that they have not added any value? to the South African police?
I don't think the actual wording says they have not added. It says, no, are they adding? In other words, if you read the whole sentence, no longer required, it could have said no longer adding value.
So you're saying that
Yes, that's
from the 31st going forward, they're no longer adding, but prior, they have added value.
Yes.
Okay, they have
Yes.
added value.
Pardon?
You are saying they have added value.
Yes, they have, but
They no longer do from the 31st.
yes, if you look at, for instance, the figures that were presented in Parliament on the 5th, which I've been referring to, where in March we're dealing with one fresh case. We dealt with 7 fresh cases in 2024. You wouldn't really say, maybe in a long-winded sentence, you could say, based on no longer adding value, based on one monetary investment, which would have declined as the cases decline, and also based on the fact that you pull people from other stations and you don't replace them over time, which means that where they come from, they leave gaps. So they, in my view, you are no longer optimizing and using those resources equal to the value.
So I read the evidence that you...
Honorable, let me take Honorable.
Thanks, Chair. Morning, Minister. Morning, colleagues. Honorable Sols is asking you about something that you wrote here, and you say you don't think it's written like that. You're saying my observation in this regard, as indicated above, is that further existence of this team is no longer required. Nor is it adding any value to policing in South Africa. And then the question is, do you still stand by that?
The answer is yes. But when he pursued me, I then tried to elaborate. Thank you.
No, Minister, I fully understand that
Are you
you...
okay, Honorable Sols? So much.
Thank you, Chair. No, Minister, I fully understand that you maintain they are no longer adding. But what you are saying is that they have added before.
Definitely.
Now, I want us to now take a few minutes and talk about and interrogate that statement. Have they added before to the value of the South African Police Service as a whole? We're going to walk through that. So when we consider the PKTT, the extension requests, the budget increases, even though the staff complement decreases. Example, the initial request covering 6 months, September 2019 to March 2020, they asked for 57.1 million for a team comprising of 152 members. By 2021-2022, they asked for 97 million, but the staff complement decreased from 152 that they asked 54 million for. It decreased to 110 members, and now they're asking 97.5 million for. Minister, is that them having added value to SAPS in South Africa as a whole?
What's the exact question?
When you consider your statement, they're no longer adding, but they have added. We are now interrogating, have they added?
Yes.
And now I'm asking, when we consider throughout the extension requests, and they asked for a budget first in 2019 for only 6 months of 57 million for 152 members. And then in 2021-2022, they increased that to 97 million, but the staff complement decreased to 110 members. Would you say that they added value to SAPS in South Africa as a whole?
Well, part of what that sub-sentence or that phrase in the last sentence is based on is along those lines, as I've indicated, calculations in terms of monetary value. But what I didn't add, because I wasn't writing details, you add the personnel, you add running costs of cars, you add, so that is just an indication what you are talking about. When you add all other things, the expense is quite high for the cases that were decreasing, as you are referring to.
So are you saying they have added value despite the way they approach the request for money, even though the staff complement decreases? It's okay, Minister, if you say yes or no, it will work. Are you saying that it did add value, even though they did that? Yes, no?
I'm saying so at the beginning because at that time you had a problem of killings as the problem was identified, and it added value in the sense that there was a decrease in the cases. But you can always have a concern about what money was getting into that and so on, as I'm indicating. But generally, that's my view, that at the beginning they added value and they were a factor in the decrease, although not the only factor.
Okay, I'm still just looking at your evidence, and I'm putting it to you what you've given to us. Talking about cases, when you observe that in 2019, the task team reported 60 cases remaining under investigation, 60. By March 2021, the progress report, after giving 100 million, close to 100 million, and they were in existence for 18 months of operation, the number of cases then reported 18 months later, 100 million rand later, was 62 under investigation. No shift. Minister.
62 what? What did you say was the number of cases?
At first, they recorded 60 cases
Yes.
under investigation.
I have that
After giving just under 100 million to them and them being existence in 18 months. In 18 months, the cases still under investigation was reported as 62. No shift. Minister, did they add value to SAPS in South Africa as a whole?
Well, despite those figures, which I see and acknowledge that you are quite critical. When you look at the expenditure, you look at the figures of cases with minor shifts upwards. You could have a perspective like that look, perhaps the value was quite less if you look at from that perspective. But generally, the view is that I share, is that they added value at the peak, despite those figures, because I wasn't I'm not necessarily basing it on case by case and rand for rand, but generally the view which I share was that they did add value at the beginning.
I thought you testified that you applied your mind, and what brings you to a decision must make you consider the past events and makes you decide what will happen going forward. I assumed that your reasoning, as I read your evidence, was that when you saw all these things, it is these facts that made you think there hasn't real value been added for SAPS South Africa as a country, not just provincially, and therefore this steps has to be taken. So I'm going to take you further, Minister, as I read your evidence. When you consider by March 2021, the PKTT have secured 246 arrests across 117 cases. 246 arrests. However, of these, only 42 accused were successfully convicted. 64 charges were reported as withdrawn. So the number of charges withdrawn is more than the number of conviction. Minister, did they add value to SAPS South Africa as a whole when you consider that fact and others?
Now, you are asking about values still. Are you what's the question?
Minister, your submission to me was that your statement was that they're not adding value going forward, but they added value when you look back. Now we're looking back and we are interrogating based on facts before us. Did they truly add value to the South African Police Service, South Africa as a whole?
Well, I have said generally, without or despite those calculations, and considering the fact that there was a downward trend, even though you could still poke some holes in terms of quality thereof, and say generally they did add value, and that was acknowledged across. But it's not without those points and factors that you are counting. Hence, where we are now, taking all those points into consideration, you do have concerns in terms of value. Could I request, so that I'm of help to you in terms of responding, to get where you are reading from, so that as you read, I look at what you are reading?
Now, I've studied the entire evidence that you've brought to us, and then I drew cross-reference and drew comparisons between.
Okay.
Then I formulated these questions based on those facts.
Okay.
So I'm trying to understand, looking back. So when you consider the PKTT's 2024-2025 request, the latest one, for 94.8 million for 120 SAPS members, that equates to an annual allocation of approximately 790,000 per member. That is 65,000 rand per member per month. And this allocation only pertains to a unit in KZN. I ask you, Minister, did this add any value to SAPS South Africa as a whole?
Well, I'll go back to my answer that generally, when I looked at all the factors, my honest view was that the value had been decreasing over time. If you are considering South Africa, as you point out, that was my concern. And finally, settling for a directive, because the cases, on one hand, decreasing the budget was not necessarily, and the concerns of the CFO. So I share that. It culminated at that directive.
Okay, so we've moved from no to you share the concern. All right. Is it true that the DPCI's reported overall staff shortfall amounts to 2,711 personnel?
DPCI?
Yes, sir.
Well, without the advantage of figures in front of me, but I do know that generally they have been raising concerns via General Libya, who was head of DPCI. They have been reporting shortfalls and problems on personnel, on equipment, and on various other components that would enhance their work. They've been complaining over time. So, and not only them, but let me hold it at that, it is true.
So I put it to you, Minister, it's 2,711 staff members that DPCI, Hawks, is saying they need. Now, when you consider that, and you spend just under 100 million on a temporary unit, when there is a need to fund such a critical division, does it add value to South African SAPS as a whole?
There is a basis of an argument for a decreasing value. You may, as I answered you earlier, that yes, at the time, but as time went on, it clearly unsettles you and makes you a bit uncomfortable, that how you are spending resources may be skewed. And those figures that you are pointing out serves that particular purpose in terms of you looking at your distribution of resources within SAPS. And they increase your concern.
So the concern is increasing now.
Yes, they increase the concern and the need for a more rational kind of use of resources.
All right, let's continue. Minister, when you consider the budget allocation for laundry services alone for 12 months in 2022, for 110 members, it amounted to 4.4 million, just laundry. This translates to a calculated monthly amount per person, just for laundry, per person, 3,367 rand 73 cents. This figure is equivalent to the basic living cost of a normal South African. And that money is used on one member just for laundry. Has this added value to the South African Police Service in South Africa as a whole?
Yes, you would increasingly find yourself in some corner when, as you calculate the costs of the national political killings task team over time and lending to, at a time when I wrote the directive, it was because of that. You continue to sit uncomfortably as you consider other factors. And as I say, the meeting starts, the issue starts in November, where I say I have these concerns about matters and all of that, but you don't have additional resources from Treasury. So you have to be on your own. And when you put it the way you're putting, you are more and more on the side of lesser and lesser value.
Minister, when you consider that in 2021, 2022, the figures reveals that 43.6 or rather 43.1 million was requested for overtime alone, just overtime. When you calculate that per member, each member gets approximately 392,400 per annum. And that is over and above their normal salaries. Minister, is this adding and has it added to the value of the South African Police Service in South Africa as a whole?
Just to check, honorable source are not the questions for the...
Chair, you can guide me, but I am taking all this information from the evidence that has been submitted to us. So looking at that and the statement that is made, I'm trying to weigh whether there has been value so that we can assess whether there is legitimate reason for disbandment. So that's where I'm going. So unless I'm not supposed to interrogate the evidence.
You are granted. I just wanted to check. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, when we consider the cost of disbanding immediately, as you put it in your letter, when we consider that, I had to apply my mind to say, when you consider what would the cost implication be for disbanding immediately and winding down. So when you consider that, it totals 49.5 million, and that's for that 12-month transition. This total transitional cost is equivalent to approximately 50% of the previous year's full operational budget. This is just for the winding down. Now I'm comparing if it had to be immediate and if it has to be winding down. The structure of the remaining staff, when I look at it during the winding down, it shows that there's a priority mismatch. The priorities is not adding up. As of May 2025, the remaining 56 members, they comprise of only 20 detectives, 20, but they were allocated 27 combat members, plus 5 commanders and 2 guards, primarily for security and protection services. Now, I thought the final stage was to consolidate the cases that is still pending. If that's the case, you would then have more detectives, because you need to close these cases now. But instead, there is just 20 detectives. So the total number of protective personnel, the security people, they are 29 members. And the detectives responsible for finalizing cases that's still on the court roll are only 20. This suggests that the main focus is not about investigating cases or closing it down. Minister, is this adding value to the South African Police Service in South Africa as a whole?
I would maintain the response that you would more and more see, as you do calculations and so on, that it actually was becoming, or it has become quite a costly exercise, which is skewed if you look at your needs countrywide. It gets more and more skewed. It's impossible to avoid that conclusion.
Minister, you are from KZN?
Yes.
In your region,
yes,
over the past few years, you've mentioned, I think indirectly in your testimony once, that the deaths, you were concerned about the deaths in your area, the increasing deaths in your area. Has the murder rate increased in your area where you live in KZN?
Not at all. What various statistics per quarter show is that murders in KZN are very high, but political killings have decreased as a result of various factors. But the murders generally in the province have not shown any decline, and that is exactly what is getting me more and more worried. To say, what are we doing? Are we doing justice for every citizen, Are we ethical in terms of our approach? Are we realistic? Are we realistic in terms of hitting the call that we should overcome the scourge of murders in the country? Because it's not murders of politicians and this Nduna Namakosi. That is a concern, but not them alone. Together with that of citizens general. Murders in KZN are very high, concerning, very, very, very concerning.
Despite this huge investment, who arrested the hitman on AKA?
Can you come
The
back to
hitman who murdered AKA, who arrested them? Was it the political killings task team, or was it the national task?
Well, I'm not sure about who, in terms of name and surname and so on, who actually did the arrest, but police would be able to give the exact reports on that matter. I didn't ask whether it is NIU, whether it is the National Political Killings Task Team, or what.
We have it on good record that it was not the PKTT. And yet this high-profile murder happened 5-kilometer radius from where the task team is based. And for months, it has gone unresolved. Minister, we've now gone through all the things that you've put before us that would serve as basis for writing a directive to say that these are the reasons why the political killings task team should be disbanded. You question whether or not it has added value, and we've looked into it retrospectively. But you say you only made the decision based on them no longer adding value. Now, if you discard everything that we've just spoken about, and you say to me that you have not based your decision on those facts, you're now going to have to make me understand the period that you are referring to when you say that you've used to make that decision. So you're talking futuristic. They're no longer adding value, but they did. And if you have not considered what I've put to you, what did you consider then to come to the conclusion that they should be disbanded?
Well, I'm saying if you consider everything that you have been saying, even though I didn't go to that long calculations as you were saying, but generally what was being reflected and what was being observed is that on one hand, political killings are decreasing, the cases are decreasing, but you are funding at the level, and you were bound to conclude that there is something disproportionate here. And then you go out of KZN, you look at nationally, to say you are facing a serious problem all over, including in some other sections, detectives, DPCI, and so on. And therefore, you are bound to review how you use your budget. And that was part of that was a kind of thinking that went into along those lines, without necessarily going that into the calculations.
Well, Minister, you inspired me to do so because my job is not to choose a side. So after hearing testimony, I then had to, without bias, listen to you and the evidence that you put before. So when you took the position that there is a need for disbandment, that motivated me to, without bias, neutrally look at the facts and then determine, is there some credence, some value in what you are saying? And this is what I found. And what I found is that the evidence shows that when you measure the impact and the value added to South African police service, South Africa as a whole, there is very minimal value, except for high budgets. That's not even on investigations, but rather spent on protection, laundry, SATs, and all of that. So I've come to the conclusion, Minister, that based on the evidence, what you have written in your directive, based on what I've discovered on the evidence, was correct. Not just futuristically, but also looking back. There has been grave misuse. And I want to say and put it to you, Minister, I am not convinced by your testimony of your relationship with Mr. Brian Mkhwanazi and Mr. Nhlanhla. Your testimony there is very questionable. I'm not convinced by it. But when it comes to the reasons and the evidence before me for disbandment and immediate versus winding down, I saw with facts that I've just put to you why it would be justified. Don't worry, Minister, about your position. Don't even worry about public opinion. Stand by your conviction. I look at your evidence. I compared it to what was given before. This is what I conclude. And whether the whole South Africa hates me for doing it, I stand by my conviction. As I close, Minister, Muni Baizani, stand by your conviction when it comes to these facts. On your relationship, how you explain that, I'll be honest with you. It's not convincing. How you define your relationship, comrade, etc., it's not convincing. But based on this evidence, when you compare that there's a greater need to spend the money that's been spending on a small team to spread that funding to service South African police service for the whole country, I see it here. And I've put it to you based on numbers. And if that is truly your conviction, stand by that conviction, even if you don't have the position. Put South Africans first. And when I look at this, that money that went for laundry, 4.4 million, could have paid full-time members of South African police service, could have strengthened our intelligence division. Stand by your conviction. Whether the public hates you, we're not here for claps. We're not here for likes. We're here on national duty. I thank you, Minister. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Honorable Sols, and thank you, Minister, for the first part of the session. May we take Honorable James.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, Minister and honourable members. Minister, you are currently suspended. You are facing serious allegations by senior officers. You are appearing before this committee. Later on, you'll be appearing before the Commission, where your integrity is under scrutiny. At this point, Minister, before I delve into my questions, what is most important to you? Is it your job? Is it going back into office? What is important to you as you are seated here today?
Well, the most outstanding issue for me that needs serious and urgent attention is to bring down levels of crime in South Africa, especially murder, proliferation of firearms, and the drugs that are all over the country, especially
I'm
in the
sorry,
streets.
Minister, that is not the question that I asked you. I'm not speaking about operational matters right now. I'm saying to you, your credibility is under scrutiny. What is important to you right now? In your capacity as you are seated there, is it your job? Is it getting back into office? What is it that is at stake that is important to you?
I want to repeat that what is important, I don't want to put me above what I'm saying. What is important is that the government of South Africa, especially via the Department of Police, need to do what I'm saying, bring down these levels of crime, especially the murders and drugs and firearms. That's the most important thing. My side of things doesn't come first. It will come after.
Let's go back to when you first assumed office. General Mkhwanazi testified that he received a call from Mr. Nkabinde asking what the duties of a chief of staff entails. Can you clarify what those duties are, particularly given the testimony suggesting that Mr. Nkabinde had little knowledge of them when you appointed him? What are the duties of your chief of staff?
Well, the duties of the chief of staff is generally to manage the office of the minister. That has parliamentary business on one hand, and staff that is allocated to make sure that they are properly supervised and guided so that they are able to perform their duties such that the minister is able to perform his duties, including responding to questions and other related matters to Parliament. And then on the other is to assist the minister on cabinet-related matters, preparing files and reports as may be required. But on the other hand, also to be able to run your public affairs. That includes constituency. It includes answering queries from the public. And then there are also internal issues like connecting with, among other people, the National Commissioner and other officers, such that there's smooth running between the department and the minister on the other hand, but also work with deputy ministers. So generally, those are the tasks in a nutshell, Chief of Staff.
That was a very general response, Minister. I was referring specifically to his employment contract of employment. What are the specifics that was required by him? Does he have the relevant qualifications for this job? Do you know what's his qualifications? Does he have any?
So I ask you, you speak in a low voice, and I
Oh, I speak a low voice. I was
Yes.
just being very considerate because the last time you said I spoke beyond the heads of anything that was alive. But if you want me to up the volume, I gladly will. I asked you what are the qualifications and the technical qualifications that he has.
Well, Mr. Kabinda has a degree that is a BTech in policing and some diplomas and so on. Administratively, I would say he worked in a IPID where he acquired some skills related to policing.
Thank you, Minister. Reflecting on your three, I call them New Year's Eve resolutions. When you sat there and you thought, what can I do better this coming year? Let me come up with these 3 New Year's Eve resolutions that has fallen on deaf ears. The resolutions or the directives prompted by your concern for South Africa, particularly the Cape Flats and the high murder rate. And I've listened to you over the last 3 days, and at every given opportunity, Minister, you mentioned the Cape Flats. You mentioned what is unfolding, and you said it is very concerning. When you decided to disband the PKTT, what did you think was going to happen to that resource? Why did you not deploy that resource to the Cape Flats? What plan, in other words, what plan? Because you said you are concerned about the Cape Flats. So when you disband and you come up with these 3 New Year's Eve resolutions, what plan did you have in place for the Cape Flats?
Now, the plan that I had for Cape Flats was that once we have a new division coming up that we decided on last year, Operation and Response Service, we will then be able to optimally use all the units like the task force, like the National Intervention Unit, TRT, and then POP included, and give them intelligence capacity. In other words, tie them in with intelligence, crime intelligence. Bring the numbers required to the Cape Flats through the National Commissioner, of course, and make them get detailed information about who owns what in terms of firearms and who are the criminal gangs that are operating here, and so on and so on. And who are they? Who are the operational people on a daily basis? And where do drugs come from and all of those things? And at one point, I had a meeting, an hour-long meeting with the National Commissioner to say, National Commissioner, we're not sitting comfortably because of Cape Flats. The numbers keep on increasing. The incidents keep on increasing. It was a virtual meeting. And I then asked him, could you deploy intelligence, maybe for a week or two, so that they give us concrete, tangible information, and then you deploy. By that time, we had long discussed and finalized the creation of the division that I'm talking about. Because to me, it appeared that you can't use normal uniform police to deal with Cape Flats. By then, we had also dealt with agreement with the city of Cape Town to increase personnel. And so I was imagining a situation where they would be here for a month, 3 months, 4 months to stabilize the area. But you need a harder presence of police personnel and in a sustainable way in the Cape Flats. Otherwise, you will always be undermined and be treated as very weak to non-existence by criminals if we continue the way we continue.
So you are ultimately telling the people on the Cape Flats here today that for as long as the PKTT is still operational, they won't be protected?
No. I'm not saying that.
Because Minister, in the last meeting in November, that meeting where you said I screamed like that, you promised us that in 2 weeks' time we'll be taking a walk on the beach with the provincial commissioner. Did that walk ever happen?
Now, I'm saying, the walk didn't happen because I wanted that walk to be preceded by deployment along the lines that I'm talking about. And I spoke to the National Commissioner for a whole hour. And when I checked, National Commissioner, I think it was after a week, have you done what we agreed on? He said, yes, I came to Cape Town, I launched, and one of the deputies even asked, we didn't feel it. And I was actually surprised myself that National Commissioner had come down and said he had done so. So I said what you are correctly saying, but I wanted it to be preceded by visible deployment in the kind that I outlined to the National Commissioner. Not to come and make further promises, not to come and just walk around without any visible action. I stand here to say I didn't quite get what I wanted, the National Commissioner.
I'd like to say to you that the Cape Flats has been waiting for a response, Minister, for the past 30 years. As things stand this morning, I'm under immense pressure because of the 7 children that were gunned down yesterday in Westbury. This past weekend, we've had over 30 people mass shootings on the Cape Flats. You keep on mentioning the Cape Flats as reason, as your concern for the disbandment of the PKTT, but to date, there's been absolutely no response to those areas, which is a shame. You are meant to be sitting here and reaffirming and giving South Africans confidence in restoring public trust. Instead, in your statement yesterday, you said that we are weak as SAPS and we are unable to respond. That coming from a minister is concerning. That coming from a minister is extremely concerning. I want to ask you, you place great emphasis
Can I respond
on
to that?
No, sir. You place great emphasis on the national PKTT and the budget. You're saying that this was a national political killing star scheme.
Honorable, the witness requests the chair to just there and let's with you.
Yes, I wanted to say what you're saying is true. And what you are saying is of similar concern, if not greater concern. And I do see that up to this moment, I haven't lived up to that undertaking. I confirm that. And it's not only about Cape Flats. As I mentioned in my various speeches, there's Rivali in South Johannesburg, El Dorado Park, there's Soshanguve in terms of Gauteng. And in terms of KZN, there's Umlazi, there's Inanda, which keep on bleeding. In the Eastern Cape, you continue to have issues around OR Tambo district and in Gqeberha. So these 4 provinces are capitals of matters. And it was for this reason that on one hand, we made that undertaking, but on the other, we then created necessary capacity and positioning of South African police to actually face up to these areas of high murder rate so that we deal with them. I haven't been able to get my way on that. It's not necessarily to wait until PKTT, but it is important to note that those resources are very, very much important. And I've assured everybody, it won't leave either KZN or whoever empty-handed because the structure is up once you have created and functionalized that division that I'm talking about. Because it is the cutting-edge, combative side of SAPS that needs to be capacitated for these 4 provinces. Without that combative edge, we're going to be reacting all the time after 6 people have been murdered, 8 people have been murdered, but we don't stand up front and prevent it the way I was envisaging. It's probably these matters, as I say, I work well with the National Commissioner, but I've realized that, sometimes he would indicate right and then turn left.
And that is a problem for us as South Africans because it impacts what is unfolding in our communities. I wanted to ask you, you also place great emphasis on the National Political Killing Stars team and the budget. Was the budget allocation for national operation? Was it for national? Because when you say that this task team is not only for KZN, it is meant to serve all South Africans. This obviously implicates, and it implicates the accommodation and travel, the actual budget. The initial budget, was it a national budget or was it just for KZN?
It's a national budget that gets allocated to the National National Political Killings Task Team. And beyond March...
Sir, if you may just stop there.
Yes.
So if you're saying that it's a national budget and the members are deployed to this task team, obviously, you know that members in a specific team obviously then has to travel to other provinces in terms of court appearances. How does this impact the case, the progress on the case, when members are having to travel from one province to the other just to appear for a 2-hour court appearance? And how does that impact? Is that a strong strategy? Are we not only supposed to focus on a specific area where there's fire, and this is the reason behind having a specialized task team, where there's smoke, there's fire, to deal with a concentrated area? Because you cannot possibly have members from one task team operating in the entire country. It's not feasible to start off with, and members won't be able to appear in court, because this is what we've seen with all other task teams.
What you are saying relates with what I have in mind and that I've been working on for some time. It makes perfect logic.
So I'm specifically speaking to the political killings task team.
Yes.
We are saying you said that task team is national.
And recognize Honorable.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, yesterday you kept on reprimanding me that I should not bombard your witness with a lot of sentiments and with a lot of questions. And I think Honorable James has fallen to that trap as well. So I think if you can help with that, I think there are a lot of issues, a lot of packages that is giving at once to the witness, and that may find the witness unable to properly intervene on what she wants it to. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable.
No, thanks, Chair. Good morning to you and good morning to your colleagues. No, I agree with what Honorable Nhlanhla is saying. When we are listening, as we have been listening for the past 4 days, some of us, the first time I'm speaking in the presence of the Minister, part of what we are also doing is to listen to what the questioner says and what the answer provided is saying, so that we can follow as we prepare for our own engagement with the witness. Now, the way in which the exchange is taking place between the Minister and Honorable James is making it difficult, not just for the witness, but for ourselves as well, to properly follow the conversation, which is what we're supposed to be doing. So I'm appealing as well for your guidance and intervention to ensure that we are all taken along as we should in the current proceedings. Thanks.
Honorable Sols, I saw your hand was up.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just for clarity, when the Minister says national political killings task, I just want to understand the task team that needed to be disbanded was specifically created for operation within KZN, or is the Minister saying that it was created to operate nationally, and therefore the name National Political Task Team, or whether it was just supposed to focus on KZN?
You want to know whether the NPKTT and the PKTT is one thing. Let me rule on the first point. I want to request you, Honorable James, not to breathe heavily on the neck of the... footsteps are allowed in a race, but when you breathe heavily on the neck of the witness, that may distract the chain of thought. So I just want to request you do not breathe heavy on the neck of the... and then before we allow you to resume, let's allow the Minister to respond to the question that Honorable Sols has raised, whether the Minister, Honorable Minister, the NPKT and are they one?
They are one. It's National Political Killings Task Team, but it is based and focused in KZN.
In KZN. Honorable Sols, are you clarified? Thank you so much. Honorable James,
Chair, I just have difficulty, even me keeping my trail of thought, when I ask the Minister a question and he says what I had in mind. We're not asking the Minister what he had in mind. We are specifically referring to the detail and the duties of the National PKTT, and we are trying to determine if this National PKTT was adequately resourced and funded to extend and to do work in other provinces. And so that is what I'm asking the Minister. Was the budget allocation, because remember when you put together these task teams, Minister, you book accommodation, you book vehicles, you book laundry, all of those things form part of the costings. Was that done on a national level or was that done on a provincial level? That is what I'm trying to ask.
The budget, right from the beginning of the National Political Killings Task Team, came from national, and it still comes from national. But the National Political Killings Task Team is based in KZN, and its operations are largely, if I could use that word, confined in KZN. They have, however, dealt with a matter or two in the Eastern Cape. They have gone to Gauteng in the form of 10 officers to assist there, and in the 3 cases that they are assisting in. So, to be honest, Honorable James, when I applied my mind on that day, these are all the questions that I was trying to answer myself. What does it mean to have a National Political Killings Task Team when it is actually not national? What does it mean to allocate this budget for operations that are in one province, but not just for the whole province, for a limited category of murders, even in KZN, and even there, amidst a sea of increasing murders, even in that province, and other crimes. Now, I couldn't sit well, and it didn't sit well in my mind to continue with that. The reason for the establishment of the National Political Killings Team, plausible at that time, because it was a trend, a fast-growing trend. But I'm now in 2024. I'm 5 months into the office, and I'm applying my mind with the understanding I've gained. And I then say, the best way of addressing this is to really try a smooth overhaul of the system. Not only just that, a number of other areas.
Minister, with all due respect and through you, Chair, we are now speaking into the future. I asked specifically about the budget for the National Political Task Team. Was there an operational budget for only that province or for the... We understand that the actual monies comes from national, but I'm saying the budget of the task team, was it allocated for national operations or just for that specific province? That is all that I'm asking, Minister.
Well, the budget for operations is the budget that is allocated to all provinces, but part of that budget is allocated to for the operations of the National Political Killings Task Team from that budget.
Hey, Minister, you are confusing us here. I'm not even sure how to put this question anymore. Minister, you and I know I've been in this environment for the longest time, for over 15 years when it comes to setting up task teams. Task teams are focused to specific areas. The budget comes from national, but the operational budget is only for a specific province. That is what I'm saying. And I'm asking you, sir, have you been privy to the budget that can qualify your statement when you say it is national? It is national on paper, but it is not, hasn't been operationalized nationally. Am I correct, sir?
Well, I was trying to make it simpler. I don't know where we lose each other. That there would be a pool of money, an X amount of money for operations throughout. And then there will be a cut from that amount for operations of the National Political Killings Task Team, which is in KZN. That's why I'm saying it's part of my concern that we are cutting from reduced resources for the operations of National Political Killings Task Team in one province. I don't know whether that makes sense.
Let's move on to the next question, Minister. The reason why I'm saying this is that you have repeatedly criticized the PKTT for working in silos, for working only in KZN, when they only had resources for KZN. That is the point that I'm trying to get to. Yet,
Yes.
Minister, by you taking a unilateral decision on New Year's Eve without consultation, did you not yourself act in isolation?
Well, I would say no. But maybe the extent to which it was done before the signing may raise those concerns. But I have repeatedly said there were meetings where I made it clear that we need to review, and National Commissioner also spoke along those lines. But I also added before that long before I arrived in SAPS, there was even a memo, as early as, I would say, April, May or so in 2024 before I arrived, that was implementing a new structure, which only got signed this year. It only got signed this year by the National Commissioner, which would have addressed all the issues in all other provinces equally or so, and would have made it unnecessary for us to continue with the National Political Killings Task Team. Now, but before that, there's been a work study and a structure based on that study to spread resources and equally to address these concerning issues in each of the provinces.
Minister, you further mentioned that the National Commissioner could have objected to your directive, right? Saying it happens all the time where you have national commissioners sort of having a different approach. In which South Africa is this, Minister? Because is SAPS not an environment governed by instruction and execution where subordinates act out of duty and at times out of fear? Is that not the SAPS environment, that when you receive an instruction, you act on it?
Generally, that is the overall rule in SAPS. But when it comes to Minister and National Commissioner, it's not necessarily the spirit. The spirit is that you have a closer relationship so that there's maximum understanding in terms of what needs to be done at any given moment, so that there's smooth direction generally of SAPS, identifying problems together and resolving them together. And that is what we've been trying to do until later, when I now realize that we're no longer that together as much as we had been before. So the character generally is that from National Commissioner downwards, he gives directions to lower ranks and instructions, and they get complied with. But between the Minister and the National Commissioner, it's not instructions per se. It's more to say this is the view, and we share, and then we'll move on, by and large.
Minister, the last couple of days has almost felt like an English lesson class. Where you're now saying it's not an instruction per se, when this is the culture of this environment, it's a view. I've been stuck on words such as immediately, comrade, acquaintance, all of that, and now we are saying an instruction is a view. when we had witnesses coming before us and saying to us, when you receive an instruction from a minister, you must act on it and you must act immediately.
No, we're saying the same thing. Materially, there's no difference between what you are saying and what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that when I say from National Commissioner downwards, it's much more stringent, much more streamlined. But I say between the Minister and National Commissioner, most of the time it's discussion. That doesn't mean that in the Constitution there's no directive, there's no space for directives. There is space for directives, and this is what I used in terms of, in this instance, of the three directives that I gave.
Minister, on the counterintelligence investigation, because this is where I believe, this is where the wheels came off. Both General Masemola and Mkhwanazi testified that you disbanded the PKTT under the mistaken belief that it was the unit investigating drug cartels in Gauteng. Are you aware of that?
No, I deny that very strongly.
But are you aware that this is what they testified?
I'm aware
Okay.
of what they were saying, and I deny it very, very strongly.
Their testimony draws a link between that decision and your alleged association with Brown Mkhwanazi, who in turn is linked to Kat Matlala, reportedly tied to a Gauteng-based drug cartel. You have denied this claim, but why do you believe two of the country's most senior police officers would make such serious allegations against you if there was no basis for it?
Now, number one, I did say, and I said that there were two ways in which SAPS, or there are two kinds of reaction to my directives. The first one was General Masemola, to whom I wrote the directives. They were addressed to him. For all purposes, we moved along right from the beginning with General Masemola. I don't want to lie. We were together up until after March. We were together, step after step, with him playing a role, coming up with phases and all of that. But on the other hand, General Mkhwanazi took a much more confrontational line or stance as a reaction to my directives. One is national, one is provincial. Now, why ultimately they would say that, it's something that I'm still quite baffled about, that I'm associated with drug cartels. Now, I'm saying in this room, there's no drug cartel that I'm linked to. There's none. And I've never acted in support, directly or indirectly, of any drug cartel in South Africa. That's never happened.
Minister, are you aware that Brown Mkhwanazi is linked to Kat Matlala?
In terms of what is coming out now with in the Nhlanhla Commission, it does look like they are quite close to each other. Something that I've never been aware of all the time about Brown Mkhwanazi. It's something that it's just emerging.
The very Brown Mkhwanazi that has been sending you messages that you said is a crafty character, that you have been receiving messages from him, and you said that sometimes this guy actually makes no sense. So that tells us that there's a pattern of communication. So you earlier on said that you are not linked to any drug cartels directly or indirectly, based on the fact that you have Brown Mkhwanazi linked to a drug cartel and in communication with you. What do you make of that?
Well, I'm saying that I do know Brown Mkhwanazi, and I have spoken to him, and we have met on occasions. Now, I wasn't aware of any other person he links up with in his own time. I wasn't aware, totally unaware. I've never asked him, who else do you speak to? Who else do you do what with? I've never asked him that question. It is emerging only now, all those matters that all of us are becoming aware of. And I'm concerned about it. That's what I've said. But up to now, I'm saying I've never spoken to to Matlala. I've never linked up with him on anything, from him to me, or from me to him. And we've never met in person. It has never happened. And I've said, even when the word link is used, it is running empty. I've never seen anyone putting on the table anything concrete to say this is evidence of the link. It's an accusation, and that's partly what I'm dealing with here. And therefore, I did say on the 12th of June, which was something like a few weeks before the Durban media briefing by General Mkhwanazi, I had convened a meeting where General Masemola was expected to present, together with whoever he would have delegated the job to present a special crime intelligence. Why do we have so much drugs in the country? Why do we have so much illegal firearms? And why do we have so many murders and so on? No, it was drugs and firearms. That meeting took place, and I did take a detailed report. It was an effort to understand this on my side, having raised it in November, to then start getting to fight all these matters and reverse the trend that everybody is concerned about. And I do want to repeat, well, in the report, as it turns out now, there was no big five in the report that I received, but there were other I would say, cartels that were identified, and I want to say that I am not linked to any. So why the two would have come here to say I'm linked, I don't know. But I'm yet to hear where they are basing it. That I know, and I'm speaking to Brown, does not automatically mean I'm also linked to people that he speaks to, and I also know the people that he knows. It does not mean that. And in reality, it is not like that.
Thank you, Minister. Chair, I'm losing my trail of thought as a result of the long answers. I just thought I'd bring it to your attention. Minister, if data were to be extracted from your phone, can you confirm that there would be no evidence of communication regarding the work of the Gauteng Counterintelligence Unit or its investigations into drug cartels? Because like I said earlier on, the wheels came off when those 10 members were redeployed from the KZN task team to counterintelligence. So can you confirm that there'll be no communication, no link whatsoever on your phone, should your phone be taken for extraction?
Between who and who?
I'm saying to you again, if data were to be extracted from your phone, can you confirm that there would be no evidence of communication regarding the work of the Gauteng Counterintelligence Unit or its investigations into drug cartels?
Well, if I get your question clearly, is that there would be no link between myself and drug cartels?
On your phone, there would be no communication on your phone, Minister.
Between me and drug cartels?
There would be no evidence of communication on your phone if data were to be extracted from your phone.
There would be no communication with drug cartels. I want to be clear.
This is taking into my time. Minister, if data were to be extracted from your phone...
Honorable, you have to be straightforward with your question. You are asking the witness on evidence that is before. It's like you are saying in the event there is proof that you have been in conversation with so that's why you need to be straightforward so that you don't use the witness. The witness must understand because that evidence that he might have spoken to somebody is not before this court. So ask him the question that you want to ask. Be patient with him. Allow him to understand what you want.
I'm very patient, Chair, and I'm not sure how else to ask this question at this stage. I'm really not sure why the minister is not understanding a simple question. Maybe you can put it to him.
I want you to allow him to understand at his own pace.
But it's taking from my time having to repeat the same question four times.
You will have that time. The question, the matter in reference is not before the ad hoc committee. It's in the event. So put the question, but allow him to understand it.
I think let me move on, Minister.
I know, Honorable Nhlanhla, we are moving on. Let's not flog dead horses.
Minister, could your relationship with Mr. Brown Mkhwanazi, the same individual...
I think from where I sit, you were making things simpler for me to respond to the honourable member to a question that appears to be quite important.
I'm ruling you out of because the honourable member decided not. Erase it from your mind. It is not there.
Could your relationship with Mr. Brown Mkhwanazi, the same individual who allegedly funded your January 8 guess, allegedly, be the reason a message was sent from him to Matlala, currently in CMAX, informing him that the task team had been disbanded? Do you not see the reasonable link that any ordinary person would see?
There is no request that I ever made to Brown Mkhwanazi to organize any dinner for me anywhere in the Republic, not just Cape Town. What would have happened, he would have done that on his own. Whether it is funding from whoever, it was not necessarily as per or from a request from me. I never asked for any, I never diarized any, I never knew that was anything that was being done in my name. I never knew it. And I was not part of that, and I was not even in Cape Town in those days. All that I've learned afterwards to say there was some dinners supposedly organized in my name. Some people were flown in and accommodated, and I don't even know who those people are.
Is that not worrying, Minister? What did you do about it?
It's worrying. It's very worrying. It's similarly worrying when there is a WhatsApp, if it is true, of a WhatsApp to General Mkhwanazi saying, Minister has arrived in Lusikisik, when in fact I had arrived there. But then the message is made like Mkhwanazi is there with me and is relating that information, when in fact it was not like that. So that is equally worrying, and many other instances that are similar. But those things, I imagine now, they had not been part of any other relation I've had with Mkhwanazi, or rather I was not aware if he was doing such things. I'm very concerned about that. Based
on what you've just said, Minister, when you say that Mr. Mkhwanazi often sent you messages, right, out of the blue, that sometimes made no sense, are you suggesting that his communication was unsolicited? You also describe him as a crafty character. What exactly do you mean by that, Minister? Do you know him well? You're saying now that you can't make sense of the fact that he would send these messages. You have no link with it. You've described him as a crafty character, and you've also earlier said that he would usually do this. He would usually send these messages.
Well, I spoke about craft in a context that we're discussing, but I maintain that because, as I said, if you send a message to General Mkhwanazi and you are Brown Mkhwanazi, and you say, I'm with the minister, whatever the message was saying, minister has just arrived in Lusikisik. This being crafty in my in my view, because it creates an impression that indeed he's there and at my behest, which was never true, which is not true. It's like the other issue that General Mkhwanazi was raising of Brown Mkhwanazi getting some document at the police station in Pangeni, which he said in a manner that creates an impression that just because I have a house there, not far from police station, I would have facilitated anything for Brown Mkhwanazi. No, it's not like that. I never did that. I never knew anything about that. And other examples. So I am saying, other than the relationship of a mere comrade to another mere comrade, there are no other things that I've been doing or that I do with Brown Mkhwanazi. I've been relating that. Nothing. No dinner, no lusikisiki, no fundraising that I have asked him to do. It has never happened. It has never happened. And if he claims, or anybody claims, I would want to see what evidence that would make people say, I have any other relationship with Brown Mkhwanazi, which I say I don't have. And I even said in the Sizulu yesterday, why must I have?
Yeah, that is.
Okay, thank you.
Minister, what would be your response if I put it to you that the committee will hear testimony from former Minister Sele, that Kat Nhlanhla told him that you and Brown Mkhwanazi met with Kat Nhlanhla to discuss a project which was your campaign for the ANC president or the deputy president?
I would outright say.
Point of order, Chair. No, I just want to, I want to know ubani lesela khuluma ngalo Honorable James uthi Minister Sele ubani lesela khuluma ngalo. Thank you. Honorable James, you spoke of Isela Sele.
Say speak about, and then he wants.
Minister Bekitsile, my apologies.
Okay. Oh no, ngobe Isela. Okay, no Isela means Isela. Okay, no, thank you.
You want to say
Former Minister Bekitsile, my apologies.
Now, if former Minister Bekitsile would say at one point, I met Nhlanhla, I met Mkhwanazi, and discuss something, that would be a lie, an outright lie. If it were to happen, it would be a lie, even without me asking for evidence, even before I do that, because I know that has never happened.
Minister, you appear to place great importance on public opinion. You said public?
This is the last question I'm asking. You are now on the referee time. You blow any time.
Noted, Chair. Minister, you appear to place great importance on public opinion. As it stands, there are widespread calls for you to vacate office, and you have become central to the internal divisions within SAPS. Would it not be in the best interest of South Africans and of restoring public trust for you to step down?
Well, I don't know what you are talking about. We're in an ad hoc commission or committee. We are dealing with the problems that we're dealing with at the moment. What you are introducing, I can't answer.
It is based on public perception that you spoke about. Thank you so much,
Thank you so much, members. We will come back at 2 o'clock.
Huh? It's watching. I can't. Most frustrated.
It's centered around monitoring police behavior or conduct, especially where there are complaints, especially where there are matters, and any other related matters. So in summary, they are policing the police.
Thank you very much, Minister. So in your testimony, you then indicated that the IPID report on Phala Phala was classified by the head of IPID. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Not by yourself. So based on your response on what the mandate of IPID is, can I then confirm that IPID would not be investigating the president? They are investigating police conduct.
That's correct.
Now, how does one get a report declassified, Minister, if somebody was looking for a report that IPID would have classified?
You will need to wait until IPID declassified. In other words, they review their decision, come to that conclusion. When there was a question from Parliament on the classification, which mistaken assumed to be me who had done that, I actually took a question, went to IPID to say, did you classify? What were the reasons? I'm facing a question in Parliament. They told me it is them, independent of the minister, and some of the reasons they touted are the parallel investigations that were going on in relation to Phala Phala, and therefore they then classified for that reason until they come to another conclusion, maybe at the conclusion of some criminal cases that were going on under another entity that time.
Thank you, Minister. So I would be correct then, based on what you said, if I was to advise Honourable Skhosana that if he is looking for information about an IPID report that does not investigate the President, despite his repeated assurances to that regard, he has to approach IPID for the classification of the report.
That's correct, Honourable.
Thank you. So I trust that will bring the matter to a close, Honourable Skhosana, on Phala Phala.
Chair, singabantu Chair. Mele sibonge Chair. Siyabonga mamdiko zami lokumdefend uMinister.
Honourable Shonga, I agree. You know how much I love you and how much I respect you.
Don't take my 10
You know
minutes.
that, and I have assured you that there is at no time where we will deny you an opportunity to. So when you raise your hand, the chair will gladly recognize you. Like I do now, Honorable Sanguni has completed the part that she wanted to, and I saw that your hand was up. I now allow you to speak.
Thank you, Chair. No, Chair, kuyisinto ukuthi umuntu mayenza kahle sibonge. So umkhonto wesizwe Chair besicela ukubonga kumamkhusela ukuthi awuzamile umdefend uminister. Kodwa sazombuza ke imibuzo ngoba iphalaphala leli miningi imizegcekeziwe emalokishini awaclassifyanga ama-document walawo ama-docket walawo menzile egcokeziwe. Sisazoyixoxa ngoba ireport kuyi-IP. Siyabonga mamkhusela ne-ANC edefend uminister. Inkosi ibusise. Amen.
Do you want to comment on the message of gratitude?
No, it's a pleasure, Honourable Chairperson. As the ANC, we will continue to seek to educate Kondo Wesizwe, as they call us Ngabantu bakwaGogo. So we're happy to educate them on how these things work. Thank you, Chair.
I see the hand of Honourable Nomvalo is up.
Yeah, no, Chair, can members of this committee be protected? And not, Chair, please don't allow their names to be wrongfully cited in a line of questioning. If we want to maintain the decorum of this meeting, I think it's important that we comply with the highest principles of discipline and not allow members to just throw in names unnecessarily so and unprovoked of one of honorable members in this committee. I thought you are going to protect us against what honorable...
what has been said, Honorable.
And two, we don't need to be educated by the ANC. They don't qualify to educate us, and they will never qualify. We don't need to be educated. If anything, it's us who must educate them on how to run a country without being engulfed by corruption. They need to be protected, to be educated by us. This country is in turmoil because of them. So, Chair, please protect us, because if you allow them to degenerate, you are also going to degenerate. We can't degenerate, but because we respect your stewardship as the Chair and we respect members of this committee, we choose not to degenerate. So can we not be drawn to such? Please.
I want to hear from you. What is the part that you want corrected?
No, he must not throw the name of Skosana in her line of questioning. It's unnecessary, Chair, to say to a witness, if I tell Skosana this, will I be correct? This is not about individuals.
Okay. So what you are saying is that instead of being specific, she could just have said, Honorable Member.
No, Chair. As we ask questions here, people must not take notes of what we're asking and want to use our names unnecessarily so in their line of questioning. You can ask a question without mentioning Skosana and without being sarcastic, because she was sarcastic by saying, if I tell Skosana this, would I be correct? What is that?
Okay. Honorable Matheus.
Mine is just on clarity, Chair, so we don't want to leave the nation misunderstood about our terms of reference, as Honourable Member has said. On 3.5 of our terms of reference, it covers, we want to bring in the broader scope of what we have to these terms. It speaks to us investigating the broader corruption within the justice system. And if Pala falls under that, we are allowed to bring that to the committee and for us to investigate that as well. And also in terms of us declassifying documents, it does not need the MKP to go and declassify the Pala. We can make that here as a committee to have that done if it's going to serve the purpose. So it was just about clarification before the nation is misled by the GNU. Thank you.
Honorable Malema.
No, on 2 points, Chair. It will be disingenuous and anti-democratic principles not to make reference to an honorable member who made a point that you think it is differently put and therefore more clarity is sought. So there is nothing wrong with what Honorable Sangoni does. In the principles of debates, the best option for your name not to be called again is to keep quiet. If you are sensitive like that, keep quiet. But if you are going to open your mouth, you must know a reference is going to be made to that opened mouth, especially if it gets opened and say a lot of nothing. So there is nothing wrong with points of engagements and done in a very respectful way, where Honorable Sangon waited for a turn. She could have come in even at that time. She decided, no, I'm not going to come in at that time. I'll wait for my turn. So what is that? That is, you must not be scared of the highest stage of engagement. And that is Parliament. That's where we are now. And then the second point is, in terms of 3.5 of our terms of reference and 3.6, actually I must read them. Establish whether any wrongdoing, corruption or breach of conduct have occurred within SAPS or any other relevant institution as outlined in the revelation. Assess the adequacy of internal mechanism for dealing with corruption, misconduct and poor management within the SAPS, within the Ministry of... So if there is corruption that is being done at IPIT, and amongst other things, the corruption of sealing Pala, we are well within our rights to raise it here. And the minister can answer for himself. So Honorable Skosana is not outside the terms of reference of this Ad Hoc Committee. And therefore, there is nothing wrong with what he said about Pala. We think and we hold a view, some of us, that Pala at IPIT was wrongly classified, because we find no justification why Pala is classified. Police were investigating Pala ended up being investigated by IPIT because someone reported them at IPIT that these police were favoring the president, and before all of them were equal. Therefore, we want IPIT to investigate the conduct of these police who are protecting the president. Whether you like it or not, Phala Phala is the president, is Honorable Sir Ramaphosa. It's a synonym for Honorable Sir Ramaphosa. So it doesn't matter how people want to put it. So we are well within our right, Chair, and that right must be protected, and society must not be misled that people who speak about Phala Phala here, they are outside the terms of reference. And the good thing with terms of reference, the constitution or the law, is very important that every time when you speak about it, make reference to it, because you might think you know it, only to find that you don't know it. It's like Bible. A lot of you think you know Bible and you end up saying wrong things because you had those pastors who are feeding people petrol, saying the same things, and you come here and repeat those things without having read the Bible. Thanks.
Honorable Chief. No,
thanks, Chair.
I'm aware the clock has stopped.
Yeah.
Honorable Sangoni, you must not be worried.
No, thanks, Chair. I think the earlier intervention made by Honorable Malema is quite correct. Throughout our sessions, right from the inception, we have made references, and I will when I ask questions to the Minister later on. We have been making references to questions that were posed by either the senior counsel or any one of our members. So that practice is correct, and I don't think that we should change it. Where I think, on the second intervention, where I think we probably running a risk that colleagues did not understand the context within which Honorable Sangoni was raising the issue. Over a period of time, on many occasions in this platform, the insinuation has been made that the classification of the Phala Phala report was at the instance or at the behest of the minister. References have been made, if you go to our records in this ad hoc committee, that the minister somehow had a hand on that issue. As a consequence of which, in one of our hearings, one of the witnesses was asked a direct question, I can't remember which of the generals, who has the authority to classify the report? And the answer was that the only person who can classify the report is the primary author of the report. Now, when Honorable Sangoni is raising the question, of course, she may have jokingly then made references, which is what I suppose has also made the MKP not to be comfortable. She may have been very, very casual in terms of how she refers to Honorable Scosan. But the fundamental issue is that nobody is saying a discussion on the Phala Phala question, in whatever way it arises in this meeting, is a violation of our terms of reference. But we would like you to appreciate the context within which she posed the question to the minister, because that has got to do with our history as opposed to what has actually happened today. I thought it's important, Chair, to clarify that, because I don't think there's a fundamental difference between what Honorable Malema is saying and his understanding with what Honorable Sangoni was saying. The question is the context within which she raises the question, given our history with this matter. Thanks.
Honorable.
It is unfortunate that, in fact, let me put it this way, it's not unfortunate. It was obvious. I serve in the Police Portfolio Committee. I'm not parachuted. Since I came into Parliament, I understand much better than what Honorable Member Sangoni was trying to educate me. There's nothing he can educate me about. iPad, IDEC, and whatever institution which we deals with, Now, the issue, I'm not going to play with semantics here. I can do that if I want to be naughty. But I was naughty during those years when I was young. Now, the minister is not a zombie, unless they want to turn him into a zombie. The minister answered me on the day. He answered me. She doesn't need he doesn't need an advocate or an SC here. Now, if somebody wants to attack me indirectly, I'm straight. I don't hear anything in my life. Now, let's not do that. The decorum which my colleague was talking about, we want to maintain that. Now, if the honorable member is uncomfortable, I don't belong to the factions of the ANC. I don't belong to any factions. I know it's a very sensitive matter for the minister. And I feel pity for Honorable Sangoni, because we're still going to ask the minister here. And other members who are coming, employees of the ANC. And we are not here playing party politics. Let him present her own story here. Ask her own question. I'm not going to interfere. Even if he says iPad or IP belongs to a Department of Justice, it's fine. But I know, because I serve in that committee. I didn't remove anyone to come in here.
No, it's fine.
No one was removed. I'm here. I'm serving in that portfolio. I know the history. I know everything. I didn't come here to defend anybody or anyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Honorable Scosan. Honorable Nomvalo, you'll be the last.
Yeah, no, Chair, I just wanted to make this point that we still maintain our position. And we are saying this to seek your guidance. We're not inviting opinions and sentiments about how sensitive we are and so on. Here we seek your guidance as the chairperson of this meeting to say, don't allow a situation where some members choose to be sarcastic and tell us that they are educating us, as if they qualify to educate us. They don't qualify to educate us. It's us who qualify to educate them, not the other way around. So, Chair, we are seeking for your guidance. We're not seeking for anyone's guidance except yours as a chairperson of this meeting. We can't allow the name of the MK party to be rubbished here. If people have got a problem with the MK party, they must raise that elsewhere. It's not us who said people must lose elections. It's not us who said people must get 1% in KZN and be voted only by their girlfriends, their candidates, and not receive any votes from anyone. So they must not come and express their anger here in the Ad Hoc Committee, because we can do that as well. There is no mouth here which speaks a lot of nothing. If there's anything that does a lot of nothing, is a nose that can't even control Mafinyila. Not a mouth that speaks a lot of nothing. Everything that we have spoken here as the MK party is in line with the terms of reference. It's in line with the terms of reference. If anything, we will never be bullied here. If people have been thriving through bullying, they are not going to bully us. We're not going to allow that. We're talking to you. We have no interest of talking to anyone about the guidance that we request from you and the protection that we request from you. So can we be protected, Chair? Because we will be tempted to respond.
Thank you so
For as long as they provoke us, we will respond.
Thank you so
Fearlessly so.
Honorable members, let me do this. Let me tell you,
No,
because
Chair.
I will give you a chance to speak. Let me
No,
say,
on a point of order, I just want to make one point very clear.
point of order.
Yeah, you see, the problem is when you deal with anti-intellectuals.
No, but he's out of order. I'm also raising a point of order, Chair. I'm raising a point of order.
I'm
This
ruling
is
On a point of order, Chairperson. On a point of order.
I've engaged their
On a point
father
of order, Chair.
long before
Chair,
they
on a
arrived
point
here.
of order. On a point of order,
When they were still
Chairperson.
looking after
On a point
cows
of order, Chairperson.
in the villages
He
of
continues to
Mzimkhulu.
say nothing. He
I was
says a
dealing
lot
with
of
their
nothing.
father here.
He can't even
Yeah.
control Mafinyila.
They can't do anything.
He can't even
Small boy.
control Mafinyila.
Control
That's
your-
the only thing.
control your weight.
We're going to speak, Chair, for as long as
Control your weight.
we're
At
not
least
going
control
to
your
be
weight.
bullied by Malema
And
here.
buy- and buy
We're
the
not
right
going
size
to be
of
bullied by
clothes.
you. We're not your boys. We're not your fans here,
control your
Malema.
weight and
We
buy
are
the
not
right
your
size of
fans
clothes.
here.
Okay,
You think what these boys were carrying bags for you?
okay,
We're not
okay.
your fans here.
Unfair to
We
speak
are
to
not
you
your
in your
fans. We are
sleep.
going to confront you.
Honorable
We will
Malema.
confront you.
Honorable
We will
Malema.
confront you. We will confront you.
Honorable
We're not your
Malema,
fans here.
Honorable Novalo.
We're not your fans here.
Honorable members,
We're going to confront him.
May you please listen to me, honorable
We're going to
members.
confront him. We're not his fans.
I
We're not
request,
these boys who are carrying bags for him.
honorable members, I request.
Control your
We are not going to
Control
bully
your
us.
weight.
We
Control
are
your
not
weight.
going to
I
bully
request
us,
you
Malema.
listen-
We're not
you
going to be
listen to
bullied
me.
by you. We'll never be bullied by you.
Honorable Nomvalo, you are the last person whose microphone is still on. You know, when I was at teaching, the session after lunch, we used to call it the graveyard session. And the experience now is the opposite of what I went through in my other life. This really cannot be the graveyard session. Let's do like this, honorable members. Number one, I want to tell you what belongs here and what does not belong here. Number one is that there is a statement which was made here that by the MKP. And the ruling that I make is that yes, it is correct that honorable members can make reference to any statement that was made by a member during the proceedings. I don't think that Honorable Sangoni was wrong to have mentioned the name of Honorable Skosana to say Honorable Skosana has asked a question about the classification of information by IPID answers which the minister a question to which the minister has responded. Number two, it is true that if honorable members want to probe or inquire about alleged corruption at Palapala, if there has been, they will not be wrong in terms of the scope of, the terms of reference that we have adopted. Those are the two issues that belong here to this meeting. Yesterday, I spoke to Honorable Skosana and said to him that once the referee blows a whistle, it means the referee has seen a misconduct that is not allowed in the pitch. And once the player who has been fouled reacts or remonstrates with the referee, that player also acts in common purpose. So I may not want to be drawn into how you conduct yourselves, but I want to remind you this. All along, I have been emphasizing this point that when we are here, we are in service of the people of South Africa. And I want to make this appeal once again to all of you, that let us not make the people of South Africa to know our parts, which we are not. The way they know us, let it always be how they know us, and not introduce to them the other sides which they have never known about us. Because that is how we keep the decorum of this parliament, and that is how we also keep our individual personalities intact. It's very, very unfortunate, Honorable Malema and Honorable Nomvalo, that it had to come to the point that it did, and for sure, I think that you should also be regretting that there could have been a way to deal with the matters that you strongly feel about than to have dealt it the way you did. But look, you can't be crucified for that. You are human beings. Sometimes you may get very emotional, and at the end of the day, you learn from such moments in life. You are leaders coming from political parties recognized in this country. When you are a leader, you must always have two hearts. When the other heart is saturated, the other heart is it must become the second heart must be able to help the other heart to restore your calm. So I hope that as leaders, you regret the moment that we are coming out of, and we because I can't prescribe, I can just say we may not experience this kind of behavior again. And let me assure you, sitting here as the chairperson, I respect you so much, and I love you so much. You must not doubt it. I love you, Honorable Nomvalo. I love you, Honorable Malio. I appreciate you so much. And so, sometimes I feel very bad about it. But look, we have to move forward and serve the people of this country. Honorable Sangweni, we will add 15 minutes more to your time. Yes, Yeah, so.
Thank you very much,
So what it means is mutatis mutandis. So it will be you and the chief whip. It will no longer be 4 o'clock, it will be 4:15. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you so much also for your guidance in this matter. I'm sorry, Honorable Skosana, if you took offense, but I see now at least Honorable Manyi has joined us, so you are reinforced. Thank you, Chair. It's a joke, okay. Chair, let me go to the questions, and thank you very much. Minister, I just want to start on the issue of what brings us here, and apologies to you, Minister, as well, that you had to sit through that. Obviously, at the core of the issues is around that 31st of December directive. Now, the Minister obviously appreciates that any administrative action has to be lawful and rational. I hold a view which coincidentally coincides with yours around the action. I want you to take us through that. I may hold a different view on rationality, but on lawfulness. So this year, my understanding is that the National Policing Policy was adopted in May of 2025. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So would it be your testimony, Minister, that you felt that the PKTT in its operations did not align with the policy or any other policy directive? And if so, briefly, Minister, because I know you've spoken to us, can you just elaborate how you were of the view that it's not aligned to policy?
Well, it is more non-alignment with PFMA than any other law, in the sense that more and more I felt that when all the information was before me, I felt that we may have made an error, allowing the National Political Killing Stars team to operate without extensions that had been done as a procedure or process. And then it became one of the factors. And then the other factors that I'm alluding to here added as well.
So it's on the basis of that it was then a policy directive?
Exactly. It exactly arose in that context that I could do.
Minister, you've been a minister since, if I'm not mistaken, July or August of last year. Were these the first directives that you gave to the National Commissioner?
Not necessarily, but in that form, yes.
What would have been the nature of either other directives or any other directives you would be aware of that a Minister of Police would have given to the National Commissioner, which would be in the space that you were directing on?
The other directives that arose in the context of discussions after we got appointed under the broad umbrella of orientation, which I said got elevated to discussions, got elevated to also decisions that were taken along the lines. I would make one example, that of removing from the structure the unit called Police Inspectorate. It was during those discussions on the organizational structure, that the matter arose. And we said, no, after we asked questions and all of that, and we said, no, go and review this with a view to remove it from the organizational structure. In my view, that was a directive, but it arose in that context. This one arose in a different context, as I've...
So, Minister, that directive then, which for me...
Apologies, Honourable. I think the voice of the Minister is too romantic this time. Sometimes we struggle to hear him. If he can come closer to the mic, it's too romantic. It's that romance that you've been preaching here in the House. Thank you.
The Chair started it. So, Minister...
No. What I said was plutonic.
That directive, Minister, sounds to me very much like this directive. So you are speaking to issues of a structure being removed, the Police Inspectorate. You did not get as much backlash as you did on this one. Is that correct?
I didn't, and that's correct.
No, thank you, Minister. I want to move on then to... Okay, I want to go to the IMC, but before I go to the IMC, you indicated in your testimony that you received a handover report from Minister Nhlanhla. I just want to find out, did that handover report from Minister Nhlanhla say anything on the PKT?
Not as I read it. What was there, though, was a reference to committees in which the minister in that term, the last term or the term before, was serving. Any other leadership position that the minister had been playing, that is what was reflected, not necessarily the National Political System per se in a form.
Did he maybe give any reason at any point why he did not shut down the unit himself? I mean, it was a 2019 implementation plan. Did Minister Nhlanhla at any point, whether it was during the orientation or any point, indicate why he did not shut down that unit?
Not really. We didn't delve into that.
Now, Minister, this is where I disagree with you, and it's on the IMC. The handover report that Minister Nhlanhla would have handed over to you, if he used a standard template of handover reports, he should have, in that handover report, indicated which IMCs he was serving in as Minister of Police. Was this particular IMC there?
Yes, it was there.
So you had said, and I had been tempted to agree with you, that an IMC ends at the end of a term. But when I tried to look at this, I was informed that IMCs are established in two ways, one by presidential minute or two by cabinet decision. And there's always a process to disestablish an IMC, which is either it going to report to cabinet or memos being signed. Now, why would you then take it that at the end of the sixth administration, this particular IMC that had been handed over to you had been disestablished?
It's because Cabinet at some point did sit and there were announcements of new committees, IMCs and all of that, and this one was not mentioned.
Okay, then I think that may be new evidence, Minister, because what we have been deliberating on is, does it exist from 6th administration to 7th administration? But if you're saying that then Cabinet agreed on the IMCs for this term, we would really like to see that, because I think it has an implication on your testimony. Now, you then say, Minister, that the reason you disbanded the PKTT was because it had been established by the IMC. You say that in your testimony, I'm not sure which page. Then in page 235 of the bundle, which is an information note written by General Khumalo, Lieutenant General Khumalo, requesting funding. He says the PKTT was established by the IMC. Page 247, which is a report to the Minister written by General Masemola. In the 4th paragraph, he again confirms the establishment of the PKTT by the IMC. So there's no dispute, I think, there in terms of the PKTT being established by the IMC. You then say, when you took a decision to de-establish the PKTT was because it had been established by the IMC. Why did you not, and I think you've been asked this question, I'm just not getting it, why did you not then consult the other ministers who would be affected by your decision to disband? Because you're saying it was an IMC thing. Yes, the IMC doesn't exist, but why didn't you tell your colleagues who had been part of establishing it?
I'm sure it is the manner in which the decision was arrived at. We said with the deputy ministers, I think it was on the 21st of November, to look at a number of issues that were picked up since appointment. In the main, those were complaints and so on of a human rights nature and others about intelligence, SAPS, and some practices, dismissals and all of that. But we were getting allegations as well from people. And then we said, what do we do with these allegations? In fact, we started by saying, what have you been receiving? Deputy Minister 1, Deputy Minister 2, and then I also shared some of the things that I'd been receiving. And the resolution was saying, go and engage the National Commissioner around these matters, yourself, Minister. So we agreed. But I didn't do that. I think it was 21 or 26, because we had not discussed the details of the nature in which the form, the engagement, the extent, and all of things. So I then grappled with a particular question. Now, it took some time, and I wasn't anticipating that there would be an ad hoc committee or a commission. I was just grappling on my own to say, how do I meaningfully engage the National Commissioner? Not just engage for the sake of engage for the sake of taking meaningful decisions that will take us further and out of what we were discussing, what we're seemingly in. Now, it went on and on because we were busy with other things, and I wasn't that quick in taking that decision. It was only after I settled at break around the 29th and so on. Then I went home to sit, knowing I'm not getting up to some business, and then the other day, and then things started sinking properly and shaping up properly. And then on the 31st, I wrote. Now, I may have been concentrating on what I needed to do as a minister appointed. And then that issue of consulting other ministers, even though there was no IMC, didn't arise. But I did check, though, I must confirm, with the special advisor to say, if you read this letter, because I consulted him after, and mainly on what I'd written, lawfulness of this constitution, and we agreed that it was all within the powers of the minister, the constitution and legislation. And then I went there.
Minister, now you say that you, as Minister of Police, who was chair of the IMC, you felt that it was within your rights to do this. But how do you say that as chair of an IMC that you yourself believe didn't exist, you could then disband? Where did you then draw the authority to disband from? Because you, in your statement, you say it was established by the IMC could disband it. You then didn't consult the IMC, but then as chair of the structure that you say didn't exist, where did you then derive that authority from?
This was a political intervention. It was not established through legislation. The minister has powers like 207, 2, and so on and so on. Now, when the National Political Killings Task Team was established, it was not through that power, but it was through a political intervention, starting from then the IMC. Political intervention, not legislation, the minister sitting and then saying, through powers vested on me, I must establish, I'm hereby establishing, as it had happened before, because there was another task team that had been established in 2016 and another that had been established in 2014. This one was not established. It was political intervention from president to IMC, of which the minister was one. So I then relied on that particular sequence or that particular mode or to do that, but leaning on the powers of the member of the executive. In other words, saying this was political intervention, this is political intervention, but now because I'm a minister, I'm using that framework as minister to do what I do.
No, thanks, Chair, thanks, and I want to make a follow-up, Minister, on the question and the answer you provided. Let me give you the reasons why that question is fundamental. We have come to understand that the IMC was established by the president, and it was the IMC that established the PKTT or the PKTT. Now, the reason Honorable Sangweni is asking this question, Minister, is because our own deductions is that your existence as the chair of the Inter-Ministerial Committee equally cease to exist when the committee is not re-established. And therefore, where would you draw the authority to disband the entire team as opposed to withdrawing the police who are under your executive authority as a Minister of Police? Because if you had said, no, I was not a chair of the IMC because it didn't exist, but as part of my own job to restructure the department of the South African Police Service or the South African Police Department, I then decided to withdraw the police. If the withdrawal of the police consequently led to the demise of the PKTT, that would be the consequences evolving from your own action. But in this context, you would have exercised your action in the context of the authority you enjoy as a Minister of Police, as opposed to a chair of an IMC that in your own admission did not exist. So I hope you are able to understand where we are coming from and the difficulty we see with the way in which, the way in which you exercise your own logic in deciding for the entire committee, while you, as the then chair of that committee, had ceased to exist when it was not re-established by the cabinet.
I understand. There is the IMC. Then the IMC doesn't continued with or re-established for the 7th administration. I no longer am chair of that. I'm now Minister of Police. Now, I then say, I would want to disestablish this, or I have to disestablish this. And what do I do in this situation? Because of this and this and this and this reason. And then we look at the Constitution on what the minister, no longer as chair, we look at and we see there's something called a directive using what now is what was a political intervention now facing me as a member alone. And then I say, okay, because there is this power to do a directive whose content is not necessarily determined, to say is only directive for this, on this and this and this. I then used that particular as a directive to give it.
Thanks. Minister, with hindsight.
Honorable Tsuba, you are satisfied?
Just a minor follow-up. I understand.
Let's do, just hold, Honorable Sango. The clock has stopped.
Okay.
It will be the Chief Whip, Honorable Malema, and Honorable Ngola. Honorable Minister, the microphone is on your right. If you please make sure that it faces straight to your mouth.
No, thanks, Chen. I won't be long. I wanted to check, Minister, just one question only, and you will decide whether you answer it as a yes or no. In your own understanding, can a minister issue a directive that cuts across or beyond the department that a minister leads in terms of his impact?
Now, the National Political Killings Task Team was, for all practical purposes, a structure of police, in essence. But then, because of the needs for interdisciplinary and all of that approach, you then draw other relevant to then assist at officials level now, that's what you're meaning, who are playing specific roles there. Now, in my view, because this is housed in South African Police Service, the resources that were being used there were not basically from SAPS. There may have been other resources used by, for instance, NPA and by others in their roles as they do there, but not as is the case or would be the case in SAPS, because as SAPS, you will have to get members from all over. As SAPS, you would hire accommodation, you would provide cars, you provide all of those things. So it was different from SAPS. It did have an impact in terms of how you use resources and so on, far more than those other departments would have been consulted once you've taken a decision to say, look, we've come across this and deriving from history and all of that. And so my answer to your question is yes, in this instance.
Honorable Malema.
No, thanks, Chair. Minister, the NPKTT was established in 2018. Which administration is that one, of 2018?
It's the 5th administration.
And then it continued after the elections of 2019.
Yes.
Which takes away the argument that you said they get dissolved automatically once the new administration comes.
It doesn't necessarily. I haven't checked whether the Inter-Ministerial Committee that had been established in 2018 did get confirmed or endorsed with I suppose it happened.
No, Minister, me and you sitting here and all of us, we know the Inter-Ministerial Committee that was established and came into effect, the NPKTT, July 2018.
Yes.
After that, there's never been any other announcement of re-establishment or anything of that sort. That committee, as it was established, it went on into the 7th administration. Yes. And now you're moving away from your argument, which you said earlier, a new administration automatically dissolves the IMC.
No, I'm not saying so. In Cabinet, there could have been a meeting where, at the beginning of 2019, that particular IMC was. It doesn't mean that each time Cabinet establishes its committees, it will go public and so on, especially if it was endorsed. I would need to check those facts.
So I'm happy that Honorable Sangoni says that's a new evidence that you are presenting to us, because all along we lived under the impression that when a new administration comes in, it's automatic. But then you go on to make another commitment, which I don't think is permissible. Honorable Sangoni says, you say Cabinet might have established certain committees and all of that, and then we'll have to say, no, you must come and share that with us because It's a new thing. But sitting here, I don't think you can just share the minutes of the cabinet, because you are going to commit to bringing the minutes of the cabinet here, which shows that certain committees were established except this one, and then you are going to come back and say, no, it is not permissible to take out the minutes of the cabinet. Are you sure you will bring us the minutes of the cabinet?
Subject to whatever condition, like you are talking.
So we'll never know, because if you are denied that, then it's clear, we'll never know. Then we're left with one information which is at our disposal. It was established, it came into effect July 2018, and then only got dissolved by yourself. Because that's the only evidence and information we have. Apart from what you are saying now as a new evidence, we'll have to rely on what we have. Thanks, Chair.
Do you have any comment, Minister?
No.
Honorable Nhlanhla,
Covered by the follow-up of the Chief Whip and the sentiments by Honorable Malema. Thanks.
you proceed. Honorable Sangweni.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Minister, I'm sure you're going to hate the word immediately after this session, and I will totally understand you. But in your letter, you said you didn't mean immediately because you asked for a preliminary report by the 20th of January, and you are using that as evidence to demonstrate that you didn't mean immediately. But then the second sentence, or the sentence after immediately, says the final and closing report must be submitted to the Minister late January. Now, if your preliminary report is on the 20th of January and your final and closing report is late January, that's less than 10 days, 11 days. How can that not be immediate?
Well, it cannot be immediate because if you mention immediate and you cut out preliminary report, which is on the 20th of January, the following year, then immediate remains alone. If you also don't include end of the month, the meeting that takes decisions in the department, you don't count it. If I had not written those two, then we'd be discussing something else and totally different from when you include them. Because when you include them, they give you the context. Whether it was feasible to write a report after the preliminary report and then a closing report, it's different. That would be operational. The National Commissioner would have come, would have said, as would have happened throughout the period, Minister, I need 2 more weeks. Minister, I need this. It was happening all the time. So these were indicators in terms of how we should proceed, not the actual.
Thanks, Mr. Honorable Malema says yesterday, if somebody says stop a car immediately, you don't expect them to stop it next week. Ne? But would I be correct to say that your expectation was that by the end of January, this team must be shut down? Because when you say final and closing, it means that you are giving them January, 20th of January, they must say this is how far we are, and then end of January, they must have completed. So it was immediate from the point that you instructed them, and by the end of the month, within 30 days, they were supposed to be done. Is that correct?
That is correct, but subject to the managerial aspects arising from preliminary report, arising from any other later report.
Okay. I won't ask you, Minister, because we've already asked some of the generals, but I think 30 days is a very short time, to shut down something of that nature without putting in place plans. But I think your response would probably be that it's operational. But I do want to say that is the basis, I believe, of you being accused of defeating the ends of justice. Because to say in 30 days, with all of these dockets in place, investigations undergoing, end of January, this thing must be shut down. I don't know if you want to make a comment.
I do want to make it. The directive didn't have anything to do with dockets. Dockets were not part of in the preliminary reports, in the final report or discussions thereof. Then the issue of dockets would have come in, and then and the management comes and say, this is how we would then manage dockets. Common sense tells you that if there would have been a case or cases in court, the directive was not saying withdraw those cases just because you are closing. No, it doesn't. If you were chasing after a particular criminal, it didn't mean that. But as another example, you wouldn't. There were officers from other provinces. It also didn't mean that, or it wouldn't have meant that you tell them pack and go and just like that. Because ordinarily, in terms of simple logic, that would not have been literally practical. But there are many instances where the executive would take a decision. Maybe, let's just say, not in a hasty fashion as this one may look like. But as the executive, you do say, let's do this in 6 months, let's do this in 3 months. If you're an executive and you don't do that, I would say, I wish you good luck. I would still want to see such a person, how you work and how you get your things done. But then I gave that indication. But you always know, always without any error, that the executive management would vary whatever you say, and then you then move along. It's no.
No, thank you, Minister. Minister, what level of detail do you get briefed on when it comes to...
Just hold Honorable Sangweni.
Sorry, Honorable Sangweni, the chair is not looking at us, so that's why I'm screaming. Minister, we really have to take this process very serious. You can't say stop immediately, stop end of January. Doesn't mean if you are taking matters to court, you'll have to stop. It doesn't mean if you are chasing criminals, you'll have to stop. But what is the job of this team? Because its job is to take matters to court, is to chase criminals. So when you say if you are chasing a criminal, it didn't mean they must stop chasing criminals immediately. If they are taking matters to court, it doesn't mean they must stop taking matters to court immediately. So what was immediately going to stop? Because that is at the core of their work.
Now, the question and the answer arose in the context of dockets. When you wind down, even in December, as was the proposal from the National Commissioner, there would have been the case in court 5 years, 4 years. Now, you would plan in the wind-up report a provision for that. So it's not just the two, which is the work of the National Political Killings Task Team. It's all embracing other aspects. She raised the question on dockets, and I said it was not in the, because that's not my terrain as minister. It was not in the directive, come with the National Commissioner, and it was left out. And therefore, they would, for instance, say, well, this is how we will close, if that would have been the decision or that they arrive at. But this is how we'll manage the dockets for the next 10 years or for the next 5 years. When you hear matters around dockets and so on, it was in that score that what are we going to do with ongoing investigations? No, transfer them to the organized crime unit in KZN or serious and violent crimes in KZN so that they continue to investigate what was being investigated.
Okay, thank you so much, Honorable Member. Honorable Sangoni.
Thank you very much, Chair. Minister, you've already said that the letters and things that were written by Professor Mary Dehas only formed part of what you called the collective weight of your decision. But did you get any of these investigated? What Mary Dehas would have raised?
Well, Mary Dehas's matters were not only raised, they were raised with the National Commissioner as well. They were raised with Portfolio Committee. I had a discussion with the National Commissioner and got his impression about what Mary Dehas was saying. Largely, National Commissioner was saying those matters we have looked at and found that there's a problem with it, there's a problem. Largely saying they are not, those matters are not as she raises them. I was satisfied with that at that time because I wasn't looking at any other thing. I just wanted to get his impression about this if he had been conducted by Mary Dehas. So I then left it and moved forward with that kind of response. So I wouldn't say they were investigated by me, but the impression that I got from the National Commissioner was that indeed those matters were looked at by police.
Okay, Minister, on the basis of that response then, it doesn't make sense to me why you would then include them as part of the issues that you considered to be underpinning your reason. Because if I heard you correctly, you're saying you raised these matters with the National Commissioner, he dismissed them, you were comfortable with that. But we've got pages and pages of Mary Dehas here, so why would you then have them as part of the reasons why you disbanded the PKTT?
Now, they exist. Those matters exist. I think I last got the letter, I don't know whether it was October or what. So I was putting them as some of the things that I considered. I didn't ask for a report from the National Commissioner to say, give me a written report on your investigation on matters that Mary Dehas had raised. I just took it here. The intention was to say there is an indication of some problems. I could have added that I asked the National Commissioner and he dismissed them and so on, but that was not it. It was merely to say there are these matters, whether current or current, but I did those matters.
Okay. Why I was asking about Mary Dehas is that in paragraph 93, Dehas says that the task team achieved virtually nothing in 6 years except to cover up for politicians. Now, when you spoke to the National Commissioner or in your own investigations, did you find out who these politicians the task team is covering up for?
Not.
Would it be something that is being looked at because it's quite a heavy statement and it speaks to issues of political interference in the work of PKT? Would the minister not think that that's something that you need to follow?
Well, I read the whole letter, the letter as a whole, and I could see that it has got various matters and didn't really go to each matter per se. And I did say that earlier. I didn't necessarily want to put that as the only weight or the only issue. I just took them as a collective, those issues that she was raising. She is complaining about various matters, not necessarily one by one necessarily, but I still took them on board when I, especially having not gone into all of them myself. So I said maybe I should just flag these matters as matters of concern, but I knew that these are not the only one.
What has been your experience, Minister, of political interference in the SAPS? I mean, you've been there for a year now. Is there political interference that you are aware of in the functioning of the SAPS in particular? but maybe the criminal justice system as a whole?
I listened very carefully to General Mkhwanazi when he was making examples of what he views as political interference. Number one, he used a case where I called a district commissioner somewhere in KZN for some information. And then he said, this is one instance for political interference. What actually was happening there, for your benefit, I was driving a funeral of one councillor that had been murdered. Now, when I got closer to the marquee where the gathering was, I checked my notes, and my notes didn't include whether those who had been apprehended were still in with the police or they had been bailed out. So I just needed that when I addressed mourners. And so I called one official that I was with who was already there to say, just get me the number of the district commissioner. Got me the number and I phoned. Bail or no bail currently. And then he told me that, no, they're still inside. And I think we had some small conversation.
I'm sorry, Minister. I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I'm also looking at... I hear you explaining that one case, but maybe a direct question is, are you interfering generally in the work of the SAPS? Are any of your colleagues and comrades interfering in the work of the SAPS? And I remind you, you are under oath, Minister. We really need to understand, are the police being hampered from doing their job because of political interference?
To be honest, I know of no instance that I could be accused of interfering, political interference for. And so it sounded very strange when I heard that, and I couldn't recall and whatever instance. But whatever may have happened before, I don't know. But as far as I'm concerned, because I'm currently there, I couldn't recall any instance. I listened to the instances that he was talking about, and I don't agree that that constitutes political interference.
Thanks, Minister. So in your opinion, then, what is at the center of these divisions amongst the higher echelons within SAPS? And outside of calling that peacemaking meeting, what have you sought to do about these divisions within the leadership of the SAPS?
These divisions seem to be rooted in some past, if you look at them, if you listen to them. So when I came there, they're already there. Let me make an example. National Commissioner and Head of Crime Intelligence come to brief me high level and make reference to General Khan that they are investigating him, they're at an advanced stage, and they have an intention of arresting. And I respond by saying, you have my support. Then, I think a few weeks later, they then put something called expeditious kind of process to deal with him internally. Now, he then takes SAPS to court. He wins in court. So there's now no expeditious process. They then take to internal process, and he undergoes that, and he wins the case. Now, when he wins, it means he has won both cases that were at an advanced stage for him to get arrested. Now, I didn't understand that to say so, because I had asked the day before the matter was going to go to court, are we confident that there's a case? I was just asking because I had not been aware that I'd been cited as a respondent number one. So I only became aware on the day before. So then there was also a rumor that I would want General Khumalo removed as head of crime intelligence and Khan being put there. And this is what I discussed with National Commissioner. Those rumors are not based on anything that is me. So you could see that it's a reflection of some of the things that are happening within the upper echelons of police. The root causes of which I wouldn't know, except that they are sort of oldish and they were there.
Have you tried to fix them, though, as the leader of the SAPS?
As said yesterday, first thing I started with was to assure the National Commissioner that he has my support. And I remember at some point, Deputy Minister saying, you have now said enough of you having confidence to the National Commissioner, because in any major function, I would say I have confidence to the National Commissioner. So my calculation was that once the National Commissioner is confident that it's not a question of a new minister coming in and wanting him removed. I have confidence. I even told him that I haven't even checked when your term expires, and that was true. I had not operationalized it in my mind. And so I was making it easy for him to feel free. And my calculation was that National Commissioner felt comfortable and we're working together. Then the next thing was to say there's a problem between him and Sibia. And then I called him. My other step was then there's a problem between Sibia and one provincial commissioner. And then we said, I was intending to call a meeting between Sibia, who was kind of a common factor, with Khumalo, to say, what's the problem between yourselves? Because you are now hampering and disturbing the flow of work, please. Now, that I had not had the opportunity. I don't think that they have real fundamental things like this one was trying to remove my head, and I dug a big bullet, and so I don't like him, and so on and so on. I think over time, things have accumulated among them of one way or the other, and they are in this state of affairs, which is really very, very, very worrying, to say the least.
Okay, before I move on to my last and final issues that I want to raise, Minister, what did you think that day when you saw Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi at that media brief? What went through your mind? Do you think that the nation had failed, you had failed? What went?
Even though I didn't see him on the day because I was busy elsewhere, I only saw that after. My first reaction was, what? But then my mind raced back to fight back. Is it fight back? Is it taking this shape? But I couldn't help but recall that there had been that mention, a fight back. Now later, when General Khumalo got arrested together with others, then there was also another expression, the gloves are off, that I must be told that gloves are off. And I had not arrested Khumalo and other officers. But the word was, tell Minister to prevent the arrest of Khumalo, which told me that General Mkhwanazi got or became aware before they actually got arrested. I was in Cape Town. So get Minister to stop the arrest before the arrest happened. And then when that message didn't come, because he spoke to the Chief of Staff who was getting out of Cape Town, he told that person, no, let's talk when I arrive in Johannesburg. And when he arrived in Johannesburg, that person who had been sent by General, as alleged, then calls Chief of Staff to say, General Mkhwanazi says, leave it because General Khumalo has been arrested. And he said, you must tell Minister gloves up. So I'm looking at these things that are happening through the lens of those two expressions and in between a lot of other things. And I'm looking at that as something that had an impact in changing the mind of the National Commissioner, who even went to court to say he thinks that, or in a sworn affidavit, that he has no problem with the directives and so on, but the how part, and he wrote it down in black and white, which is further evidence that he had no problem, and so on. He would then turn later, when he went to the Commission for the first time, clarifying where he stands and so on.
Thanks, Minister. Just my last few questions. You spoke about the staff now. Minister, what framework demands that when you're hiring a chief of staff, you have a panel of interviewers, firstly? And secondly, who were on the list of other candidates that you mentioned that this panel was looking at?
I was meant to come with how, I don't know what I got. Yeah, how I rather read that to say this is the standard practice, and then I'll come. Sometimes compliance, I'll find it.
Okay, while he's still looking at that, sorry, Minister, we'll come back to it as soon as you get it. So, Chief of Staff has got a BTEC in policing and a diploma or so. The position of Chief of Staff is at a level 14, a Chief Director in the Public Service, Major General in the SAPS. The minimum requirement for a Chief Director is an NQF level 8, which is a honours degree. So, does the BTEC equate to a NQF level 8?
It would be honours, and then they will put other things.
But does the BTEC equate to the NQF level 8?
No, it's 7. But if you have diploma or diplomas, then
Minister Sushqat, is it not NQF level 8? Then if you have anything else, but for the door to be opened, it has to be a NQF level 8.
For sure. Let me see what. But there are specifications. But those specifications, I know that if you have other things, it happens that
maybe, I don't know if your legal counsel would either have a job description or an advert for a level 14.
Yes, I'm saying this because in many instances happen. A person doesn't have an honours degree, but has a junior degree plus other things that when when SACA investigates or go through your qualifications, they peg you at a required QF and they say you qualify. It has happened.
Okay, Minister, you were Minister of Public Service and Administration, so I'll take your word for it, but I have never seen it in practice. Otherwise, many people would not have studied if we could peg to get to NQF level. I'm not sure if you've got that information.
Honorable Sango.
Yes.
Your time is more.
Yes, the Chief said that he's over in 5 minutes. My last issue, it is my last issue. My last issue, Minister, is on the signal messages that are in this. When the Minister was testifying and he was asked about this message on page 79, which says that, Minister, I've got the case number in the judgment, now we've got something proven by the... This is a matter which either Sibia or the Minister can charge Khumalo with and apply Rule 9 of the disciplinary hearing. You testified, Minister, that you didn't know what so you didn't pay attention. But this is a big thing for you not to pay attention to it. When Brown Mkhwanazi says, I've got something that you or Sibia can to charge Khumalo, and he tells you, how could you not this thing? Why would he refer to the two of you as a collective we?
In the first place, there's no minister who would have charged no such a thing. And I doubt if the Deputy National Commissioner would have done that. And both of us, the Minister and the Deputy National Commissioner, is just a no. There's no such a procedure, please. He can only be charged by the National Commissioner or from outside. Now, when it came as a one thunderous thing, but about nothing. So I disregarded that on that score, that I didn't understand the meaning thereof. But knowing that I had received more or less other messages of that nature from which you would struggle to have a meaning. So I couldn't pursue that, but at least I knew that I had no such intention because I mentioned there, and there's no such. So sometimes you just say, let me go on with my work because there's no such, you are sure.
Okay, Minister, so you did testify that you wouldn't necessarily discuss issues of SAPS with Mr. Mkhwanazi, but you can tell that from the message he's deep within the issues of SAPS. Whether he knows processes or doesn't, he's actively working for something, whatever it is in SAPS. Then he goes on in that other page where he says they can't get anything on the Phoenix saga. Then he talks to you about people who are off the funding, inverted commas, 20. And this guy has a 3 billion rand contact with SAPS. So he's also talking about setting up that meeting between Deputy National Commissioner and Chief Staff. This doesn't sound like somebody who was not deeply involved in the issues of SAPS, Minister, and he's writing you about them.
Let me just...
what would you do when he does things?
Let me talk about 3 billion, what a tender. I didn't even know, up to date, I don't even know what the tender is, what it is all about. I did one thing that I noted there that we had spoken about with him was Phoenix thing, where he had called me and alleged that there was an investigation on Phoenix, which Phoenix is a wholesale in KZN. So he said there is somebody who is investigating, wanting to trump up some link or some Trump link between me and Phoenix, and I didn't even know what that part. And I said, you will tell me when you know something better about it. So when it returned in the manner that it returned, I assumed that it refers to. But the 3 billion tender, I didn't know. I didn't even phone him back, nor did I respond, because I just got lost what that thing was all about, let alone that I have nothing to do with tenders and SAPS, except in an instance where, like the 136, where I came across, attracted me to make an inquiry.
Just to correct you, you did respond to its cutoff. That's the one, Honourable Day.
Yeah.
Minister, this is the last question. I'm going to close to read that. So you said since the 6th of July, you've been smelling, looking, everything, General Mkhwanazi. You addressed a meeting of the ANC recently, outside reference. But I was very interested in what you said. And because you were wearing General Mkhwanazi, I wondered if this had anything to do with the current saga. There you said, uma ukuthi wenze ulenze iphutha ngoba phela umuntu ngumuntu ungasabi ukwenza iphutha ulenze nje futhi uma bekugxeka bavumele. Do you remember you talking about that?
Yes, I remember.
What mistake you, if you were talking about yourself, Minister, feel that you made there? I mean, you go on, you know what you said, right? So what is it that you were addressing? What mistake? And from this experience, do you have any lessons that you think you learned?
I wasn't addressing me at all on that day. I was addressing the chair of TAST in the region where I come from, Mr. Elfasmbata, saying you have been appointed to chair the region here. As you work, you may make some mistakes, but even when you are criticized, go on.
So it was not about you making mistakes?
No, not at all. I saw some tweets and something like that on social media. It had nothing to do with me. I was almost facing Mbata.
Have you made any mistakes, Minister, and do you think there's any lessons you need to...
Yes, there would be mistakes. No one is perfect. I know that, and me too. I'm not, but I always make an effort not to make mistakes. But even in that, but when I realized that I've made I try by all means first to admit that I made an error and then correct whatever error I would.
Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much. Chief Whip, the honourable member has informed me that your time is indivisible. So your time is going to expire at minutes after. So let me just take some 10 seconds and recognize Honourable BP. If you can please raise your hand. Thank you so much. Honourable Nana from the DA. Thank you so much, honourable members. Chief Whip, you may proceed.
No, thanks, Chair. I think, Minister, I think the first thing that I just want to bring your attention to, and you don't have to go and read because I will quote and give you the context. On your affidavit, which you presented to us, paragraph 27 and paragraph 37. Paragraph 27 talks about the fact that the extension of the lifespan of the PKTT was done on the basis of a consultation between the Minister and the National Commissioner. And I would imagine that would be a meaningful consultation, meaning a direct consultation that would have taken place. Now, on paragraph 37, you are then saying that you are bringing to our attention, actually, that both Generals Masemola and Mkhwanazi, in your own words, you are saying they failed to produce the evidence of the extension because the last extension that took place was before the resignation of the then National Commissioner General Sithole. Now, my question is, in terms of that position, Minister, do you have any evidence which confirms that indeed there was no consultation?
Rather that there was no extension.
No, let me explain why I'm putting it this way. Remember, your contention is that throughout the period after General Sithole departed, the two generals who came before us were unable to provide evidence that the sustenance of the PKTT was as a consequence of a confirmed consultation between the National Commissioner and the Minister. That would be Minister Pegicel in this case. Now, my question is, do you have evidence that actually there wasn't any consultation. Remember, they didn't give us evidence that there was a consultation according to your contention. But will you be in the position to give us evidence contrary? That actually here is the evidence. There was never a consultation.
I'm trying to think what form other than that it's not there. Maybe some investigation, because you can have it concretely when it is there, but when it is not there, it will be difficult to say here is evidence other than via an investigation within the department to say. But on my check, I was satisfied that none exists.
Now, in the normal course of events, would that consultation only be limited to a written and signed document between the Minister and the National Commissioner, or it might also include a conversation between the two?
I would basically argue that it would have been written based on information that I got. It was written. I can't deny that it may have taken whatever other form if it did.
Okay.
But in this instance, it was based on written.
Okay. No, thanks, Minister. I was asking that question because I thought, because even when General Stolle left and General Masemola took over, I suppose that's how they followed each other, or whatever the sequence might have been. But even as he has departed, the evidence exists that beyond his tenure, meetings of the IMC did take place and reports were taken to Cabinet, which may therefore justify a conclusion that in whatever form it may have taken, a green light was given by both the then Minister Cele and the National Commissioner for the PKTT to be extended. So that is the point that I wanted to make. You may want to comment on.
Yes, it's not just the reason why I was doubting verbal, it was because it has to be in the form of an assessment written down, as opposed to a request for money. There's a distinction. That's why the CFO in 2024 March talks about the need for a work study if the National Political Killings Task Team is to be drafted into the organogram. It suggests that there would have been a work study. It can't be verbal. And such a work study signed would then extend the term, and then it would release money, as opposed to the process going the other way. So I doubt that you could do it verbal, both the assessment and signing for the extension.
So in that context, Minister, shouldn't we then come to the conclusion that if there was an expectation that a meaningful consultation will occur between the Minister and the National Commissioner to extend, that therefore a meaningful consultation will also be rationally expected between the Minister and the National Commissioner to discontinue?
It would be expected.
It would be expected.
I think so, if I hear you well.
Okay. But in this case, we can conclude that because if the way in which you would expect it would be in a written form, in some form of an assessment, remember, between the big chiefs, the Minister and the National Commissioner.
Yes.
Would I be wrong then to conclude that that did not meaningfully happen between the Minister Mchunu and General Masemola in the case of a discontinuity?
That there was no extension.
Meaningful consultation between the two chiefs that, okay, we're discontinuing.
No, I have explained that I didn't consult per se on a face-to-face or in writing, but there were meetings on factors. I singled out one factor that I had a problem with. It is the category of people who came to report certain things, certain practices. And I felt that because of this factor, I would be able to rely on it to effect the directive. And then we will have discussions later, but I took that as risky and serious, and that I wouldn't be able to go to anyone and talk to them on this part. But others, I would want you to underline that. There have been processes, there have been everything, but not on the actual directive to disestablish.
Now, in your response to a question from the Senior Council, including from some of my colleagues, Minister, you made references to the fact that you had directed the Chief of Staff to send the letter to the Acting Commissioner and the National Commissioner.
Yes.
And then he decided, without your direction, to send it to the PAs of other generals. And I want to say, would the PAs of other generals include the PA of General Sibini?
I can't recall specifically, but I do recall him indicating that he sent to some PAs. I can't recall whether he did it to all Deputy National Commissioners.
Okay. I'm asking this question, and I really will not hold you accountable for that, because that was a person acting outside your instruction. But I'm asking this question because a particular web has been created of Mkhwanazi, Nhlanhla, Sibia, and I will explain later on why that web becomes a matter of concern to us, and his conduct to decide that beyond what the minister has asked me to do, I'm also sending to all others. Because when you read that web, it becomes, it's very difficult to believe that he would have excluded the PA of General Sibia.
Yes.
And it's very easy to conclude that the inclusion of General Sibia as PA may very well be informed by the fact that he had an interest for Sibia to act faster without being delayed by anybody else above Sibia. I mean, that's not your question. It's a question we will pose to him, given the deductions that we can make when we look at the sequence of events after that. But I'm not posing it to you. And then when you were responding to Honorable Malema on the Mkhwanazi question, of course, you referred to the character that you did not know, and we explained what you explained. I don't want to get into details about what exactly did you say. Now, he appears to be very central to the crisis we're handling, Mkhwanazi, in one way or the other. Will there be a way in which this will have an impact in your relationship with him? Will it define the relationship in any way? You don't have to tell me in what way, but given what has happened now, and here is this character, do you think that is going to redefine the way in which you related to him?
Without it being central, and my view is that it is not central, but your second question, definitely it will have to affect the relationship. Why? Because I related to him as an ordinary comrade, just like I do to other comrades, many. And then I relate to all of them without asking them many questions. Like when I heard that he may have had his membership expired, I recall, I never asked him whether your card is current. And it happened so with other comrades. So I would say that I just took it as a comrade whenever we talk and relate. It's only now that I get to know other things that, there's this as well. So he talks to so-and-so, he talks to so-and-so, all these people that are being revealed in the National Commission, which I had no information about. The first time I sort of blew my nose was when somebody said, this guy seems to talking to dropping your name and so on. It was sometime this year, to which I reacted by calling him. I'm getting information that you dropped my name where you are and all of that, which he denied. And I had no way of confronting him at that time to say, but here and so on. But it will definitely redefine the relationship. It will have to redefine.
Thanks. Now, when you were responding to Honorable Nomvalo, I think he was asking you a question in relation to how you gathered together the information, which help you to come to a conclusion. Some of it was from the public, others, so it came from different centers or different platforms. Now, given what I would say, Minister, is an established fact, at least in my own assessment, that there's been a huge public condemnation of this decision. Now, the decision I'm talking about is a decision to de-establish the National Political Killing Task Team. I may be wrong, but my own assessment is that there's been a huge public condemnation. And of course, it's informed by many things, some of which I'll come to it later on. Would you say that had you been alive to all that you know today, you could have taken a different decision?
I would specifically say I would have taken the same decision, but form would have been different. Like I said yesterday, I said when somebody was asking me, given what has happened, whether I would find a different approach to this, whether I would do it differently. I said yes, I would do, now that all these things, I would do it differently. Now, I'm saying the same thing. The decision would have needed to be taken, Honorable Mpemba, based on, it's even if you try to duck it, you try to avoid it, you would have needed to take a decision of this nature at some point, purely based on how you use money that is available, and ask yourself whether the way we're using money currently in SAPS is optimal, is in line with the wish to protect everybody, not only in KZN, but in the country. Is it optimal use, and also given the fact that you now have the new structure which does everything that the National Political Killing Task Team is meant to do, and so on. So you would have had to take the decision, but maybe the form that it would take, you definitely would have needed. If you were aware, if I was aware, it would have taken the same decision.
On paragraph 84 of your affidavit, Minister, you are referring to the meeting that took place on the 21st of November, and that is a meeting of the Minister and his two deputy ministers. And you are very particular that meeting, among its own part of its decisions, was that the Minister must have a meeting with the National Commission.
Yes,
there was a web of a lot of allegations that were there, and the direction was that the Minister must meet with the National Commission. Now, before you answer that, on the 22nd, there's another meeting that takes place, which is not a meeting of the Minister and the National Commission, but it's all other people who are there. Was the meeting of the 22nd already planned when you went to the meeting of the 21st?
Yes, because we couldn't call a meeting a day. It was already planned. It was already in our plans. I think we had a little chat about that even on the 21st. But yes, it was already planned. But on the first question, the actual resolution was that no, engage the National Commissioner, of course, in the meeting. That was how we framed it.
Don't you think that maybe if you had engaged the National Commissioner in a way that I think you were directed by your meeting with your colleagues, as opposed to engaging him in a bigger meeting with everybody else on the 22nd, you would have understood each other very well? And I'm asking that in the context of the fact that the National Commissioner came to you a month earlier in October and raised concerns about some of his colleagues, including his deputy, General Sbia. Now, you now meet on the 21st of November, again on the 22nd. And we got a sense that on the 22nd, that is where a discussion took place about challenges facing the organization. But don't you think that a one-on-one with him to go deeper on these matters would have been helpful as opposed to the 22nd meeting?
They perhaps would, but on the 22nd, I still had no idea what the engagement would need to take, what form it would need to take, because we had just met the previous day. So I was beginning to think, what would be the issues, what would be the approach, and so on. And I was still way before I could settle with anything that would make sense to me at that particular time. But theoretically, had something settled already to me, definitely, I see that would have been the case, assisted, yes.
I'm asking that, Minister, because I mean, you sit with your deputies and that's a political leadership of the department. And I imagine that when you were looking at these allegations, you were not looking at them in general. There may have been some general things, but you would be particularly concerned about their evolution. Maybe the allegations now, they might tomorrow evolve to be the truth. So now you're a political head, you're sitting with your colleagues and they're saying, please go and engage the chief of the police, because we can all see these things are going to lead into a major national crisis if they remain unattended. So that is why I was raising this question, because I was worried that it seems like you place less value to that conversation. And yet, the October meeting, you met with him and he raised concerns himself about some of his colleagues.
Yeah, the meeting of the 22nd, our minds were made up for raising other issues which were different from this one, and they were specific. I was going to raise as I did, the murder rates, the drugs and firearms, and then GBVNF. So we're like made up for that, even on the agenda and every other thing. But had it not been maybe for that, I continue to agree with you that you would have taken a step maybe much earlier. It would have helped, but it wasn't to be one, because I had not made up my mind, not because I put less value, not at all. I allowed it to sink, to occupy my mind going forward, and it did for some time though, because I was saying, if I would engage, what form, what issues? And there were already issues on the basket. We were going for the workshop, 3-day workshop, and that included equity matters between different units and better conditions. So that was already occupying our mind at the summit later. But I had this thing that there are serious matters that we have to discuss, and I wanted to tackle those at the beginning of the year.
No, thanks, Minister. In paragraph 140 of your statement, paragraph 140, you make reference to the role of crime intelligence and the killing of Mr. Makaka. What is the issue there? Would you like to share that with us, or it's a matter that...
Well, it's basically something that some of the people that I say contacted me wanted to talk about. Yes, maybe I could put it at that, which I then said, I would want this people or that person to come in person, wherever, which I had no idea at that time what form it would be. That's why at the beginning of the year, should it be a ministerial inquiry? I had that. That's why I had a discussion with Pikoli and so on. But we had not settled. We didn't settle on that idea. But there was an idea that there should be a platform of sorts for such people and allegations.
Okay. In your affidavit, paragraph 158, you refer to a recruitment of intelligence to strengthen a certain paramilitary structure in KZN. What is that?
Well, it's in the context of the need which was expressed via the directive, which I was meant to sit with the National Commissioner on. And it's one of the issues that I intended originally to have a discussion, among others, as we sit and discuss what recruitment, what form it should take, what are the other things that we bear in mind. I had picked up information that there were such intentions in KZN. I wouldn't be able to talk. Somehow, these would also rely on some of our structure as those get built. In other words, they would exploit any weakness and take any possibility as those paramilitary structures get established on the side.
Are you comfortable to share more on that? Because I'm asking because what you are saying in your affidavit is that this paramilitary structure, which was being organized or being set up in KZN, had its own ambition. Now, I don't know whether the ambition are of the structure or the creator, and whether the structure is in existence already, or you're picking up information that it was about to be. But your statement says to strengthen the paramilitary structure in KZN. So I would imagine strengthening means it's existing already, and it has ambitions.
Existing in some form, but there was that, according to what I got, and the ambition is that of those who were set to behind such a structure.
But would this not be the PKTT?
Well, PKTT is a political party.
No, I'm saying when you talk about this structure, you are not referring to the National Political serial killing test team?
Oh, I thought my mind is on something else. Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, but it might.
Well, I'm sure if any matter would have been gone into, if such a fact would turn out to be true, then it would be. But from the legal that I got, it just came in that form that some paramilitary is in the formation, strengthening and so on.
Were you given a sense by the people who shared that information with you? Were you given a sense of the nature of the relationship between the PKTT and the paramilitary structure?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
I hope that matter, Minister, will have to be followed very urgently, given the fact that, as you know, you know where we come from in KZN. I don't have to educate you or anyone about it. And of course, if at your level, there's an observation of a structure like that being in existence and with its own ambitions, which I would imagine are devoid from the ambition of the South African security forces, that does present a particular threat.
I agree with you fully.
Thank you. And then, Minister, the meeting that was, I think you've dealt with this question in a different level, about the meeting that was requested by General Mkhwanazi, in which he wanted to attend with all these other people, including Mr. Brown Mokgotsi, who is not a part of the organization. Now, I know you responded why you did not grant that meeting, and you explained, and you had a plan that you were also having an intention at some point to have a one-on-one with General Mkhwanazi.
Yes.
So that he can have an opportunity to express himself and you can understand each other.
Yes.
But some of the issues that resulted in you not taking that direction, and this may not be exhaustive, but some of those issues was the level of anger on his part and the threat that he meted against you. What would you say to a South African that is sitting somewhere and saying, in that environment, was it not the case that the individual interest or circumstances of the minister, our minister, remember this is our minister, all of us as South Africans, were now taking precedence? They were taking precedence over national interest. Because here is a very senior general. I'm saying senior because it's a provincial commissioner, and he says, among other things, when he's asking for a meeting, besides his family issues and what. But he begins by talking about internal challenges in the organization. Now, we are sitting there as a South African, you hear that part of the reason that the minister could not meet with this general were around the question of the threat and the anger of the general. How would you respond to this South African who say, maybe at that moment, the individual interests of the minister were taking precedence over national interest?
Not really, because I decided that the meeting would rather take a different form. Let me start with a meeting of General Masemola and General Sibi. Let me then go to the meeting with General Sibi and General Mkhwanazi, which were not much beyond that of the nation. So I decided a different angle, or to start the meeting in a different way. These other ones, his posture after, as a reaction to my directives, was not uppermost at that time, but they were in the environment, as I said before. But the main thing was, so General Mkhwanazi is talking about internal issues. He's mentioning these people. Perhaps I should start with the two whose matters are kind of buzzing in SAPS at head office, from where I said, so that we move and so on, intensify these interactions if there are problems. Let's resolve. At some point I said to National Commissioner, could he give me an opportunity to resolve or to approach General Sibia on his own matters as alleged and so on. So I was very keen to actually not leave anything, but in the context of that request, but also in my own right, because I was sensing that there is a certain level of, so never did that happen or nearly happened. I had personal interests on the matter. I was just putting it aside, looking at it, how it developed, that kind of reaction, and we're going on to work with my side on the side.
Now, the Minister, would you agree with me when I say the confidence of the population on the work of the South African Police Service should also manifest itself in one way or the other, to the extent to which they also express the confidence in the leadership of that South African Police Service?
It's basically one basket, because they are meant, they expect that the minister would make efforts to raise the bar or raise confidence of South Africans to law enforcement in one way or the other, where it is to high level and so on. So it's somehow tied, it's a chain.
Now, how do you think South Africans have interpreted your intervention when you said here in this Ad Hoc Committee, for a certain matter, you are pursuing a private investigation as a Minister of Police? What message do you think that is likely to communicate to the Republic?
Well, it's the nature of what I'm doing, and I take it that there would be understanding. I can't go to a police station and say I'm opening a case against so and so, because that is not what I have. I don't have a case against the individual that I can open a case against, but it does need to be followed up in a particular way. So I wouldn't expect any confusion on that. There are matters for which you can't go to a police station, but matters though that you have and it can't go to the police station because there's no case to register at that point. In other words, there's no obvious wrongdoing, but you are gathering information and so on. So I take it that there would be clear understanding.
Honorable Sango.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, just to follow up, I'm sorry. Minister, you complained at length about General Mkhwanazi, what's the word I'm looking for, going out to look for a case about you post facto. You said he has no case, he can't prove corruption, and he's going to look for it. How is what you are saying now different? You are the Minister of Police, you're supposed to have confidence in the police. If there's things that you're unhappy with, you report them to the police because there's a case. But you're saying you're going after someone, you don't have enough information, you've hired a private investigator. How does that differ from what General Mkhwanazi did to you or is doing to you?
No, it's different. Here, you've got a certain chain of activities that have emerged about, and they are aligned with a particular individual. Now, I then get a warning that so-and-so gets to drop your matters or your name here and there and so on. I phone him. And my intention is to talk to him and say, look, I have appointed somebody to look at whatever. I'm not opening a case. I'm just following on that allegation that I picked up that I was warned about to say he drops my name, which he denied. Now, when I look at the SMSs that are being spoken about, and if they are true, it does mean that there would be this and that it does dropping my name even on those. So it's something that is open that I need to find and so on.
Thank you.
Okay, no, thanks, Chair. Let me just give a second to the lawyer still giving some information to the minister. No, I'm not a problem. I just want to be certain that the minister can hear me. I'm not condemning you. You are doing your work, yeah. Now, Minister, maybe let me just share this with you because it was raised earlier on, maybe without it being specific. This issue of how people interpret immediately other people. Let me just share with you what General Sbiya said to us. And he says that at paragraph 46 of his son affidavit, he told us that immediately does not mean 6 months or within a month. It means immediately, now. It's written like that in his affidavit. It means immediately, now. And of course, that position, that perspective has to be our understanding of that. In a way, it does coalesce with the understanding of the other two generals, which is Mkhwanazi and Masemola, that the intervention was with immediate effect. You can comment if you want to on this issue, but I'm just making you aware that your subordinates, the recipient of your instruction, if there's one thing that they are converging about to the three generals, the only thing I've heard that these ones are agreeing on is the fact that immediately means now.
I would contest that. That is the understanding. The first one is that General Masemola, I think he understood it well. It starts on the 3rd. It goes to the 22nd via a letter suggesting a phased approach in terms of managing the implementation of the directive. It goes to the meeting of the 6th, 5th, and then 6th, and then 27th, which had no immediate in that particular context. It was clear that this is his understanding, and I agreed with it. So if he came here to say immediate meant now, I would say immediately that, but that's not your understanding in terms of what you proposed. That's number two. I wouldn't know what was Sbiya's thinking, because this thing is on two fronts. Immediate means now, but in terms of understanding that a decision has been taken, and then you start processes. But that in actual fact, you could say now, like switch off the light. I would say switch off the light now. You can stand up, and that's not the ordinary. That's not the thinking of an ordinary person in terms of what this thing would mean. Even now, we'll say, when are you going to Johannesburg? You say, I'm going to Johannesburg now, but you are going. The next thing you do, you go and wait in the airport for an hour or two. So I think let's be practical and ordinary, and not seek to change the flow of things in the normal life. But when I wrote with a full understanding of what I meant. I'm taking a decision now, but let's meet on the 20th. Let's meet on the 20th, which itself was open. If anybody had a query, would have phoned, would have done all of that. But so I don't think we need to be fussy and rigid in terms of the meaning of immediate, even though it's applied. It has to be applied like any other, I would say. And I even went on to say it's not like in a drill. I made an example. So people can argue and so on. Otherwise, but when I wrote, that's what I meant. That's how I saw things. That's why I wrote preliminary report, even though I said now, but said preliminary report, and I pointed at the 20th and then later. And I know you don't stick with your dates necessarily like a robot. Sometimes things get postponed and so on. So it was in that text.
Chief Whip, let's just hold.
Okay.
I see you are left with I see there are 3 hands there. The minutes left are 4 for you, Chief.
No, the 4 minutes is more than enough for me.
Yeah, no, I'm informing you that your time left is 4 minutes. Honorable Skosana, Honorable James, Honorable Nhlanhla.
Thank you, Chair. I thought that the minister by today, he will have accepted, the issue and the meaning that you know, it's like they are insulting our intelligence. You know, explaining this issue of immediate as if we don't understand. And mhlambe asazi ukuthi immediate usho ini. And this already was there was an illustration here. If you tell your driver that he must stop the car immediately, your driver will think and stop 100 kilometers away after you told him to stop the car. It can't be. I think, Minister, you must accept that immediate means immediate, not what you are trying to, the way you are responding to us is like we are going around the bush. We understand exactly what immediate means. Please respect us, Minister. Thank you, Chair.
I'm ruling you out because I thought you are asking a clarity-seeking question. Honourable James.
Chairperson, we must be mindful of the fact that there are children watching. And I think it's really, I want to agree with Honourable here. I think it's really insulting our intelligence to be going over this and saying that the word immediately may mean now, later, and coming up with all of these examples. Can you not insult us like that? Can we just be clear? There's then a clear language barrier that is then evident in this room that we've been entertaining for the last couple of days, and we've been dragging on issues based on the simple meaning of words. Chair, we cannot continue like this. It takes up so much time. In every engagement with so many of the members, we've had to unpack what the word immediately means, and so many other words. Please protect us from this blatant undermining of our intelligence. Thank you, Chair.
I'm ruling you out of order because it's not a clarity-seeking question. Honourable Nhlanhla.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, the Minister in his response to the Chief Whip, he makes mention of the fact that anyone who would have had a problem with the immediate provision in his directive would have extended even a call to him to get some clarity if a need arises. Now, I'm taking a back, Chair, because if that would be a proper or adequate modus operandi, would we be here if the Minister had extended a call to General Mkhwanazi when it was reported by his Chief of Staff that General Mkhwanazi is angry and making threats? The same way he did when he heard that Brown Mohotsi is name-dropping him, he extended a call. Would we actually be here had that particular modus operandi operated way before this thing bested in the manner in which it has bested? Thank you.
Let's do it like this, Honourable Members. Honourable Minister, you have given many examples trying to explain the weight. And the last examples are the ones that you have just given now. Yes, I will come to about switching off the light. Yes. And there are other examples that you have given, what the weight immediately and what. And I want to also plead with you. If we make it a habit of this parliament, discuss weights, swimming pool, fire, immediately, not in. We want to make it a habit of this parliament. It's a problem. We are leadership. A swimming pool must stay a swimming pool, and immediately must stay immediately. I don't see us wasting any time, Chief Whip, trying to discuss English words. It's very clear. So immediately is immediately. We know it, Minister, what it means. It means now. Yes. It cannot be any other thing. And I just want us to move away from being hostages of semantics. There is an established understanding of what the word means. So we can't be a parliament that is known for what it is not supposed to be. Thank you so much. Honourable Novalo, your hand was up.
Yeah, no, on the same issue, Chair, I know that you have closed it. But maybe you are hard on the Minister. Maybe he has a source that he uses which describes the word differently. Because dictionaries are used here in South Africa to get a meaning of the word. Dictionaries are used, and the name immediately has been used even by the Office of the President to say this decision is effective with immediate effect. Maybe the Minister can point us to a source that he is using with a different direction, because I even went to the Oxford Dictionary, I went to Cambridge. The word means now. It doesn't mean anything else. So I was going to ask, where does the Minister get that definition from? It's a clarity-seeking question, because it might happen that really he genuinely believes that it doesn't mean now, because there is a source that he uses which describes words. So which source is the Minister using to get that definition? Thank you.
Do you agree with my summary, Honourable Member?
I agree, Chair, but...
Yeah, no, we will pass the question, don't worry.
Okay.
Honourable Malem.
No, Chair, I want your summary to also apply to the Minister, because we this side seem to be understanding immediately to mean now. He's the only one who doesn't understand that. He gives it context of lights and all of that. He keeps on saying other things. So you are ruling, you must be able to communicate even to him or Minister. Immediately means now, according to this meeting of ours, as a chair of this meeting.
No, I agree with you.
Yes, it must not only apply to us. And he must shift from wanting to, because it's not semantics. He keeps on speaking about context. When used in a particular context, it will mean something else. But the reality is, it means now. And we are not accepting his explanation and his redefinition of immediately. We are accepting what you are saying, and he needs to live with that. He needs to accept that.
No, I agree with you, because I have said it that it must not be a bad precedent for this parliament, where every time we have proceedings, South Africans will have to bring their dictionaries along, because they know Parliament will be arguing if this is immediately or it's here after. So, Honourable Minister, we have an established understanding of what the word is, and let us not go back. Let's go ahead. Let's proceed with that. That immediately means now. Honourable Nomvalo, Honourable Nomvalo has asked you a question which says maybe you might have consulted another source, and he's interested to know what is the source that would have given you a different understanding of the word.
I wrote immediately, and then I said preliminary report, and then I said UNESCO. Now, I can't say any other thing, but it is the right of the committee to exclude what I included in the letter. I won't contest that because you are the ad hoc. I'm not dealing with the meaning of immediate. I'm talking about it as applied in the letter that I wrote. Thank you.
No, honorable members, let's proceed.
Chair.
Honorable Malema.
Minister, are you accepting the ruling of the chairperson?
Honorable Minister, are you able to respond to the question?
The chair is chairing the meeting. And
Yes. Are you accepting? We said we accept. He even asked us, do you accept my ruling? He asked Honorable Nomvalo if he accepts his ruling. So I'm asking you through the chair, do you accept his ruling?
I feel there is a prejudice I will suffer if I accept it as it is, the ruling. But, and I'm saying I have no problem with the committee deciding, but I feel that we can't exclude these other words that I include.
Okay, I see Honorable Breitenbach and Honorable Nhlanhla hands are up.
Thank you, Chair. This point is dead. It has been flogged to death. I kind of wish it was me that had been flogged to death, but it has been flogged to death. We cannot, and neither can you with the greatest of respect, tell the Minister what to say. His evidence is his evidence. His answers are his answers. If you don't like them, you can cross-examine him on them, and if you still don't like that, you can argue it at the end, but we, and neither can you, put words in his mouth. That is just patently wrong and unfair, and I don't know any process that allows it.
Honorable Nhlanhla.
Chair, you unfairly clubbed my question with people who were talking about immediately, and my question was differently packaged on the issue of the modus operandi the minister was suggesting people should have done. But it's fine, maybe the minister can make sentiments on it. But I want to check, Chair, now that this matter is coming to it, that the minister says there is a context, and the context is that immediately then the 20th. And that is not the context in my understanding.
Yeah, no, I don't want us to debate the matter. I want the minister to respond to that question that you have asked, and we move ahead. You had earlier asked your question. So if we were going to keep on debating immediately on Medelec, I don't think that it's going to help. Do you allow me to give the minister a chance to respond to the question that you asked?
It's fine.
You can restate the question so that he remembers what
I got it.
You got it. Okay, thank you.
Now, I was at that time merely indicating what could have been the case to clarify whatever, if there was any reason, if there was a reason to clarify it. It's a normal thing that if there's something like an instruction or a letter you don't understand, you can phone, you can ask for a meeting on the site and so on. Then when you talk about General Mkhwanazi, that could have been done as well. I could have lifted the phone and say, I pick up that you are angry, but I didn't choose to do so. I chose to be quiet and silent on the matter and observe what's happened. Thank you.
Yeah, Chief Whip, may you use your last 4 minutes?
You remember my 4 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. No, thanks, Chair. No, I would just stick to that 4 minutes. By the way, the reason I was raising this point, Minister, I know that my colleagues have taken it to a different direction. The reason I was raising it was because I wanted to bring to your attention, to draw your attention to the fact that the subsequent actions in the department following your directive were done on the basis of a particular understanding of what the directive meant. That's all I wanted to say. And I'm not contesting your argument about the context and all that we're saying. I wanted just to draw your attention to the fact that the way in which processes evolved in the department were driven by a particular understanding of the directive. Now, I want to conclude by, I'm just going to read a few things here and then ask the last question, Minister. You don't have to write them, or you can write them, but it's things that it's just to connect the many dots up to date. The first one is that you wrote a letter on the 31st of December. The second one is that Mr. Nkabinde, without your instruction, shares the letter with all the PAs, which I want to contend it would not have excluded General Sbiya until I'm proven otherwise. The third point is that Mokgotsi talks to Matlala immediately following the directive being out. In terms of the evidence that has been shown in the papers presented before us, there's an indication that they, soon after your directive, started to converse over WhatsApp. The fourth point is that Mokgotsi and Sbiya often find time to either talk to each other or even to meet. Sometimes they even meet where they were not expecting each other, but Mokgotsi will come across to greet. Number 5 is that Sbiya, after your directive, he immediately directed that Tama dockets must be brought back to the head office. Number 6 is that no work was done on any of those dockets when they were taken back to the head office for that 4 months. And when they were brought back, I think in less than a month after they were brought back, some arrests have taken place. Number 6 or number 7 is that when Mr. Matlala had a problem with his tender, he decided to go to the SAPS headquarters or wherever, but to meet General Sbiya when Sbiya was the acting National Commissioner. Number 7 is that in July, you issued a statement distancing yourself from Matlala, and then you directed your lawyers, as was, I think, engaged on the input made by Honorable Malema, which resulted in an affidavit or whatever that has happened. Now, here is my question then, Minister. With all these coincidences, with all this coincidence, that in and of itself present a serious conundrum on the state of the security in our country. This coincidence, all of them. Because from where you are sitting, these things are not coordinated to happen the way they happen, but this is how they happen in terms of the evidence before the people of South Africa. Now, my question is, and this is my last question, obviously. Now, as a cadre of our movement, and I'm using that deliberately, because as you know, I'm the chief whip of the ANC. As a cadre of our movement, how do you intend to restore the public confidence and the trust to the Ministry of Police, to the nation, and lastly, to our movement, given these allegations? Because the web that I've drawn for you, it will be difficult for anyone to disagree that read together, it constitutes a particular and a very serious threat to the legitimacy, not just of the work of the police, the nation, but equally the movement that you come from. Thanks, Chair.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair. Let me leave the first set of things from 31st, all PAs, not because I'm not responsible, but saying I recognize them as important, just for the sake of time, leave them. But on dockets, I would recommend that the Ad Hoc Committee gets a full report on the Ad Hoc Committee and the state of dockets. My understanding is that it's not a simple matter of dockets moving from KZN and back and so on. And it's not a simple matter of dockets sitting in Pretoria and then back before we reach a conclusion on the matter. And I would attach a lot of importance that the committee makes an effort to get information. And I did at some point recommend that one of the people who can be an authority in terms of information on this, who handled, as far as I'm concerned, General Masipa, I would recommend that the committee makes an effort to provide that time. Two, on the relations between Nhlanhla and Sibia, I would agree, seeing that Nhlanhla seems to be a person running, I don't know whether this is the only tender, or the other tenders, that it's not a conduct that inspires confidence, that you have your headquarters where the entrepreneurs just befriend you to a point where such a thing would happen. And it does affect confidence, for instance, to other tender or tenderpreneurs and so on, to say, so-and-so is able to run up and down, but I am also a businessman, I'm not able to run up and down, it's a problem. One of the things that I can mention in this, somewhere in January, the offices of crime intelligence in East London, somebody just walked us to get inside the gate, proceeded to the offices, asked for a particular officer, went there and said, once he was there, declared the office a crime scene. Now, once declared the crime scene, he made a demand of, I think, 1.2 million or so. And then the officer in that office went out, came back with 1.2 million, gave it to this person. Person climbed down, walked out of the building, out of the gate, just walked, no car, and then walked and disappeared, although subsequently arrested by DPCI. But I'm saying those things, they contributed in one of the directives to say, what kind of people do we have in crime intelligence? And in Randbeck as well, there was also a report, 600,000 disappeared from the hands of officers who were there, distributed it to amongst themselves and so on. So those are the matters. So I would say it does take confidence. It does need to be looked at, our behavior in relation to business people and so on, if we are to inspire confidence. Leave that, go to, I do want to just pass the affidavit. We had a discussion with Honorable Malema on this in this committee, and I said I share his views in terms of the affidavit, but sharing the views as I do, that is the very thing that is being used to keep on poking at me to say there's a person I relate with when I say I don't relate to Nhlanhla, I've never spoken, but there's still things that are running. Now, when the lawyers get an affidavit, I don't think I deserve to be, well, criticism is always, but I don't deserve to be, well, I would say we need to equally recognize that that is the very same person that is being used to say this one relates to the other. So when the affidavit says something and people tend to disregard that, I have a feeling that says that we are choosing, we choose sides and so on. Let me pass that. So go to the fundamental question that what needs to be done when there is a situation like that and people in South Africa feel the way. I would have said openly to this doc that down the line you would have needed some measures, maybe not wholesale overhaul, but you would have needed measures to overhaul certain aspects of South African police service if you are to gain confidence. One of those is to say, what is the standard? What are the norms and standards for a police station? And I've put it, management, that let's do the norms and standards for a police station. Because police and policing is not just head office. Police and policing is what people see on a daily basis and what they hear on a daily basis. Now, what is the system that station commanders use to police their area and so on? What informs them? And then overhaul the system of vehicles in police stations. This practice of a car breaks down somewhere Kukumbu in the Eastern Cape, then an email has to go to the district office, then to the provincial office, then to head office, and then the person who fixes cars says, I want to wait until there are 15 breakdowns before I go down. It just is taking us nowhere. It doesn't build confidence and so on. Make the system work in favor of those who are on the ground, who are chasing criminals on a daily basis. You need an overhaul there. We spoke about that, but I don't think that as of now we are talking. In other words, build confidence from the floor and upwards, and do tangible things. If you have a police station which you promised some 5-10 years ago and you haven't done so, and there's crime, people will say it's because that police station has not been, and therefore juggle the way you build infrastructure, your model of building infrastructure, police, and so there are quite a number of things. I call them enablers. We identified them and we spoke about them. Build down, and let's not talk too much. Let's talk less and do the job on the ground, and then deal with deal with the matters. As long as we have this rate of matters, the drugs and firearms, which affects people on a daily basis, where they are losing their relatives and so on, people killed innocent. And for that you need resources. Let's be realistic. You need resources, and you're not going to get those from Treasury. You are going to have to deal with the matters on the ground. I would say it's a long process which needs drastic steps. Of course, with caution, because you're dealing with people to take. But if you draw back, if you sit back and you think that there's going to be confidence suddenly, I don't think that is realistic. It's not. Unfortunately, Mpemba, as I end, there is in doing these things, these reforms and so on. There is. It's not going to be like sleeping on a bed. It's going to cause some gravel in terms of feelings and so on. But you need these changes. You need these changes on the ground so that you bring confidence to the people. And it needs that kind of resolve internal.
Thank you so much, Chief Whip. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. We have come to the end of this session. No. I'm saying we have come to the end of the session, not of the process. We are going to break immediately and come back at 5. Thank you so much.
Wena no General Sibiya enazi ukuthi immediately usho ukuthi slow or later nina nobabili futhi nihamba nobabili kuleyo nto leyo. Akuphathi kabi yini ukuthi sibe ngosomacingwane mhlambe kusukela namhlanje njengomuntu omkhulu kangaka uyosifaka ohlazweni mhlambe sigcine sisinalo lochashaza ukuthi hey labantu laba banamampunga baphika into ebhaliwe ibhasi libhaliwe aliphike nje.
Ngicabanga ukuthi kulolo daba selixoxiwe lwafinyelela ekugcineni, kodwa ke senga-eda nje ukuthi anything noma yini ehlukumeza isibongo sasemachunini noma ngabe yini iqhama ngayiphi indlela, njengoba noma yini ehlukumeza abantu besinye isibongo ingabaphatha kabi. So noma yini eqhamukayo engaphatha kabi isibongo ingiphatha kabi ngiphatha noma ngabe.
So ngaloko ke mphathi wami ucabanga ukuthi mhlawumbe ungalithatha lethuba ulisebenzisa ukuthi usho ukuthi cha lokuthi ngiqinisa ikhanda ngithi immediate uminisha lokho engaminishi lokho for the sake of isibongo sabantu bakithi angihloniphise ngijike lo mpendulo. Ucabanga mhlawumbe lokho? Cha, angikucabanga. Hayi ngikunikele lelo thuba mphathi wami. How confident are you kuma skills and competency wakababa uGeneral Usibiya? Ngikubuza lokho ngoba in his competency report, likhalu page 8 and 9, it says he failed. In his words, it was not positive.
Ikhona ichashaza okulibekayo uze kube sengathi ungathi he passed, and any other person at that level you would want to say pass. That's what you would want to hear whenever such things are spoken about. Kodwa mawusuza ukuthi kwaba khona into enjalo iba khona into ethi then what happened. Kodwa ke kuya ngokuthi yayinamandla angakanani leyo nto ukumnika noma ungamnika umsebenzi, nokuthi kuya ngokuthi izinto ezazikhona lapho zazi namandla kangakanani phezulu kwalokho, ngoba mhlambe kwakuyi out of 10.
I-confidence yakho kuyena ubaba uGeneral Sibiya ime kanjani since usuzwile ukuthi hayi azange be positive?
Umuntu ongaphendula ngqo kanjalo supervisor wakhe uGeneral Masemola. Mina ngakhuluma ngeka-General Masemola, umuntu engisebenza naye eduze, kodwa hayi ko-Deputy General, so ko-Deputy Commissioner. Abangeni kulolu hlalo ukuthi whether or not nginayo i-confidence ngoba abasupervisor yimina, abasupervisor National Commissioner.
Mhlawumbe nalombuzo engizokubuza wona ngangangiphendula kodwa ngangiphendula but ngiyacela uzame. 2016 i-DA no Mr. Herman Mashaba, they claim ukuthi ba-appointe Mr. Sibiya. Do you have any idea ukuthi why they concealed to the South Africans or from the South Africans ukuthi they hired a person who doesn't meet the competency requirements?
Inkinga nje ukuthi esengeke ngikuzwa ngabanye abantu nanjengoba kunale commission, kodwa abantu abazi kahle abantu ababekhona ngesikhathi iqashwa ukuthi bazi kwakukhonani babhekane bathini ngalokho. Uma kwakukhona ibona abangakhuluma babe inkulumo yabo benesiqi. Mina ngifika nje usengaphakathi Usibiya.
Mhlawumbe wena if bekuwena ubuhleli lapha kulesahlalo ubungamthatha engaphasanga i-competence?
Umbuzo wakho uyawubuza kuya ngokuthi vele yini ezokwenza ukuthi umuntu aqasheke noma angaqasheki. Uma kuwukuthi lokho kumele njengomgomo ukuthi kuyamphasisa noma kumphasisi, ngeke ukuthi engayiphasanga ubuso uyamthatha kodwa kuyiyo futhi into emile ekutheni uyadlula noma kadlula. So ngeke ngazi le competency test okukhulunywa ngayo iyayimi kuphi ezintweni zonke ezazikho.
Mhlawumbe njengomphathi phela ngenzela ukufunda nami ngizoba uminister ngelinye ilanga. Ucabanga ukuthi kulesi sihlalo singaka noma kulezi ayitholile sidinga ukuthi umuntu i-competence yakhe ibe nayo mhlawumbe kungabe 100% or ngamthatha ngo98 ngamthatha ngo20 or ngamthatha
generally ngokwe procedure noma ngokwenqubo umuntu mayese interviewile ukuthi wayiface panel yamnikeza amamaki nayo yonke into nokuthi angaconsider ukuthi athathwe ilabo afanele bamthathe bayabamuse competency test kusese kuyobhekwa ama skills athize uma ke ibuya ibe sihlanganiso nokuthi kuthathwe ke isinqumo esiphelele ukuthi kwenzekani ngaye manje yiko nje ngithi angazi kahle ngoba ngangingekho ngesikhathi kwenziwa konke lokho ukuthi yathi mayibuya competency test inalokho bakufaka kusiphi isikali babona ukuthi kuyamvimba noma kuyamdlulisa base bethatha leso sinqumo kodwa ngokwenqubo kuqhutshwa kanjalo ukuthi after interview then competency test and then emva kwalokho ke bese yabuya ke ezoconsider ke lo qondene ukuthi uyamthatha noma amthatha ukuthi unamba bani kulabo abanye kade be-interviewa kuyakusetshenzwa kanjani.
Mhlawumbe ukuze ngithole impendulo Mhlonishwa angiyilungise la owakho umbuzo kuwe lo owuphendulayo uthi kwenziwa kanjani ukuze umuntu adlule emva kwe-interviews angene ku-competency bese kwenziwani owakho ke lo mbuzo oyibuze wena nawo kwami ngicela ukuyilungisa and gcina isikhathi ungilungisela ungadli isikhathi sami ngombuzo ka-minister owami uthi if wena bokulesimo sala abantu abahleli ngale ubuzomcasha yini i-competence ingaphelelanga yini
uma ngabe i-competence inochopho nani kuwukuthi futhi lokho ikhona okumesangweni ukuthi uyadlula noma adlula uma ukuthi akadluli ngenxa lokho so bengeke kodwa uma kuwukuthi uhlelo lwabo ukuthi cha lo muntu engaphasanga kodwa ke uyathathwa kuwukuthi indlela abahlele ngayo ukuthi kuqashwana kanjani lapho kusho ukuthi ungamthatha ke uma ngabe kuwukuthi akubalekile ukuthi uyayiphasa noma akayiphasi i-competency test nanokuthi uma usukuhlanganisa nama maka onke oku-interviewer ubhekisisa futhi nabanye uzokwazi nokumthatha noma uzomthatha kodwa kuyeke kube kuhle ukuthi kuphaseke akuyona into straightforward ukuthi you fail i-competence then ngoba angazi noma i-competence noma i-aspect yayo or sangikhuluma nje ngikuzohlwini kancane oswini kancane
mhlawumbe angazi noma ngichaze kanjani ubuye wena uyibuze yakhe imibuzo bese uyayiphendula ungayi kulobo uzoyime ngake ngaba u-exam ama-learners license i-learners uyayiphasa or uyayifail uyabona ukuthi ufail kuze umuntu athi ngifeyile nga-1 ngifeyile kanti it's a pass or fail so i-competence nje ipass ne-fail in this regard if you were sitting in that position ubuzomthatha ube ngumthatha ephasi i-competence or eyifeyilile
manje kulukhuni ukuthi iphendule ngendlela ofuna ngayo ngoba usubuzile wona oqeda manje mase ngiphendula ufuna ukungalusa
cha asilungisa ngixolise mphathi wami
bese ngakwazi ukuphendula
enzela ukuthi
ngithi
ngiyaphendula lo obuzwe mina
ngiyaphendula nje kahle ngithi i-competency test abanye abantu bayibethi nomuntu eyifeyilile kodwa athathwe kuye ngokuthi i-criteria yabo lo kwenza ukuthi umuntu athathwe ukufeyila nokuphasa kuyingxenye into lokho abanye bathi hayi uyifeyilile i-competence kodwa ile ngxenye ye-competency test so singamthatha or hayi ufeyile le ngxenye ye-competence strong kakhulu ngeke aze athatheke or abanye bethi hayi babona ukuthi anga-improve something like that so kuye kube khona izinto akubi straight ukuthi ufeyile i-competence then or pass i-competence angayiphasa futhi i-competence uthola ukuthi ngapha ku-interview ayikhona khambanga kahle then awusamthathi ke njalo kodwa enze kahle ngale competence so akuyona into straightforward as far as
mphathi as a minister lapha esiphoyiseni wena obhekelele umthetho from cabinet are you allowed ukuphula imithetho noma kunezinto uma uphulile imithetho sithi hayi le ngoba iphula uminister singayibeka eceleni
cha awuvumelekile ukuphula umthetho
singakwazi ukwenza lokho okay ngibuza ngoba ngifuna sibheke impendulo zakhe endaweni eziningi did you give uNkabinde noma chief of staff uNkabinde an unlawful or illegal instruction to record Baba Mkhwanazi on the phone?
No, I gave him no instruction. I only made a suggestion to.
Uyazikhumbula uthi kuyena ngimtshelile ukuthi abomrecorda?
Ngikhumbula ngithi ngathi he must consider.
Eshe ngaquleka ngamacingwane. Mhlambe singayibuyele emuva siyoyihlola mhlambe ngelinye ilanga. Kodwa ke wena in your words uthe umtshelile ukuthi aka record Mkhwanazi. Asibambeke ngale yakho indlela.
Okay.
Do you think umnikeze umbono oqondile yini ngaleyo ndlela umnikeze ngawo? Mhlawumbe wacabanga ukuthi ngabe ukuthi umnikeze into illegal?
Cha kukho illegal ukuthi uma ngikhuluma nawe ngifisa ukuthi ngirecord ngazizathu simbe ongavumelekile ukudlulela kumuntu wesithathu ukuthi alalele nina nobabili bese ya record.
Njengoba sibaningi la mphathi wami njengoba uyidlulisile ke le voice note ubumtshelile ukuthi ngiyakurecorda noma uzokurecorda uNkabinde ngizoyidlulisa.
Hayi mina ngimrecordanga.
Usho ukuthi uNkabinde uyena uphule lo mthetho?
Wala ngazi noma uphulile.
Asibuyele emuva mphathi ungangishiyi. Ngiyakuthembela kakhulu kuwe ukuthi wena uphethe umthetho. Kodwa muzothi awazi noma uphulile. I-act ithini ngokurekhodana? Lo mbono unikeze uNkabindo ukuthi ubomrecord mayekhuluma nawe. Is that a lawful instruction, not also tax instruction? Umbono omuhle yini lo?
Ukurekhoda umuntu okhuluma naye wena akuyona into unlawful. Okunlawful ukuthi nithi nikhuluma nebabili bese bakhona umuntu on record.
Njengoba uNkabindo enzile.
Enze kuba
Wena
erecorda mina sikhuluma naye.
wena esikhuluma nawe la eParliament wena oze nayo uyithathephi?
Angisezwa ke noma sikhuluma ngento eyodwa.
Sikhuluma nge-recording mphathi VN voice note. It's you who brought that VN to Parliament. Therefore that means Mkhwanazi uNkabindo took it somewhere and gave it to you. Then you become number 3. Is that what you are saying?
No, ngithi umthetho ukuphuleka uma abantu bekhuluma bese uqhamuke khoneni bese uyabarekhoda.
Mhlawumbe yima ungakuzwa. Kulesi sigameko esenzakele. Are you saying ubaba uNkabindo lento ayenzile ukuthi arecord ubaba Mkhwanazi engamtshelanga 1 bese 2 ayithatha ke le recording ayidlulisele kuwena which makes you number 3. Akenzanga into wrong according to you.
Uma urecorda inkulumo oyikhuluma nomuntu ngqo njengoba ngeke ngasho ngathi kukhona intombazane engangakhuluma nayo yangirecorda ngazi yayisi ihlela yonke indawo leyo nkulumo kodwa umthetho uthi uma ngabe lo okhuluma nawe ekurecorda akuyona into yokuphula umthetho ngifuna ugcina lapho nje ngifuna ukwanda
ngizodlula yabona ngalomthetho if bekuthiwa nje bekwenze bekuzocelela iveni imela ngaphandle mawuphuma uyigebelela iveni ngoba uphukile lo mthetho asingayiceleni phansi so uyavuma ukuthi wena unikeze umbono namhlanje nje base umbona that day beku instruction kuNkabindo ukuthi akamrecord
cha ngaze ngimnikeze instruction
umnikeze umbono wena umnikeze did you not under oath say that awumazi uBrown siku committee
angaze ngisho ukuthi angimazi uBrown
mhla ka 5 March
hayi angaze ngisho
what uyamazi
uBrown
first time ukuzwa uBrown
angaze ngisho ukuthi ngiyamazi uBrown mhla ka 5 angaze ngisho futhi ukuthi angimazi ngathi akayona i-associate in other words akayena umuntu engisondelene naye esibhema naye ugwayi ngaphi kalokho kuphela
ngathi manje uyintsha lempendulo nginenhlanhla yokuthola impendulo ezintsha angizobhora abantu la phakathi
cha ngithi mhlonishwa idlalile la isayilalela ithi the person that General Mkhwanazi is talking about is not my associate isho kanjalo eqaleni comment yami ithi the person that was on the phone the photograph that was on the phone I responded by saying I don't know this person ngachaza ukuthi kwangeyena uBrown lo it was not Brown so mangathi ngathi angimazi ngangasho yena uBrown kangisho umuntu wayesesithombeni ocingweni okwangeyena uBrown
lesithombe osinikwa ubani
ngangisinezwa enye insizwa kuthiwa umuzi
mhla siku committee u virtual bakhombisa isithombe
cha angithi mina ngesikhathi siku committee ngase ngixoxela icommittee into yakenzeka kumina ngelinye ilanga ngikwe ekisendaweni ethize ihlangana nomuntu ethi khona umuntu onje kanje uhambe ekhuluma ukuthi ngase ngithi lo muntu ubani lo muntu ngaze ngathi awungikhombise uma ungasithola isithombe bongikhombisa wasengikhombisa ke emva kokufuna hayi ukuthi sasikhona isithombe eParliament kwangekho isithombe eParliament ngangixoxa indaba xoxela icommittee istory soqala ngasixoxa ngase ngixoxe sesibili istory somuntu wangifonela ethi kunomuntu ngaphe Witbank ohambe ukukoleka imali ethi umfowethu omncane ongilamayo ngase ngichaza ukuthi ayikho into enjalo usahambe emhlabeni so kwakuzistory zami nje lezo ezimbili
kona uqinisile minister istory hayi uphiwe uyakhumbula uthi uprincipal we-issue yakacwecwe usethathile ama blood test waphinde wena futhi wajika wathi no akawathathanga
yes ngiyakhumbula
uyakhumbula iviki elidlule usibizile wasibeka la phansi wathi wena une recording eveza ubufakazi bokuthi ubaba Mkhwanazi uthreatenishile
cha ngithe kune recording engifisa ukuthi iParliament lizwe or iCommittee lizwe la khona kune recording ethize ngase ngichaza ke uma ingasenzeki leyo nto ukuthi kube kuphi la kube khona inkinga ngakusasa
excuse baba
ngakusasa
so sisesokhuluma ke ngalento yale voice note ngizama ukuza nepattern yokuthi amahlandla amaningi minister uvamise ukuthi ngathi kuyayiphumela la kuwena uvela uphendule bese ngelinye ilanga ubuyizoshintsha lempendulo uphendule ubuye awuyi research yini mhlawumbe into oyibuzana noma uyiphendula bese uzobona
phambi can I raise a point of order
cha kunjalo
I yes chair with due respect to umhlonishwa uShongo and I would sympathize with you chair as well because you may not fully understand Zulu but when somebody says kusho ukuthi la kuwena kuyasiphumela what is meant is that one you are just talking without even thinking so somebody is just saying something which is not a reflection of a working brain I mean it's like somebody let me make another example Makutwa when they say kuyasiphumela it's like somebody who can't even control themselves when they need to go to the bathroom to pee they just release the pee along the way to the bathroom in Zulu is right in that context so I don't think it's correct for the honorable member to say to the minister la kuwena kuyasiphumela nje I would like to suggest that he doesn't use that language thanks must withdraw it in fact
I think chair umhlonishwa ngokukhulu kuyithoba Angibonga ukungikhuza kakho ukukhuza abantu abadala isibusiso ngesinto. Ungivimbe engakaqeda ukukhuluma ngisathi mhlambe kayiphumela ungakayenzi research. Mhlambe le party ethi research akayizwanga. But makuthi izwakele kabi ngiyixolisela. But ngibuza ukuthi kuyiphumela engaresearchwanga yini. Ngiyixolisela.
You apologize.
It is an apology.
You heard what he said, Honorable.
Clearly, I have no problem with the
And
apology.
the context that is given, yes.
It's a correct context.
The apology is accepted.
Ngixolisa kubaba uNtuli kakhulu ngoba angimthukanga umhlonishwa.
Honorable-
Ngichazile egcineni ukuthi research kuyiphumela engaresearchwanga.
Honorable,
Apologies accepted.
Honorable Shongwe is humbling himself.
I
Yeah,
accept the
understand, ngiyazwela,
apology.
Chair, ngiya-understand.
Nami ngiya-accept unconditionally.
Amen. Uyakhumbula mhlonishwa sisethendeni lengalela lishayisa ngomoya usithembisa inamba ye call center wathi uzosibuyela nayo.
Yes, ngiyakhumbula.
Wayithola?
Yes.
Wabuya nayo wasinika lela langa leli.
Inamba inkinga issue mangikhumbula kahle mhlawumbe ke ngiyakhohlwa ukuthi iyasebenza noma isebenzi. Inamba ngayinikeza kwasoba ukuthi ziyasebenza yini. Now abanye babethi ayisebenzi abanye bethi ziyasebenza ngaphuma.
Wena wawuthini mphathi? Wakubaphi kulaba?
Ngathi ziyasebenza.
Okay.
Ngaphuma ngafona yangasebenza inamba ngacheck ukuthi yini ngasebenzi kwathiwa babili abantu abasebenza kule call center kwathiwa oyedwa ubeme passage ekhuluma nocingo oyedwa ubese bathroom so bengekho umuntu operation ngase ngithi abayivale leyo nto ngoba ingenzela ihlazo kubantu kanti abantu bakhona babili ukunje omunye use passage ngalesikhathi kufuna ukulibele ucingo omunye use bathroom ngase ngithi akube khona umuntu okhona ngaso sonke isikhathi kwenzeka kanjalo.
Ngifikela umbuzo ukuthi inhloboni yefone le kwakuyi cellphone eyodwa yini for the country yonke?
No, kwakunabantu ababili e-call center. So lo oqala kwathiwa ngesikhathi ngifona mina ngicheck nabo abantu befona kodwa ucingo lithathwa umuntu wathi ubese passage ekhuluma ucingo lakhe omunye ubese bathroom.
So uchaza ukuthi bathi kuwena yakhala le phone but azange ibanjwe.
Ifoni yase call center yakhala. Yes, yangabanjwa ngoba akho umuntu.
Ngicela ukusho mina ukuthi le phone engasebenzi mphathi azange ikhale. Wena wake wayihlola wena ngokwakho?
Angithi ngiqale lapho ngayihlola yakhala yangabanjwa ngase ngifonela ke izikhulu zabo ukuthi naku ngifona la umuntu engalibamba ucingo kanti ama members eParliament athi kukhona inkinga la sengiyaphuma ke ngiya ngemuva kwetende ngiyafona ucingo alithathwa umuntu sengifonela ke isikhulu kwenziwa yini ucingo lungasebenzi bathi hey bazocheck sikhashana basebenza hayi omunye bese passage omunye ese bathroom that's why belungathathwa umuntu kodwa belikhala.
Angisebenzisa igama elithi tendency bengizothi umkhuba manje honorable chief ebuzolimala alithathe kabi. Lona mkhuba uyawubona ukuthi umningana la kwenentweni oyikhuluma zingahlolwanga bese ziyohlolwa ngamuva.
Njengakuphi?
Case ekacece wathi igazi lithathiwe.
Ngase ngiyachaza ukuthi
cha mhlawumbe ungawuphendula wakho umbuzo wami uthi uyawubona lo mkhuba ukuthi kuba mningi. Owakho uthi ngachaza na. Wakho umbuzo lo. Owami uthi uyawubona yini ukuthi lo mkhuba mningi. Umuntu ezophendula ukuthi ngachaza ukuthi umbuzo wakho uzothi wachaza na. So asike mhlambe silungise mphathi. Wami umbuzo uthi uyawubona lo mkhuba noma le tendency ukuthi kuwena kuyakhulumeka bese kubuya ngamuva kuyalungiswa.
Cha angiwuboni njengomkhuba kodwa ngiyabona ukuthi kuke kwenzeke kube kanjalo.
Kaningana. Mhlambe konke mhlawumbe sithi konke nje kule ngiyibuze la.
Kusho ukuthi usayiphendula manje.
Cha ngiyabuza ngithi sithi mhlawumbe konke noma
eyami impendulo ethi kuyenzeka.
Ngiyabonga. Ukangakanani ukuthi kena mhla ka 31 ubhala lencwadi kwakunale nkinga yokuthi wawungakahleleki kahle wawungakahlelelwa kahle ukuphenduleka mhlawumbe uthola information ephelele wasuthatha lesinqumo ukuphuthuma kuze kungene lo immediately disband.
Cha incwadi engayibhala isemthethweni futhi isebenza ngaphakathi umthetho sisekelo. Udaba luka immediate lukhulunyiwe ngomyalo kaSihlalo ngicabanga ukuthi silisongile kodwa uma ufuna ngiqale phansi baliqala cha
ngiyasaba ungayiqali mphathi wena ukhuthela ungayilanda yiyo ngayisa kuthi yakho kodwa angu interject mhlawumbe for the sake of isikhathi.
Okay.
Uma ngicela ungisiza la ngescenario uma umuntu ezothi start a process of disbanding iPKTT immediately wena makuukuthi wena uGeneral Sibiya uhleli lapho no angasebenzisa uGeneral Sibiya ngisebenzisa umuntu ongathi uyacabangeka ubaba Mkhwanazi mhlawumbe uGeneral Mkhwanazi uthi lapho ngikunika instruction mina nguMinister Mchunu start a process of disbanding this PKTT team. What would you do? What does it mean to you?
It means you have received.
Ufakile immediately. Ngixolisa ungafaka immediately. Start a process of disbanding iPKTT immediately. What would you do?
Angithi u20:05 ebusuku uzofunda incwadi understand ukuthi nayi incwadi isho njalo kodwa ke isikhathi u20:05 awuke e-office okusho ukuthi usuyifundile uyayizwa kodwa ayikho into ongayenza njengamanje uyenza until kube khona isikhathi ukwazi ukuyenza leyo nto manga kusasa kumhlaka wala ama office evaliwe kusho ukuthi akakwazi ngoba kuvaliwe ukuyenza koze kube la khona kuba khona into ethi ingenzeka.
Then umuntu mayezothi disband immediately ubuzo wenzani sesukseso 5:30.
Angithi yikho lokho engikuphendulayo ukuthi uphethe incwadi ethi immediately
mhlamba ngiphinde mphathi mhlamba ngizwanga
nice
okay
20:05 ntambama mhla ka31
yes
ethola incwadi ethi immediately bhala bese ethi immediately oh okay akho team phela phambi kwakho ukuthi thatha ucela embuhlakazi kumele uye office livaliwe umhla ka31 lisazovala futhi ngomhla ka1 mhlawumbe uzoze office umhla ka2 noma umhla ka3 bese uqala ke iprocess uqala ngokuqalwa ngakho uze ngokulandelayo.
That is when you are doing a process of disband, right? That's a process.
Yes.
Immediately immediately,
Yes.
and you have started immediately. Awulindanga.
Yes.
Siyavumelana.
Ngoba nje bekuvaliwe
Yes.
i-office.
So uma uyithole 5:30 namhlanje nge-31st, iletha. Bese ke mhlawumbe sithi ngiyabekisa nge-2 iMonday and you are supposed to report at work. You get a letter that says disband the PKTT immediately. What would you do in that regard?
Angithi ngizoqala i-process.
No. Ngangihlukanisa. Start the process of disbanding PKTT. That's a question on its own. Sidlulile kuleyo. I-process ile slow. Now this one says disband PKTT immediately. Doesn't that make PKTT ukuthi immediately after the letter umuqala nje instructor give instructions ukuthi valani kuyavalwa lento kuyavalwa. Doesn't that give that qualification?
Cha ngeke ukwazi ukwenza kanjalo. Kufuneka ukuthi uqale ungakwazi ukwenza ngeprocess. Qale wazisa abantu aba relevant nixoxe futhi ukuthi nizoqala kanjani qhubeke kanjalo. Yiko nje ngithi ngeke nje uvela usuke nje.
Usho ukuthi kwasekuphuthuma ngaleyo ndlela leyo ukuthi ubungalinda ukuthi uvule emsebenzini unyaka ozayo ukuthi ubhale lencwadi ethi immediately.
So yiko ngabeka umhla ka20 ngathi kufanele kube ne report ebhalwayo eshola ukuthi sizokwenza kanjani and so umhla ka20 hayi ngakusasa.
Ngibuza ukuthi wawujaheni ungalindi umhla ka20 ubhanga umhla ka20 ubhale lencwadi bese icala iprocess emva kamhla ka20 kwakujaheke yini yayijaheke ngaleso sikhathi leso
Akukho la okubhalwe khona ukuthi kwakujahekile kubhalwe ukuthi ngomhla ka20 akube khona i-preliminary report. Akukho nje igama lethi
but udisband immediately khona.
Yes ukhona
Kusho
but the report ibe mhla ka20.
Uma uzoza la uzosinikeza lobufakazi mhlawumbe noma uzosibriefa live as parliamentarian.
Yes.
Ukuwahlangana nobaba uSibila nathi ukushare ama notes enizosinika wona la
Ama notes ani.
mhlawumbe into enizosikhuluma le briefing sayilelo le report enisinikeza yona nike nahlala mhlawumbe nathi mase ngibuza imibuzo mina ngizophendula kanje nabakubuze lo na uphendule kanje nami ngizophendula kanje.
Cha kaZisihlalo.
So kuza kanjani ukuthi eSouth Africa wena nobaba uSibila obhale ku statement sakhe uGeneral Sibila ku statement sakhe ubhale ukuthi wamnikeze kukhona isinqumo esiphume lapha yaye sithi must disband immediately and he even says now yena faku now yena but uyabuya yena uyajika futhi useshintsha immediately usefana nowakho immediately uthi hayi immediately akamini uthi valani manje umina later. So kuza kanjani ukuthi no2 nikhuluma into ecishe ukufana kanti eqaleni ubeyibhale kahle uhamba nathi ama South Africans siyafana ngenkulumo sekujika mase kufika la
Ngikwazi ukuphendula okwenziwe mina nokuphendula umbuzo obhekiswe kumina mawusubhekisa kuSibila nakumina ngesikhathi esisodwa kusho ukuthi phela ngizophendulela yena.
Angaphendula lokwakho ukuthi kube icoincidence ukuthi kufane noma mhlawumbe awunibona nami.
Anginakho la ukaSibila so angiboni ukuthi kufana kuphi nokwami kuphela njengamanje. Bengazi kuletha ukuthi nakho ukaSibila nakho kwami.
Ngiyahluleka mphathi ngoba uhonorable chief whip uceda ukukhothela lento engikhulumela yona la manje awukusho ukuthi awunayo lento leyo kuyena awusho ukuthi awunayo kodwa uyiphendulile.
Cha uchazile uma ubumlalele kahle umhlonishwa uNtuli uthe uzongifundela izinto uzofika athi kuparagraph bani kunokuthi nokuthi kuparagraph bani wasenza kanjalo ngase ngiphendula into eqondile manje ke awenzanga nje ngoba enzile.
Ngixolisele lokho mhlawumbe ke ngikhulumela kulelo phuzu akufundele lona ngibona ukuthi angakufundeli lona ngoba ucela ulifundile so ngiyakho ngibuza ukuthi kulowo mbuzo lo baba uSibila athe kuye immediately means now then later changes to into ayikhulumile ke wasethi usefana nowakho immediately later. Do you see the similarities and do you think it's a coincidence noma benihlangene nakhuluma?
Angiwaboni until kuze kube khona into okhuluma ngayo la kaSibila nengikhuluma ngakho.
Ngicabanga ukuthi angeke kuthiwe suyeke immediately ngathi uyakulimaza impela immediately awufuni ukuvuka.
Awungilimazi mhlonishwa kodwa ngithi ngiyafakaza manje ke kufanele ngifakaze ngento mina self ngingabuye bese ngithatheka nje okushiwo umhlonishwa bese ngikwenza ubufakazi bami angikwazi ukwenza.
Uyawabamba yini ama caucus namalunga wasesiphoyiseni laba abaphethe mhlawumbe yaba nama caucus nje umhabule eceleni nje?
Hayi kuba nemhlangano lapho hayi ama caucus
informal.
Hayi kuba nemhlangano ngiba nomhlangano no National Commissioner and ngasho ukuthi ngibambe imhlangano cishe ngaphezulu kwa9 to National Commissioner 1-on-1 abamba 28 or more so ile umhlangano ebakhona.
Kuba nama minutes lapho kulomhlangano kuba no PA secretary into enjalo.
Impela nje isikhathi esiningi kwenzeka kanjalo kodwa hayi mangino National Commissioner siba sobabili akubabikho umuntu othatha ama minutes mase.
Uma uGeneral Sibila ecela meeting ethi ithinta noma Nhlanhla nefamily icela ubaba Mkhwanazi uGeneral Mkhwanazi icela kwenye meeting uma icela le meeting uthe wena uyinqabile because of ibinga qualify according to the structure mhlawumbe uvuma ngaso noma angisakhumbula impendulo yakho kodwa ibinga lapho mhlawumbe ungangikhumbuza kancane.
Angisho ukuthi nganqaba ngithe ngawuthola umyalezo ngaphendula ngase ngiyacabangisisa ukuthi sizoyimisa kanjani le ndaba ngase ngiyimisa ngendlela engangibona ukuthi ngokwami uhlangothi kuzofanele ukuthi ngiyimise ngayo ngiqale ngo National Commissioner kanye no deputy wakhe ze ku deputy wakhe ngize ku Provincial Commissioner bobabili ngoba ngabona ukuthi kungeke kwaba into ebulungiswa noma ekahle ukuthi ngilande umuntu ongaphandle kwabantu abala ngizomfaka emhlanganweni ngoba hayi
ubani umuntu ongaphandle
umkhotsi
so uma sothatha i-meeting
asengithi ke ngobuye ngixoxe ke naye uGeneral Mkhwanazi masihlangana naye noSibila ngathi ayisobuye sithola isikhathi sixoxe ngangiqonde ukuthi ngomcela ukuthi wando lo mhlangano okhuluma ngawo sesingawubamba manje kodwa ngisafuna ukuthi ke ngiwubambe nawe ngizwe ukuthi yini le efaka ifamily wena nefamily le efaka internal kodwa ubona ukuthi singamisa kanjani ngoba lena ayizolunga ukuthi silande uBrown Mkhotsi ngaphandle mhlambe nalo kwenza kanjani.
Yeah, no follow up question, Chair. The minister is saying he decided not to convene a meeting as suggested by or as requested by General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. So he decided to have a meeting with the National Commissioner, subsequently with the Deputy National Commissioner. Now the question is, what were you discussing with the National Commissioner in relation to a request of General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi? Because a reason for a meeting requested by General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi was known by General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, not by the National Commissioner, not by the Deputy National Commissioner. So if I call a meeting, if I request a meeting from you, I don't even tell you an agenda of that meeting, and then you decide to convene a meeting with somebody else. What is it that exactly that you want to discuss with that person, having not solicited a reason for my request from me as a person who requested for a meeting? I'm trying to get a logic of the approach that you decided to espouse.
At the meeting, I didn't say that I decided to have a meeting with General Masemola and then subsequent, as you say, with SBIA. I decided that the approach, I would meet General Masemola and General SBIA together because I was aware of the challenges and so on between them. That is my decision, that one. And then I would have a meeting with General SBIA and General, which I did. What General Mkhwanazi didn't say instruction that I must carry. It was a proposal that there are certain issues, let's have a meeting. I think decide to reconfigure. So we what are these other aspects? That was the logic that I came to.
Can I? No, Minister. So did General Mkhwanazi make an indication of the agenda that he intended to have in that meeting, a meeting that he wanted you guys to have? Did he share an agenda with you to say, Minister, let's meet and discuss about A, B, C, and D? So why? Because according to the explanation that you have given, there is no nexus between a request of General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi and a meeting that you decided to convene with the National Commissioner. To discuss what with General, with General Masemola in relation to the request made by General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, because you didn't know, he didn't share the agenda with you, so you didn't know the items that he intended to put on the agenda during your meeting. Had you consented to his request?
No, I don't think you are following the whole. I am saying I was aware of other matters, other challenges between the National Commissioner and the Deputy National Commissioner. Now, two, I've said the request was not an instruction that do this, do it this way. So, Ngibona Mkhwanazi is asking me as if you are about to say I broke the law for not carrying out what General Mkhwanazi was saying. It was a request, it was a proposal. Then I said when I met him with on that day, Ndonga, lo amhlangano loya okhulume ngayo sizobamba namhlanje sizo. So, and there was nothing wrong with it, nothing.
No, Minister, I think you are not reading my mind correctly. I am not about to accuse you of refusing to convene a meeting requested by General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. That's not even where I'm going. The point here that I want to solicit is, how did you anticipate what General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi wanted you to discuss about, having not met him firstly to establish the intention or his motive for a request for a meeting? You decide without even hearing what General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi wanted to meet you, wanted you guys to meet for. You just don't, you ignore him, and then you go to the National Commissioner. So there is actually no connection between, in my view, no connection between a meeting that you had with the National Commissioner and a request made by General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Because if you knew, if maybe General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi had put an agenda on the request to say, Minister, I want us to discuss about A, B, C, and D in specific terms, at least I would be in a better position to understand where you are coming from. But you didn't know, you don't even ask him, General, you just go straight to the National Commissioner. And you claim before this committee that the reason why you met the National Commissioner is because you wanted to speak to him first in relation to a meeting requested by General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. But Minister, if you insist on the response that you have given, there's absolutely nothing I can do.
Your window has expired.
Thank you, Chair. Ngoba kuche sengikhanyisela ilambu, Hlonishwa ngizobuza nje imibuzo nje ewu30 kuphela bese ngiyavala. Izoba u30 nje kuphela. Okokuqala mphathi wami, njengominister uvumelekile ukuboshwa mawenza iphutha? Ukuboshwa. Noma mhlamba amaphoyisa analo ilungelo lokuthi akuseshe, akubophe uma ugangile or mayekusola ukuthi ugangile or azoseshe ekhaya. Noma wena as a minister unento evimba ukuthi cha uminister akathintwa lapho.
Njengelunga leParliament uyazi ukuthi imithetho yasezweni laseNingizimu Afrika iapply kuwo wonke umuntu ngokulingana. I take it for granted ukuthi you know that, and so I confirm that.
So Mhlonishwa, kwenzekile ke ukuthi kuthiwe kwakho kufika amaphoyisa azosesha wajiswa. Ajikise kanjani and esejikisiwe wenzeni ngaloko? Obani laba abajikisa amaphoyisa azosesha kwakho?
Ya manje indlela oqala ngayo utafike kwakho kanti mina ngithe amaphoyisa afika esangweni le estate. Okay.
Ezekuba
asiqondise lento. Asefike ke esho ukuthi afuna ukuya la engihlala khona. Wakhulunywa ngendlela nga interview mina ngoba ukuthi ngempela lo wathini kodwa agcine ngangenanga ngoba ngiyathola nje sengithola report ukuthi amaphoyisa befikile angakwazi agcina esango.
Lokuthi ajikisiwe mphathi uzwe nini? Thole nini lo mbiko lo?
Ngezwe ngalela ngaye kade efike nga.
Ude kangakanani isikhathi befike ngaso mhlawumbe?
Hayi noma ngakwazi ukusho ukuthi bebefike ngasiphi isikhathi mina ngizwa ngasiphi isikhathi kodwa bafika ekseni ngezwe nje nami kwakuseni kodwa.
Wakholwa ukuthi amaphoyisa yini?
Ukuthi kade kufika amaphoyisa yini? Angithi inkulumo ayisho njalo.
Sesho ukuthi wena wakholwa yini mphathi?
Ukukholwa nokungakholwa angaze ngifinyelele kukho engafinyelela khona ukuthi ngilalela inkulumo la afikile kwase kuthiwana awakwazanga ukungena jikile ngase okay
mhlawumbe mangabuza mphathi into yanini lesikhuluma ngayo
asanoma umhla ka9 October noma kodwa
umuntu wase South Africa yini emela ifunde kulesi sigameko kuwe makufika amaphoyisa noma egcekeni lakhe amfuna kumele enze njani akafundeni ukuthi angalinda uzawabona next month ngoba ubhizi kakhulu or uzophuthuma yekona yini emela ifunde njengominister wamaphoyisa uma kufike nje umuntu unga-advise abantu ukuthi hey makufika amaphoyisa kwakhe kufuna unga-advise uthini lapho
ake ngenze i-background kahle ukuze sikhulume into esikuyo ngendlela eyi-1 amaphoyisa aqale aya emzini othize ngenhloso yokuyobona uNkabinde athola ukuthi kuleyo ndawo aya kuyona akekho uNkabinde khona omunye umuntu amaphoyisa ke asiyamthatha ke lo muntu athi awabakhombise la uNkabinde ahlala khona aya afika ngakwazi ukungena lapha ehlala khona ngoba ukulandisa kwento engayizwayo afika avinjwa kuleyo estate esangweni ngoba kukhona izinto ezazingekho ayengakaze ayikhombise kwaze kufika lapho uqala kwi-search warrant yayingekho okwesibili babengazi ukuthi baya kumuphi umuzi and akekho umuntu wayezobachazela base bethi lava basesangweni yabona ungena ngoba wazi ukuthi uyakumuphi manje nekumuphi umuzi bathola ukuthi abazi uNkabinde uhlala base ke bephindele emuva manje ke ikhona ke
sorry ungiphazamisela che angazi noma uyakudefenda or uyangiphazamisa ngathi kodwa
manje ke ngakusasa asevukela kule ndawo engihlala kuyona angiyizwa indaba mangilalela kahle ukuthi afika akhipha i-search warrant asethi siyemzini othize angiyizwa leyo ndaba so kusho ukuthi ke isimo sodaba simi kanjalo mhlonishwa sisonke akumina onqabayo akumina onayiphi inkinga kodwa kusho ukuthi uma kuukuthi babefike lapha engihlala khona njengoba babefike kwaNkabinde kusho babe ngayiphethe incwadi bavumelayo ukuthi kumele bangene so into efuna ifundwe abantu baseNingizimu Afrika amaphoyisa awavunyelwe ukungena kwakhe yadini engayiphethe ethi azosesha engayiphethe isearch
uma ehloniphile wangangena awusayingani kuwona uyohlola yobuza ukuthi ngifunelani angifake mphathi wambuzo wamogcina
kwathi wahambile
sikisiphathi
kwathi wasehambile
wena wangaye police station
kuyiphi akuyona police station ayizongifuna kwakwamaphoyisa kwathi ahambile
awashonga ukuthi amaphoyisa kephi
hayi cabanga njalo
angibuza umbuzo wamogcina ushiye sengisuse ehlalweni lo nguthunywa abantu base South Africa bathe ngibuza ukuthi since waba uminister icondition yamaphoyisa injani since waba uminister wena and do you think there is political interference sengivala would you re-employ uGeneral Mkhwanazi njengoba icontract yakhe izophela ngiyabonga
okay angiqale ngalombuzo wokugcina uminister akam-employ provincial commissioner
would you recommend
uminister kanalo iqhaza lokurecommenda ngokusemthethweni analo uma ngichazela ukuthi ungenaphi uminister u-provincial commissioner appoint u-national commissioner aconsulte no-premier uma bengavumelani la ungena uminister akafiki ke okwesibili injani icondition angazi ke kahle ukuthi ukuthini ngecondition kodwa ukusebenza nje kukonke akuyona into engiyithatha ukuthi isezingeni ongathola ukuthi lingaba kuyona kuningi okusafanele ukuthi kwenziwe ukuzama ukubhekana nenselelo zomphakathi mayelana nezokuphepha kusenekhala ke iningi lapho njengoba nje abantu bekhala ukuthi abaphephile indawo ngendawo la eSouth Africa kwezindawo kufikwa nje kakhulu ikakhulukazi lama province amane iWestern Cape neEastern Cape bese kuba iKwaZulu Natal ilama province okufikwa khona ukuthi isimo ke sethu sokubhekana nalengwadla asikho ezingene fanele okwamanje kusafanele sisebenze kanzima angisazi umunye umbuzo wesithathu
cha usukwathatha kwakho umbuzo mphathi awufaka kuwena manje wangaphenduleka lo wami angibuza mhlawumbe njengoba uMchunu would you nje personally would you recommend or without ubuminister would you recommend wena personally ukuthi agcangacashwa yini ubaba uMkhwanazi as a citizen nje do you think uyiphoyise lathi singachubeka simcashe noma as a citizen wena uphendulele uminister
ngiphendule ngoba angikwazi ukuthi angikuyena manje ufuna ungifake entweni wena engenalo iqhaza kodwa ufuna ungifake ngewindi manje angikwazi ukungena kuleli windi lincane kakhulu lelo ngifaka kulo
Okay, no, thank you so much. Thank you, Honorable Shongwe. Honorable Cameron, are you ready? If I can please pass the baton to you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I wanted to start with a question of clarity on the word immediately, but I won't. No, I'm just joking, Chair. No, we're not going to go into immediately now. Minister, firstly, thank you for your patience and explaining the definition of immediately so many times, according to you. I'm going to jump to something that we haven't actually spoken about that much today. And that is the irregularity of the Medicare 24 contract. I want to firstly start by asking you when you first picked up on the irregularity regarding the Medicare 24 contract? So that for the record. And is it something that your office discovered internally, or is it something that came to your attention otherwise?
On the 20th of December last year, we were to fly from Cape Town. And when I left the house where I stay, I then read a cell phone and found an article written by News 24. And it caught my eyes because there was SAPS, then there was a contra mention. So I read the whole article. It was freely available. And the way it was written, it looked factual. That's the impression. And then on our way with the National Commissioner, I then shared the article with the National Chair, with the National Commissioner. I gave him my cell to say, are you aware of this, Commissioner? And he read it. And he said, I know of this. And I did check whether everything was done properly. And people said, yes, it was done proper, and then, or awarded proper. And then he said, if Minister wants to get a briefing, I can organize it. And then I said, please, let's organize it. And indeed, that briefing was okay.
Thank you, Minister. In this specific case, and you'll see where I'm getting at now regarding procurement matters, can you share with us what has been the impact on police members, if at all, and whether they're still receiving the service that they should receive? Obviously, if you take the space of time that you've been, not been in office, been suspended, you don't need to comment on that, but before that maybe, and how has this gap been managed on the ground?
Now, first, so let me conclude. I left without saying whether it was discovered internally, but it's self-explanatory to what I've just said. Now, how they are closing the gap, I don't know, because surely it will take some time before another service provider provided. I'm not sure.
Thank you, Minister. So the reason I'm starting with the Medicare questions is just because I think there's a bigger problem with regards to procurement. Medicare is a very good recent example. In the recent Auditor General reports, we saw that SAPS incurred over 649 million rands worth of irregular expenditure due to non-compliance with procurement laws. That's a 140% increase from the previous year. Why, in your opinion, has there been such a sharp rise despite prior commitments to tighten controls for procurement?
Irregular expenditure and other issues like wasteful expenditure are men and women made. And they show, or they are an example of less than required attention to matter procurement and finances general. It means that there's something that SAPS are not doing and doing properly in terms of accounting for the finances of it. There's no other explanation, because irregular expenditure doesn't come from anywhere. It comes from your hands, the way you use money and the way you follow compliances. If you don't comply with prescripts of the PFM, then that's a problem.
Thank you, Minister. I think for clarity's sake, the question I'm getting at is there an increase? Did you pick up an increase in procurement-related corruption or alleged corruption in SAPS? Because when you look at these numbers, usually when there's this type of irregular expenditure, it points to significant corruption of some kind. And it's not the first time that this happens. So I want to ask you if, let me maybe give more context. Also in the Auditor General report, it shows almost 2.5 billion rand that was investigated with regards to irregular expenditure that has not been submitted for further action. But I want to refer to a report from the SIU from probably around 2022, 2023, that was presented to you, and I believe your special advisor as well, regarding SAPS PPE procurement during the COVID-19 period. Before I continue with the questions, are you aware of that report?
I'm aware of the report.
So, Minister, the SIU investigation that was placed before you confirms that Mr. Molefi Fani, who I believe is currently, or he was Mr. Molefi Fani at Treasury, he is now the Divisional Commissioner of Supply Chain Management in SAPS, was implicated in irregular SAPS PPE procurement during his tenure as the Chief Procurement Officer at National Treasury. You've been in office now for quite a few months. Obviously, we exclude the last month or two, and you're aware of these findings. What did you do to take steps in terms of Lieutenant General Fani being implicated in this significant corruption?
First, your first question that deals with issues of irregularities and so on, whether it is a trend. This trend alone and the irregularities that accompanied it as it was awarded are quite a worrying factor. Looking at the figure, 360, it's not a small thing. Whoever would have approved it would have applied their mind and would have crossed all the T's and put all the dots, I's and so on. Similarly, it was not done. Now, I'm aware of the SIU report. I'm aware of its pointers. It's a matter that the accounting officer is aware of. Now, it's a matter I think we had a discussion on, if I'm not mistaken, to say, what do we do with these matters? It points to two people. One is on suspension for a very, very extended period, around 2 years or something like that, and then general fund. Let me just say that I don't think that the accounting officer has taken appropriate action, which would be either review the SIU report, either him or general fund. Maybe it has happened now, but I'm not aware of it having been taken. And it constitutes quite a problem that the SIU would report, then there would be nothing. But I can't recall whether we had a discussion with the National Commissioner. It's likely to raise the matter.
Minister, and I say this respectfully, but I want to understand what action was taken from your office. You must understand from my point of view, firstly, we're running up to the BRRR process now in Parliament. We've got annual reports coming up. How do we grant any form of budget review or support any kind of budget review when we know that character is being implicated? I mean, the amount of money that we're speaking of with this specific case, I think it's close to 560 million rand. So it's not a small amount of money, it's significant. And, well, it should be seen as significant, it's a smaller amount as well. But the point is, the perception that is created with inaction is someone is either being protected or someone is actively not doing what they're meant to do to pursue this. So are you parking it in front of the door of the National Commissioner? If so, did you follow up with the National Commissioner? Because he's the accounting officer on this. Enlighten us, please.
It's just that I can't specifically remember whether we had a meeting and discussed the matter, but most probably we would have had a meeting where the matters would have been raised, and he would have, the matter would have been left to him as accounting officer. But I haven't been nagging him on the matter, and probably remains an unresolved. But he may have handled the matter himself, engaged SIU, and maybe they settled the matter in one way or the other. So I can't say for sure.
Thank you, Minister. I think what we'll have to do from our side is invite them. We can do that on a police committee side, specifically to look into procurement. I want to move to annual performance plan related matters. So you're confirming to me that the divisional commissioner responsible for SAPS procurement remains in office, from what you know. That's from what I know as well. General Fani is still in office, despite under him being under SIU scrutiny, and that no interim safeguards were put in place to protect the procurement that you know of.
But when we're doing the structure, the organizational structure, reviewing it, we changed that and said matters of supply chain should happen under the CFO, because before it was separate. And when it comes to accounting, I thought that looseness, if I could use that word, would have contributed to some of these problems that you're talking about. So we migrated it. And I hope that in the structure that has been signed, I forgot to look at that particular. We said it must be under CFO, because she deals with matters of finances already. And she should have an eye, if it's a sub-unit, on what is happening there for control purposes. That is what we...
Thank you, Minister. Minister, I think from my side, and that's why the reason why I use this as an example is that the whole Medicare Cat Mklala issue, in my opinion, wouldn't have easily arisen had this type of thing been handled with urgency. I mean, you can imagine, 500 million rand. I got a message now, the members doing training at Rudapla Training Academy don't have enough food for the members doing training at the academy with the K9 members. Now, something as simple as that, making sure that money is managed properly, even in terms of the smaller amounts, could have stopped this from happening. I constantly tried to think what could have been done to prevent us from having to zoom in on this. Given the repeat findings over 5 consecutive years by the Auditor General, do you feel that consequence management mechanisms in SAPS are effective?
I don't think so, because I'm not aware of such steps or demonstration of such steps. But I know that there is a commitment or determination to improve. That's why one of the days we held an efficiency and effectiveness to say CFO safeguard, accounting officer safeguard the finances, because we can only optimize on what we have and then be able to do more. So I'm hoping that there's since been tighter management of finances in the department than what has been happening.
So, Minister, now it comes to and you can tell me if it's a mistake on your end or not, but in terms of the strategic plan and annual performance plan of SAPS, you signed on it, and there was specific mention of the professionalization of SAPS as one, and the eradication of corruption in SAPS. So as two, let's call them flagship priorities or during your tenure, how do you reconcile those commitments with the failure from your office against the senior SAPS official like Lieutenant General Fani, to a certain extent Lieutenant General Vuma, who's been on suspension for a very, very long time? How do you reconcile those written commitments with these procurement irregularities shown in the SIU investigation? I want to understand if your anti-corruption agenda is real, and if it is, why is it so slow?
Now, we were meant, as we started right to the end of the year, beginning of the year, to really focus even though at the risk of operational vis-a-vis whatever ministerial powers. But it's something that you can't help in the light of those questions which we come across in Parliament. That's why I'm talking about one coin and two sides. It becomes inevitable that you engage, and depending on the response, matters become urgent, actions become drastic. It's one case, but we were meant to focus our attention on management of finance. And I think capacity is there to improve drastically on this. It's not like it's not there, but somehow it requires closer supervision, much more serious supervision, including from the side of the ministry, as opposed to saying, well, accounting officer is there and you leave it like that, because when things go wrong, he is not the only one. Questions like these ones come up and are in a corner. And therefore, we were meant to follow up on those points in our strategic plan, and particularly in our annual.
Thank you, Minister. I've got one more question regarding this. I want to understand, if we're speaking about professionalizing the police, in my opinion, it starts with integrity, and specifically integrity in leadership appointments. That's the most critical. We can't expect things on ground level to change if we've got questionable characters supposedly leading in office. I would like to understand what message, according to you, does it send to close to 180,000 SAPS members, including administration, obviously, if a senior official, actually in this case several senior officials, are linked to procurement fraud and they remain in charge of those divisions? What message does that send in terms of accountability?
It does affect it pointing to a lower direction rather than upwards. In other words, it doesn't inspire, it doesn't demonstrate that you are serious about these matters. And for that to be in place, you need to be one. You need to believe in one thing, all of you, ministry and top management of SAPS, that there needs to be changes, and they need to be taken seriously. And that is what, rather than going on and on, taking things for granted, especially with the fortunes of, on the financial side, decreasing as it's happening, and we're more and more getting to be found wanting in terms of the quality of service, in some cases, services itself. Like, you are quoting one example. It doesn't look good that there would be such and so on, but don't forget that I'm on leave. I don't want to get on matters when the acting minister is there, but generally speaking, that's not inspiring.
Very, thank you, Minister. Minister, in terms of this whole procurement issue, I think that something that is frustrating to us is that we've really come to a point where we constantly hear the answer. We've actually heard this. General Sabia also pointed to that. The impression is created that we're okay with the current management structure. They are just minor oversight things that need to, let me make it clearer. We're okay with the individuals in senior management positions, and that there are, minor oversight functions that need to be improved. But I want to hear from you. Do you think it's time for the changing of the guard? Is it necessary for the South African Police Service, let's say the top 10, to be audited and possibly replaced?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily put it exactly the way you put it, but I spoke earlier on about the need to overhaul certain aspects and sections of SAPS. There is the need, just to refresh the organization. How you do it, it's a different matter. Because I think that sense of, repetitive kind of stance on things is now at odds with what is expected either in Parliament or elsewhere, and therefore there is a need for some kind of action, whether it is in that form or in another form. But it's difficult. It's going to be more and more difficult to leave just things as they are and go on just like that.
Minister, if you were back in office tomorrow, figuratively speaking, what would you do regarding this specific matter, this SIU matter? If you know all of these people are still in their positions, what would you do if you're back in office tomorrow?
Well, it's to call for a report. Where are we with the SIU report? Because as I'm saying, I'm sitting here talking. There may have been things that have been done since I left, but that would be something to be found out and then act on them. And I do note that it does require solidity of a certain level to get into those matters and correct them.
Minister, I want to jump to Mr. Cedric Nkabindi. His appointment, we've touched on it a lot. There are one or two questions, I think, for the record that are important. Just in terms of the process, I want to understand, did you go through any kind of do you know if there was any kind of a security clearance process with regards to Mr. Nkabindi? Did he get security clearance? Was there any kind of vetting process in terms of clearance?
That is a standard practice, and I take it, I'm risking here because I have not called for it to see it. But that's a standard practice that there should be vetting. It's one of standard practices.
But you're not sure?
In the sense that I don't remember asking for it to see it. But this is not managed within the employment of these people. Is not of the staff. Is not necessarily managed within the ministry. It's managed by particular people in SAPS, and they are the ones who ensure compliance. I would need to talk to them to find out whether there's 100% compliance. But I take it that.
But Chair, I think that's an important note for us for reporting on this, is that there is a serious gap in terms of due diligence being done, because, I mean, surely, Minister, you want to know you could be able to trust the person sitting next to you, and I don't want to cast an aspersion on Mr. Nkabindi,
Yes.
but his name pops up everywhere. So surely some kind of due diligence had to have been followed. In terms of his suitability to manage confidential policing and even intelligence information, did you have any indication outside of that security clearance that he was suitable to handle that he was trustworthy to handle that type of information?
Yes, in the sense that, well, even without necessarily doing any specific check, but before he came to work with us as chief of staff, he was working at forensics in a bank. I would imagine that he wouldn't have worked there without being checked and being certified in terms of suitability to deal with the confidential matter. Before that, he was at IP. Now, normally, you would take that experience and passage of time and him as a sign that there would have been confidence when he worked there in those matters. These are sensitive.
Minister, respectfully, banks don't answer very positively in that sense. I believe recently in Cape Town there were 2 cases of arms dealers that were found with large amounts of firearms in containers, and they were both employees, quite senior employees, I might add, of very well-renowned commercial banks. So my question comes back to that due diligence. I want to understand if he did not have security clearance, or if you're unsure about it, why was he granted access to such sensitive material?
Well, I don't say he doesn't have security clearance. I'm just saying that I didn't ask for it. I don't remember asking, but we've been discussing clearances of other people, and I take it that he has. And I take it that he has what it takes to staff and to handle. I haven't heard anything coming out negative about him up until this kind of upheaval, where what you're talking about then similarly is coming here on him. But before that, there was no.
Minister, yeah, the doubt, and it could be that SAPS or SSA slipped on it, and we'll be able to follow that up. But it can't be that a chief of staff comes into such a sensitive position, and we don't know whether that person has the clearance that they meant to have. And again, it's similar to the procurement issue. We could have potentially prevented a lot of the leaks and things that took place. Apart from a little bit of work experience at IP, what skills specifically of Mr. Nkabindi stood out to you or convinced you that he should be capable of being in such a senior position in the ministry? In terms of, let's say, more complex policing issues and even intelligence matters, because he would obviously have been exposed to that. He's really put into a position where he's in the belly of all the action. So what specific experience apart from IPID stood out?
Yeah, firstly, I wouldn't want us to create an impression that the leaks that you are talking about are referring to from his part. We just park it like that without suggesting such. But to be specific on your question, I did talk about my experience of him at IPIT, when he was at IPIT, in terms of investigating complaints I had laid with IPIT. What specifically impressed me was the detail in terms of how he went about doing this job and bringing it to finality. I was quite impressed, and it was the first time I had met him, and I felt that there was integrity throughout the process when it was done, and was far from looking at ever working with him at that time, because I was at home, and therefore that is what I picked up at that time.
Has he ever issued any instructions or correspondence or directives to SAPS or IPID officials on your behalf?
No, not that I know, but at one point we had I think a small discussion following a letter it received from one of the members, and that he processed it to IDA. I think it followed a little chart or something like that. He sent it. I can't recall any other where he signed in his name and sent it.
And Minister, was he involved in any way in the drafting or the timing? I understand that you went and gave the closing of the PKTT thought at home and so on, but did he play any role in the drafting or the timing or communication of the letter to disband the PKTT?
No, he just relayed things as I gave it to him. Have you received, sent a special advisor? Have you received, now you can then send it to specific people as indicated.
So Minister...
So he didn't play any role in drafting.
Okay. Do you still, I mean, at the moment, you're not actually sure if he has security clearance, right?
In the sense that I didn't see it. I don't recall asking.
Yeah, but you either know he has or he doesn't have.
Yes.
So do you still stand by your decision to appoint Mr. Nkabindi as the Chief of Staff to your office, given the concerns or the doubt in terms of his vetting background?
It's exactly what I'm trying to avoid, because I can't, on the basis of something that I'm not sure, to answer you specifically, and then I answer as if I am sure about your earlier question. And so I would want not to answer that particular question. But if I were to confirm and see his security clearance, that would be in the right direction to make me answer that question. But other aspects like qualifications and so on, and like stability in terms of being present at work all the time and following instructions and not lapsing for a day or something like that. Of course, there's room for improvement. He has stability as far as that's concerned, managing staff and so on. But to be specific on your answer, I would need to get that.
Minister, so we can actually remove his name from it. To me, the fact that there's any doubt regarding this key person, the fact that you don't know and that you're not sure, is a cause for serious, because it means that there's a breach in terms of vetting and security of your office. It means that the potential leaks, and I'm not, again, remove his name from it. The point is that there could have been several other people that also didn't have clearance. And I want to say to you that if it is so that he didn't have security clearance, then obviously there's a significant breach. But if it is so that he does have security clearance and all of these leaks still occurred, then I would be seriously worried about the clearance process as well. The point is just that a chief of staff, you must know, either cleared or is not. Because if you're not vetted, it's a sensitive position, especially with this drama that we're facing at the moment.
I take it.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, I've got 4 or 5 last questions, but they're yes or no question. I see the Chief Whip here from the corner of my eyes watching me, glaring at me. I can hear him whispering in Zulu to me. But I've got brief yes or no questions. The first one, yes or no. Your affidavit explicitly states that the President agreed to close the PKTT.
Yes, it says so.
Yes or no? You issued the immediate disbandment letter without an approved transition plan.
Well, you will excuse me, I can't use yes or no there, but I will say yes, there was a directive, but it pointed at a preliminary report, because I couldn't go to somebody and say, give me a transitional plan before I did that.
Yes or no, Minister, you met or communicated with Brown Mkhwanazi or Kat Matlala in the 14 days surrounding the 31st of December?
I definitely didn't communicate with Mkhwanazi on the 31st. I haven't seen that.
Thank you, Minister. Yes or no, you will submit your devices, or you will be willing to submit your devices for independent forensic review?
I would be more than willing to do so, and there's absolutely no reason why I shouldn't be willing to do so.
Then the last 2, Minister, yes or no, you personally appointed Cedric Nkabindi without security clearance at the time?
I can't say so because of what I said earlier on, that I may be making an error to answer you directly on that, because he may have, in terms of compliances that are required of him by the team that was handling his employment. I don't think they would have taken him without subject confirmation or otherwise on this matter, because I don't do it myself, the employment part.
Let's check with Honorable Cameron, because he was looking.
Yeah, just on the question before of handing over the gadgets to whatever independent, you are willing to hand over the gadgets even to the police who were turned away at the gate if they've got the necessary requirements?
Yes, my yes applies to them, exactly.
Minister, then my last question, and this is more a matter of opinion, it's not a yes or no question, and Chair, this is my last question, is do you think this whole drama, I keep calling it the drama, but is it a factional fight of sorts inside the South African Police Service, or is it really about drug cartels? Or is it both? I would like to hear from you. And by this, I'm not discrediting any theory at the moment. I don't want to, because there's still too much that we need to hear. And I also think a perception is created that a lot of this happened in the last 6 months. But if you listen to everyone that has spoken so far, things date back as far as when Minister Becky Taylor was the National Commissioner, or we hear the names of Ria Piecha or Minister Nathi Mthethwa, former Minister Nathi Mthethwa. So I want to understand from you in your just your opinion. What do you think is going on? What's the reason for all of this?
I would say it's a combination of factors. One, less than required coherence, unity and coherence on the side of police executive management or top management. Two, it would also include personal battles informed by one interest or the other over time, and then streamlining people into columns, as I would put it, in accordance with how they would have dealt with matters of different season of one kind or the other. But more than that, what I would want to say in the Ad Hoc Committee is that it's an opportunity, this one, to correct, if I could use that word, what's wrong, to deal with it. It's an opportunity to face reality. And my reading or my assessment is that it can't be nice. It can't be nice. It's an upheaval period to which you have to apply your minds quickly and decide at the same time, but carefully and so on, because it's an opportunity that otherwise wouldn't have just come walking to you. But you do need to seize the moment and seize the opportunity and correct the situation.
Thank you, Minister. That's it from me, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Cameron. Honorable Malema.
Chair, my apology. Before you give to SC or before we break, an apology to the colleagues. You know, I forgot to ask the minister if you know a guy called Jerry Boshoga. The mother sent me a message. He has been kidnapped from the 18th of November last year, and the allegation was such that Nhlanhla had to do with it. And this case has been going on for some time. It's almost a year now. A person disappears, a high profile linked to Nhlanhla, that Nhlanhla is involved and all of that. And police seems to be helpless about the whole situation. I'm sorry if you don't know it, but it's a guy who has been kidnapped from 18 November 2024 until today. And the mother asked me to ask you, where is her son?
If I could just check, is it not someone from the Eastern in Gauteng?
Somewhere in Gauteng, there in Pretoria or something.
I can't suddenly recall the name, but in terms of where. But the name isn't unfamiliar, and the incident. I wanted to link it with the incident, a case that I would say I at some point come across it. Now, then to say that from where I sit, there's been progress on most of the cases. And I wouldn't have expected that we have an outstanding matter like this one for so long. And I know that in some cases, really, they've done a sterling job, these teams that deal with these matters, often risking their lives and so on. So they generally have been performing well. And so this one would be an exception. I would make an effort as a report back on your side that I would inquire with the minister to check for us. And I would revert to you. But I would need your number to revert. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Malema. I think this is a very, very serious matter. It's a matter of national concern, and we must take collective responsibility, all of us, that the police commissioner was here, and it escaped us. What we should do, SC, let's write back to the police commissioner and request an explanation or a progress report, even if it's just one paragraph or one page. I don't think it will be wrong for us to make that follow-up. These are some of the things that South Africans want to hear us doing, demonstrating that we can act on their behalf. Thank you very much, Honorable Member, for that decisive intervention. Honorable Skosana.
Thank you, Chair. Just before the SC, the minister in that recording which was played here, it said it is a common cause that General Khan, who has previously been accused in drug operations, if you can clarify, because it was played here, being accused
let me check with you, because I thought you are asking a clarity-seeking question based on the matters that Honorable Cameron was raising. Because if you do this, it means I must now open to all members to come back with any matter.
Let me make things easy for you, Chair. We will ask the next one.
Okay.
Yeah, because the person who was quoted here is still coming as well beside the minister. Because that recording, which we didn't get the thread, there was an issue as well in that. So I wanted clarity, but if you say that you will open up, it's okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. Honorable Minister, before I give to the SC, just to pass the following. General Mkhwanazi, when he appeared before us, he stated here that he could not conclude that you were a corrupt person. And secondly, that the Edward Senzo Mchunu that he knew would not have signed the letter to disband the PKT or the NPKTT. The Edward Senzo Mchunu that he knew. So when a statement like this one is put to you, is it your understanding that General Mkhwanazi had a high regard for you? Number one, he says that, look, where I am, I can conclude that Minister Mchunu is a corrupt person. Number two, the personality that I know, sitting here, I'm still not convinced that he could sign or put his signature on a document like. Do you understand him to be a person who had a high regard for you?
Well, Chair, it's quite a difficult question to be fair, to say, I know so-and-so, he has a high regard, so-and-so has a high regard or lower regard. Normally, we don't accord such accolades to ourselves. But to the extent that you're asking me a question, I have no reason to believe or to think that General Mkhwanazi would have, especially with the second, he would have meant that he has less regard or even undermining me for signing the letter or for having written and signed the letter. So I would want to respond like that.
Let me check you as a public representative, and you have deposed it here that the intervention was publicly announced that there are political killings in this province we are going to do something about it. And the Honorable Cameron has asked you about a transition plan. When that decision was taken and communicated, has there been an effort as a public representative to go back to those communities that have been affected to say to them, look, we have decided the way we did, and this is how we are going to deal with all those matters? Has there been any initiative like that one?
Not as yet, Chair.
Not as yet. The last question, Honorable Minister, would be 2 months, and I'm taking from what you have said, 2 months after the decision has been taken, a briefing with the President happened. Am I correct? It might have been 2 months or less, because I remember you said something like February or March.
Yes.
Yeah. Had the President disagreed, because the record we have is that the President has agreed. Had the President disagreed, were you going to reverse the decision?
Definitely.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your answers, Senior Counsel.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, Honourable Members.
Chair, just one, I'm sorry, Senator. Would there be a small opportunity for just two recommendations? Sorry, Senator. The first recommendation that I would want to make, I would transmit it, but I will just take a short version because it's longer. I'm requesting or recommending that the Auditor General be approached and appointed to conduct a full and independent audit of the National Political Task Team's financial matters. There are some detail. That's the first one. The second one is that we as a country, that it be recommended, I know that we're going to go to processes, that instead of having what we have now, currently, your SIU, your IDA, DPCI and other agencies, we consider recommending strongly that a transparent and accountable, no, not this one, that a single independent anti-corruption agency be seriously considered, because standing as we are, all of us in the security cluster know and acknowledge that we are very weak in the light of the kind of criminality and including corruption and complexities that we are facing, that these matters be considered urgently. Thank you very much, but I will transmit the whole thing.
Thank you so much, Honourable Minister. Senior Counsel.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, Honourable Members, Honourable Minister. The first two questions, and again, I'd also request that you answer yes or no, or give a short response so that I can get through my questions. The first two both relate to what happened on the 5th of March when you appeared before the Portfolio Committee. At that, I can read back to you what you said. But would you agree that at that meeting, that appearance before the Portfolio Committee, you did not mention to the committee that PKTT was an unlawful or illegal structure?
Yes, I didn't mention that.
You didn't mention it, notwithstanding the fact that there was a presentation which was on the agenda. The presentation was made by Brigadier General Khumalo in response to your directive, and he then mentioned that he spoke about how the unit or the task team would be phased out.
Yes, that was the content of the presentation on the 5th, the phasing out.
Related to that, you're not aware that the Auditor General, whom you've now requested to conduct an audit into the PKTT, as ironically, there's no report from the Auditor General that you're aware of that accuses or finds that the police have incurred unlawful expenditure because they've been funding or budgeting for an illegal unit or structure.
The report is just on standard criteria, or like pointing at irregularities. It doesn't point to a particular area of SAPS, just irregularities and other findings.
In other words, the Auditor General has proceeded on the basis that the PFMA and other procurement policies and prescripts have been complied with.
Well, I wouldn't know what findings assumed or not assumed.
Yeah, I think that question is too broad and perhaps unfair, but particularly in relation to the PKTT, there weren't any adverse findings.
Well, Senior Counsel, no, was there any finding in any other particular area like procurement like this? I don't think the report would have been specific in a particular area.
Now, we heard from you that one of the reasons that informed your decision of the 31st of December, that's the directive of 31 December 2024, was inter alia hearing complaints from Professor Mary Das, and also from Ms. Mashali.
But also from...
Yes, I said amongst others. You also received other WhatsApps, and so some have disappeared. But you mentioned, I'm asking specifically about Ms. Mashali, and you said that because she's a serial complainant, isn't it, in the police, very well known. You referred her complaints to the Inspector General for Intelligence.
No. I said I just wanted to know who Patricia Mashali is, not complaints. Just her. I asked this.
Well, did you get the response from the Inspector General?
He did respond.
What was his response?
His response was that, yes, Mashali on some cases reliable, but in some cases she takes things that are factual and sometimes changes them and so on. So he gave a picture of somebody, I concluded that when you receive something, read it, but how you process it, you need to think carefully.
Following his response, did you conclude that there was substance in some or all of her complaints?
In some, I would take that, but not all.
Now, this is how you responded to the committee. But I must state this, that one of the people who is quite frequent in making allegations on social media regarding police, I took the initiative of referring back to the Inspector General to say, Inspector General, I frequently receive allegations from this person concerning SAPS, concerning leadership of SAPS at management level, including the National Commissioner. Do you recall saying that? And some of them appear quite serious when you read them and so on, but you lack verification or validity thereof, and you can't make up your mind when you are not sure of the validity. So the Inspector General, I wrote him a letter, and after some time, he did respond on what you submitted. These are very, very doubtful, and it was quite a bulk of allegations that I received up to them. About 75%, if not 80%, that they are proven to be untrue, and then the remainder could be or could not be subject to investigations and so on. So all I'm putting to you onto the table is that this was a response, there was a response. Appears to be the case from your answer and what you got back from the Inspector General, that this is a person who makes mostly 75%, 80% unproven allegations against people in SAPS.
That's what the Inspector General would have said.
Well, the point is, she, Ms. Mashali, and the House, with amongst two of the people whose complaints you relied on to inform your decision to issue the directive.
No, I think that's where I've been insisting that there's an error there, and I don't know why. I said there are people, some of them officers who had served in the National Political Killings Task Team, some of them are still there. You would recall, Senior Counsel, that we even held a meeting to say, I wanted and I prayed that those people, means be made for them to appear so that they can speak for themselves. And I said there's a high risk and therefore it would mean a detailed plan or meeting conditions. So I would want to really avoid just highlighting those two. I even said just because they're able to write and so on, then we take them alone.
Yeah,
Please
Minister,
not do that.
sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
I've got limited time. The point is that you mentioned her as one of the persons that influenced and that informed your decision. And in fact, you attached to your affidavit a number of her complaints. It's attached to your affidavit. So you clearly must have taken them seriously. Why would you attach the social posts of a person whom the Inspector General already said, at the very least, be wary, be careful, because 75-80% of this stuff is not true?
It was just for information, not to use it to weigh what I considered. It was not. It was just to be available. And I spoke at length about these people that I spoke about. But I also, as you remember, Senior Counsel, the issues of budget, of structure. So I wouldn't want Mary Haas and Patricia Mashale to be the only reasons for the directives, because that's not the case.
Then, just in relation to the appointment procedure of Nkabinde, he would have been, well, you were the Minister of Public Service and Administration, so you should be well aware of these procedures. But the appointment would be in terms of Section 9, which relates to executive appointments, and read together with the Regulations 65 and 66. The point about that is that when it comes to executive appointments, Chief of Staff, they have to be advertised openly or publicly. But there is some procedure. You appoint the panel, the Executive Authority appoints the panel and makes the decision, and a contract is then concluded, but not for longer than 3 years. That's what the regulations say. But the point is, a Chief of Staff would be the ultimate person in your office that you must trust, isn't it?
Yes.
So there's still a gap for me in your disclosure about whether you knew Nkabinde, whom you met 2017 when he came to your place with McBride. We also know that by the way, that Nkabinde brought Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi to your house when you were the Minister of Water and Sanitation, brought him to your house. So he's a bit more of a comrade, is it? He's an associate?
No, firstly, I wouldn't put it the way you're putting it, that he
I'm asking?
That he brought General Mkhwanazi, because that has a different connotation. I think I said, I take it that they had a discussion on their own. They agreed that they would come and would have a chat. So it was mutual consensus among the two of them. It would have been. By the time they spoke to me, I took it for granted that they would have spoken. They know better what happened before they came. And so what was the question, Senior Counsel, on that?
Sorry, Minister?
I'm trying to follow up on what were you wanting me to answer. I was just correcting the other impression.
I was saying that for me, I'm not sure whether that concern is shared by the Honourable Committee and the Chair. but there seems to be a gap given that the person, we agreed at least on this, the Chief of Staff must be the one person in your office that you must trust.
Yes.
Honourable Cameron has already raised the issue of whether he had security clearance or not, that issue is open. So I was just inquiring about, having met him only in 2017, and between 2017 and your appointment as Minister of Police, you occupied two other portfolios, isn't it? Public
Yes.
Service Administration,
Yes.
and then Water and Sanitation. And Mr. Kabindi was somehow still around. And then you appoint him in 2024.
I did say that we kept contact, but we're not working together. And that contact was not necessarily frequent, but we kept talking about this and that. So it's not like it was 2017 and then appointment as Chief of Staff. It didn't happen that way.
Okay. Just on the Nhlanhla affidavit, I did
And
see...
let me just, Senior Counsel, may I request that his appointment, there is a person or there are people who are responsible for this in SAPS independently to say what exactly and how, so that you get an independent and comprehensive. It's something that can take less than an hour, so that you come, you are on top of how he was appointed.
Yeah, you have offered us the personnel file, whatever file, for us to have a look at the appointments and the procedures, whether they were complied with or not. So if any questions, we'll place it before the committee, and if there's any questions, we'll put it to you in writing for your response. On Nhlanhla affidavit, we did, I think it's the email that was read out yesterday. I had also seen it this morning. It seems to have been unsolicited and came from Nhlanhla's lawyers, offering this affidavit to you. And it appears that it's not your lawyers that had solicited the affidavit and had gone to CMAX to obtain or to procure the affidavit. The IMC, we understand, and this will be confirmed tomorrow by General Tele. He wants to still be called General. He says that our current Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, I'm not sure whether you'll know as a minister appointed by the President, whether it's in a presidential minute or some kind of document, but her functions as a minister still includes serving on the IMC for the political killing stars team. So the question is, I think that's also been asked by other honourable members, is you said that the IMC has also been disbanded or perhaps also disestablished, and we inquiring about where did that come from. Was that a presidential instruction or what was it? Because a current minister is still on her list of things to do is to be a member of the IMC.
Well, I'm not aware of that. I'm not aware of that.
Okay. Oh yes. Perhaps lastly, do you know a person by the name of Suleiman Karim?
Suleiman Karim.
Suleiman Karim. Yeah. Karim is Carrim.
It could be a person I may have met once or something like that.
Okay. Again, Minister, it crops up in a string of emails that goes in between Nhlanhla and Karim. And one of the WhatsApp says from Karim, "Good morning, Minister. This is dated 6th of May, 2025. Good morning, Minister. Just received a call from our guy, who is a service provider for our health risk management project. He's got very serious concerns. Apparently, you gave a directive to scrutinize his contract, and while they must stall as much as they can to release purchase orders until you guys come up with something that can warrant the termination of the service." Then Karim says to Nhlanhla, this is what he sent to you. And then Karim says to Nhlanhla, then he called, referring to you calling him. Any comment on that?
Now, I think I remember receiving such a message, but I didn't respond to such a message.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Honourable Chair and members. And thank you for your cooperation, Minister.
Thank you, Senator Council.
Honourable Malema.
No, Minister, there is a Suleiman who's a treasurer of the ANC or something in Mafikeng. Would that not refer to the same? Or put differently, do you know the Suleiman who's the treasurer of the ANC in Mafikeng, regional treasurer?
That's why I'm saying it's somebody I may have met, but I can't say this is a person who I would know or identify when it comes, because I may have met him not more than once.
Honourable Nhlanhla.
Thanks, Chair. No, the text read by the SC also suggests that there was a call made by the minister after the text. So just to confirm with him, did he call after having received the message from the guy mentioned? Thank you.
I don't recall making a call to him, but I may need to look at what you are talking about. But I remember getting a message.
Are you satisfied?
I'm fine, Chair. Thank you.
Honourable members, I want to thank you so much for your patience and your cooperation. It has taken us 2 days. You can imagine the honourable member who started questioning yesterday having to sit out for the rest of the day and the second day. I want to thank you so much for that, Honorable Minister. The last 2 days have been the longest of the days for you, and we want to thank you. We have arrived at the end of our proceedings, and we want to thank you for having stayed the course. It might not have been easy at some time, but you'll find ways to respond to the questions. And thank you for your resilience. SC and your team, the staff of Parliament, the members of the media. We are meeting again here tomorrow at 10 o'clock. The SC had requested that he may need about 4 to 5 hours to lead evidence, and members must come prepared immediately after we go past that phase. We are going to take questions. I don't know the number of members we will be able to take tomorrow, but I just want to advise you to be ready, time permitting. We are going to start with questions. Honorable Skosana, Honorable Malema.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure whether these air conditions works here, Chair. We are working under difficult. See, this aircon is hot here, Chair. I'm not sure whether the other venue is ready. If it's ready, we can go back there, Chair. Thank you.
The reason why I'm announcing this venue is because the other venue is not available.
Or we'll change the dress code. Yeah, it's really hot. We may have to change the dress code.
Let's be honest.
Honorable Malema.
Honorable Kosana is having hot flashes.
Chair, I was saying we hope as the proceedings proceed, we'll have an opportunity to also see junior counsels leading evidence. Thanks.
Yeah, no. It's an arrangement between the three of them. They will tell us when they are ready. It will be very good, especially, I think, SC, just to one day have... You remember we commended you for bringing 2 young South African females. Yes, this is the cause of justice that we champion. If we are conscious to the difficulties the women of this country have gone through.
We have discussed it, and it's entirely up to them to take up the opportunity. I suspect
we're not
we'll see
rushing
them in action next week.
We're not rushing you, SC, and Advocate Zika. We're not rushing you, Advocate Mkhwanazi. We just say at the time we're not saying immediately. We're saying at the time you feel you are ready. Just let us know that.
I'm discussing them along the lines of the ministers immediately.
Okay.
Next week, immediately.
Thank you so much. We have come to the end of today's proceedings.